A potato, in the eyes of the ordinary, is mere sustenance, yet to Li Shimin, it is a weapon against the Turks, a hammer against the aristocracy, and a stabilizing force for the people of the realm. Li Yu felt his blood surge with fervor. Seizing the moment to present another kernel, second uncle, this is maize. Its yield, while slightly inferior to the potato, is around 1,500 pounds per acre. The most crucial factor is that its stalks serve as exceptional fodder. Fodder? Li Shimin paused. Indeed, for horses and cattle. Li Yu pointed at the golden seeds, declaring, with this, the steeds of the Tang shall surpass those of the Turks in strength, and during winter, we shall no longer fear our horses losing condition. Moreover, corn ground into flour makes for an excellent staple, well suited for storage. Li Shimin inhaled deeply, suppressing the tumult within his chest. He turned to Li Yu, his expression grave. As if contemplating the future of the Tang, you err, I shall personally oversee this box of treasures. Not a single seed must be lost. This was precisely what his nephew sought to convey. Li Yu stated earnestly, these seeds are hybrid strains cultivated over countless generations, the first generation of divine seeds. Their number is limited, sufficient to cultivate approximately 20 acres. We must first focus on breeding. 20 acres. Li Shimin pondered for a moment, his gaze drifting to the night beyond the Grand Hall. Within the Imperial City, the Forbidden Garden is the most suitable location. It is guarded by the Imperial Guards at all times, serving as my private retreat, where, aside from myself and the Empress, no one dares to intrude. The Forbidden Garden. A private hunting ground and garden of the Tang royal family, boasts stunning scenery, and is indeed the most secure place in all of Chang'an. Come forth. Li Shimin called in a low voice. The commander of the Imperial Riders immediately entered the hall, kneeling on one knee. Convey my decree. Summon the Vice Minister of Agriculture to the palace tomorrow, and instruct the left gate guards to mobilize 300 elite soldiers to immediately secure the 20 acres surrounding the Ningyun Pavilion in the Forbidden Garden. Li Shimin paused momentarily, his tone imbued with the resolute authority of an emperor. Regardless of the exotic flowers or the pavilions and towers, have them razed to the ground overnight. I desire land, not scenery. The great Tang lacks gardens, but is in dire need of grain. Inform them that in 3 days' time, I expect to see that area transformed into the most fertile fields. The commander of the flying cavalry bowed deeply. I humbly receive your command. Your wisdom is unparalleled. Li Yu tactfully added a compliment, but felt compelled to include another point. The land must be deeply tilled and enriched. I possess a supplementary version of the essential techniques for the people, along with a comprehensive method for composting, which I shall forward to the Ministry of Agriculture. Agreed. At that moment, Li Shimin gazed at the box of seeds with an intensity surpassing that with which he regarded the Imperial Jade Seal. You err, continue. What else lies within this box? Li Yu smiled and opened a second box. If the first box represented the lifeblood of the nation, this one held the magic of civilization. Inside was a dark, glossy panel, a folded solar panel, alongside several hefty cubes, energy storage units. What is this? Inquired Empress Changsun, leaning in with curiosity, having never encountered such a sleek and profound material. Li Yu unfolded the solar panel and positioned it next to the flickering candlelight in the Grand Hall. Despite the absence of sunlight at that moment, he began to demonstrate its principles. My lord, you often say there cannot be two suns in the sky. Yet in my era, humanity learned to harness the sun. Li Yu pointed to the solar panel, explaining, this is called a solar panel. When placed under sunlight, it captures the sun's rays and converts them into a form of energy known as electricity, which is stored within this box. The concept of capturing the sun transcended Li Shimin's comprehension, yet he refrained from dismissing its absurdity, instead keenly grasping its core logic. You mean to say, harnessing the power of heaven for my use? Precisely. This is the pinnacle of understanding the natural world. Li Yu pressed the switch on the battery. With a snap, an LED camping light connected to the battery illuminated instantly. It was not the dim flicker of candlelight nor the pungent glow of oil lamps, but a pure, stable light as bright as day. The brilliance pierced the dimness of the Hall of Governance, illuminating both Li Shimin and Empress Changsun, revealing even the fine lines at the corners of her eyes. Empress Changsun instinctively shielded her eyes with her sleeve, overwhelmed by the intensity and purity of the light. Is this electricity? Li Shimin's voice carried a hint of reverence. No oil, no wax, only the light of the sun. Indeed, by day it absorbs sunlight, allowing it to shine throughout the night. Li Yu elucidated. My lord, henceforth, as you review memorials, you need not worry about straining your eyes. Li Shimin inhaled deeply. This product of ultimate understanding of the natural world instilled in him an almost infatuated yearning for the scientific advancements of Li Yu's era. He carefully took hold of the battery, cradling it as if it were a genuine miniature sun. This must be a national treasure, not to be displayed publicly, but reserved for the inner palace. Li Shimin swiftly concluded. Should such a marvel fall into the hands of the populace, it could easily incite superstitions and chaos. Yet within the royal confines, it would symbolize divine mandate. Li Yu nodded in agreement, then began to extract further items. This was truly the moment of sharing, or rather, the distribution of gifts. This is for you, my lord. He presented several labeled white vials. Uncle, have you been experiencing dizziness and neck stiffness in recent years? Do you feel as though the world spins when you become angry? Li Shimin was taken aback. Indeed, the imperial physician claims it to be a precursor to wind illness, suggesting only rest as a remedy, yet it cannot be completely cured. This is a blood pressure medication, Li Yu stated with a grave expression. Our Li family has a hereditary history of hypertension. Please keep this medicine. Take 1 tablet each morning to ensure your blood vessels remain intact and to prolong your life. Remember, do not cease taking the medication. Li Shimin solemnly accepted it. At his station, the greatest fear was the deterioration of his health. though the vial was small. It was akin to a life-preserving elixir. This is for your aunt. Chapter 31. Essential Tasks for Time Travelers. Part 3. A comprehensive set of Estee Lauder skincare products. With an array of bottles and jars. Aunt, this is the essence, and this is the eye cream. In later generations, women would readily spend half their fortune for the sake of their beauty. Liu opened a jar of face cream, and a delicate, sophisticated fragrance wafted through the air, swiftly overpowering the incense in the hall. If you apply this daily, your skin will be as smooth as a freshly shelled egg, ensuring that Uncle will struggle to look away. Empress Changsuen's cheeks flushed slightly as she shot an admonishing glance at Liu, yet her hands moved swiftly to accept the gift. The desire for beauty resides in all, especially when it comes to such ethereal treasures. Next, Liu, as if performing a magic trick, produced a multitude of colorful items. This is for Chengqian. Several large bottles of white liquid adorned with bone patterns. Calcium liquid. Liu sighed. I've heard that Chengqian sometimes struggles with walking, especially during his growth spurts. It could be that he is growing too rapidly for his bones to keep up. Those antiquated physicians would likely prescribe some ineffective tiger bone soup. This, however, will supplement his calcium, strengthen his bones, and alleviate his leg pain. Upon hearing this, Li Shimin's expression shifted. Chengqian's leg ailment had long been a source of concern for him, and he was surprised that Liu had taken this into account as well. This is for Qingke Li Tai. A colorful cube, Rubik's Cube. Qingke possesses an exceptionally sharp mind, and ordinary books are insufficient for him. This is called a Rubik's Cube. It may appear simple, yet it contains countless permutations. Let him engage with it, ponder formulas, and sharpen his spatial reasoning, which is far more beneficial than indulging in the intrigues of court. And this is for Ku Di, Li Ku. Liu unveiled a globe, roughly the size of a soccer ball, covered in vibrant patterns. He gently flicked the globe, setting it into a spin. Uncle, this represents the earth beneath our feet. It is round, round. Both Li Shimin and Empress Changsun exclaimed in unison. Indeed. Observe, here lies the Tang dynasty. Liu pointed to the red region, then gestured to the vast areas nearby. This is the Turkic region, this is Tibet, and here, we have Europe, and here, the Americas, and here, Australia. Look how expansive the world is. Ku Di is valiant and daring, with half of his lineage stemming from a previous dynasty. He feels constrained in Chang'an, thus. Let him possess this globe to explore the world beyond, to understand that apart from his position, there are vast territories awaiting his conquest. Li Shimin gazed intently at the spinning globe, his breath quickening. For the first time, he intuitively grasped the vastness of the world. That diminutive city of Chang'an occupied but a small corner of the globe. In the eyes of Li Shimin, a wildfire ignited. If the world is so vast, my sons, why must you fight to the death over a mere position? Go seize it. Go claim it. I shall provide them with soldiers. Liu chuckled. This was the effect he desired. This was intended for Ji Nu, Li Ji. Liu continued to present various building blocks from the LEGO architectural series. Ji Nu, though steady in temperament, possessed a hint of introversion. These blocks could construct houses, bridges, and even palaces. Engaging with them would cultivate his focus and architectural skills. In the future, the infrastructure powerhouse of the Tang dynasty might very well be him. This was for Chang Lu, a delicate crystal music box. When the winding key was turned, the crisp and melodious tune of Castle in the Sky flowed forth, as a tiny figure danced gracefully within. This was for Xiao CZ, a set of 24 vibrant watercolor pens. CZ loved to draw, yet the soft brush and monotonous ink did not suffice. With these vivid colors, she could portray the grandeur of the Tang dynasty in a spectrum of hues. The remainder comprised children's picture books for his other younger siblings. Liu gestured towards the thick stack of books, filled with stories and illustrations, ensuring they would learn from an early age that the moon does not harbor Chang'e, but merely bears rugged stones, and that the heavens do not contain Lei Gong and Dianmu, but rather positive and negative charges. Finally, Liu retrieved several books from the bottom of the box, his expression turning unusually solemn. Uncle, these books are classified. Fundamentals of Physics, Introductory Chemistry, The Barefoot Doctor's Manual, A Friend to Dual-Use Talent, and Militia Training Manual. Lowering his voice, he continued. These books must not be seen by anyone outside of your most trusted confidants. Trusting Liu, Li Shimin swiftly removed his outer robe, wrapping the books securely. He glanced towards the direction where Wang De had been taken away, already formulating a plan. I have made my calculations regarding this matter, murmured Li Shimin, his tone chilling. Once Wang De awakens, I shall command him to select a few unblemished eunuchs from the Yeting Bureau to meticulously transcribe these texts within the secret chamber of Ganlu Palace. These individuals shall never set foot outside that chamber for the rest of their lives. The originals shall be sealed. No one is permitted to touch them, except for me. After distributing the gifts, gazing upon the collection of rare treasures and the carefully prepared offerings for each child, Empress Changsun could no longer contain her tears. She looked at Liu's youthful yet slightly haggard face, recalling every word he had spoken to provide calcium to Chengqian, to entertain Qingke, to guide Ku Er, to amuse Ji Nu, and to extend life to Erlang. He truly held this entire family in his heart. Suddenly, Empress Changsun turned toward Li Shimin, who was engrossed with a globe, her voice choked with emotion, laced with an uncommon fierceness and accusation. Erlang. Look closely. Really look. Li Shimin was startled, nearly dropping the globe in his hands. Guanyin maid, what is the matter? Yuer has risked everything for this family, for the Tang dynasty. He even thought of CZ's paintbrush and remembered your headaches. As she wiped her tears, her tone filled with sorrow and indignation, she pointed at Li Shimin. But what about you? Just a few days ago, within this grand hall, you had your sword pointed at him. You were ready to take his life. As an elder, do you not possess a heart of flesh and blood? Can you fathom how desolate you felt at that moment? As she spoke with deep emotion, tears streamed down Empress Changsun's face like a broken thread. This was not merely a moment of sentiment. It was also a profound sense of dread. Had Li Shimin truly acted on that impulse, the myriad miracles before them, the future of the Tang dynasty, and the warmth of this family would have all dissipated into mere illusions. Li Shimin was taken aback. He gazed at the scattered gifts, then at his weeping wife, and finally at the somewhat bewildered Li Yu standing nearby. A wave of shame overwhelmed this illustrious emperor. Indeed, how could he have been so foolish? How could he have been so filled with doubt? He prided himself on his wisdom and martial prowess, yet he nearly extinguished the life of his own nephew, jeopardizing the hopes of the Tang dynasty. Slowly, Li Shimin set down the globe and approached Li Yu. After a prolonged silence, he took a deep breath, extended his hands, and firmly rested them on Li Yu's shoulders. The tremor in Li Shimin's voice was palpable, and his eyes glistened with unshed tears. It was the fault of your second uncle. I was blinded by foolishness. I never anticipated that you possessed such a pure heart. He fixed his gaze intently upon Li Yu's eyes, speaking with deliberate weight, swearing to the heavens. Today, I declare before the heavens and the earth. From this day forth, you, Li Yu, shall be regarded as my own son. In this Tang dynasty, no one shall dare to wrong you except for me. Even Chao and the others must treat you with the respect due to an elder brother. This solemn vow resonated powerfully within the hall. Li Yu felt a swell of emotion, his nose tingling. Yet, he dreaded such emotionally charged moments, so he sniffed and feigned nonchalance, teasing, a son? Second uncle. Why does that sound so familiar to me? He recoiled slightly, a mischievous grin on his face. Please, don't emulate grandfather. If you were to pull a Xuanwu gate on me, I fear my frail form could not withstand it. If that were the case, it would be safer if you regarded me as a distant nephew rather than a son. At this remark, the atmosphere instantly froze. Unexpectedly, Li Shimin was more amused than angered. You rascal. He chuckled, playfully kicking Li Yu's backside, neither too soft nor too harsh. Why must you bring that up? Are you intent on provoking me? Seeing this, Empress Changsun could not help but laugh through her tears. Erlang, you truly are something else. In all of Tang, aside from that stubborn mule, Wei Zhong, only you dares to speak to you so candidly and sincerely. You must never lose your temper and hurt him, otherwise, I shall hold you accountable. Li Shimin rubbed his temples and chuckled helplessly. All right. I swear that even if this rascal were to set the Tai Chi Hall ablaze, I would first inquire if he felt cold. Does that suffice? The three of them exchanged hearty laughter, filling the hall with a long mist, genuine familial warmth. Suddenly, an unusual sound interrupted this tender moment. It emanated from Li Yu's stomach. He rubbed his belly and said with a wry smile, second uncle, I'm quite hungry. In my haste to return, I didn't even have a sip of water. Fetch the meal. Immediately, Li Shimin waved his hand exuberantly, feeling uplifted. Bring forth the finest banquet from the imperial kitchen. I wish to toast and celebrate with you. Chapter 32, Essential Tasks for Travelers, Part 4, in the side hall. 2/4 of an hour later, a grand round table made of mahogany was adorned with an array of dishes purportedly representing the grand banquet of the Tang dynasty. Li Yu surveyed the spread before him, his brows knitted together in dismay. Was this truly the imperial feast? Steamed lamb, boiled mutton, roasted lamb chops, and lamb soup, everything was lamb. The most concerning aspect was the odor. Before even picking up his chopsticks, an overpowering, pungent smell assaulted his senses. The Tang dynasty did not have the custom of castrating rams, nor did it employ the wonders of cumin or chili to mask the gamey aroma. The so-called seasonings were merely numbing Sichuan peppercorns, cinnamon, and bitter coarse salt. Due to the lack of culinary refinement, even the royal kitchen could not procure quality salt. Yet, Li Shimin was in high spirits, personally serving Li Yu a piece of the most esteemed lamb tail fat. Do give this a try. This is the small-tailed sheep tribute from Long Yu, tender and juicy. I seldom indulge in it myself. Li Yu gazed at the quivering, glistening fat, his stomach churning uncomfortably. He forced himself to take a small bite. It was rich, gamey, salty, and bitter, a sensation akin to having a mouthful of raw lamb fat. So greasy it made him want to crash against a wall. Unable to contain himself, he turned away to retch quietly. Li Shimin and Empress Changsun paused mid-air with their chopsticks, their expressions mingling embarrassment and astonishment. Do you eat this regularly, second uncle? Li Yu rinsed his mouth with a large gulp of water, his face reflecting utter disillusionment. The chefs in the imperial kitchen were indeed among the finest in the realm. Li Shimin, somewhat indignant, remarked, but the lamb is fresh and tender. Second uncle, you simply have not tasted quality fare, Li Yu sighed. Is this what you deem fresh and tender? There's no masking the gamey taste, nor enhancing the flavor. The cooking methods are limited to boiling or roasting. Such a noble creature has met an unjust fate. Food is paramount to the people, Li Yu continued. If both the common folk and the emperor partake in such fare, where then lies the sense of happiness? Rising from his seat, he declared, I shall not partake further. Second uncle aunt, allow me to introduce you to the miraculous transformation of the mundane into the extraordinary, the marvels of modern convenience foods. Turning back to his luggage, he rummaged through it with great enthusiasm. With a series of slaps, 3 items landed on the table, 3 packets of braised beef instant noodles, 3 sticks of instant noodle accompaniments, ham sausages, and 3 small packets of spicy strips. Remove this pig's fodder from the table. Bring me a pot of boiling water. Li Shimin's expression twitched at the mention of pig's fodder. This is my royal meal. Nevertheless, observing Li Yu's confident demeanor and the vibrant packaging sparked his curiosity. Soon, the boiling water arrived. Li Yu deftly tore open the instant noodle packets, placing them in a bowl, adding the sauce and seasoning. The moment the sauce met the hot water, an overwhelming and irresistible aroma filled the entire hall. It was a complex fragrance, reminiscent of the spices and oils used in braised pork. Li Shimin's nostrils flared as he involuntarily swallowed, his eyes fixated on the steaming bowl before him. What kind of seasoning is this? It is utterly enticing. Li Shimin marveled at the bowl, his gaze entranced. Li Yu, unfazed by his uncle's reaction, skillfully opened the ham sausages, tossing one into each bowl. He then tore open the spicy strips, placing them in the center of the table. Cover it, and let it steep for 3 minutes. For Li Shimin, those 3 minutes were nothing short of agonizing. He gazed intently at the bowl of instant noodles, his throat involuntarily swallowing as the aroma wafted through the air, enticing his hunger like a hook. With a decisive motion, Li Yu lifted the lid. A plume of white steam rose, intensifying the fragrance tenfold. The vibrant red broth was adorned with dehydrated vegetables and morsels of meat, while the noodles curled elegantly, glistening like jewels. Here you go, second uncle. This is braised beef noodles. Li Shimin could no longer maintain his imperial composure. He clumsily mimicked Li Yu's actions, awkwardly lifting a bundle of noodles with his chopsticks. He slurped them up, finding them delightfully smooth and springy. The rich broth burst upon his palate, the flavors within unlike anything tasted in the Tang dynasty, overwhelming his senses. Li Shimin exclaimed, his words muddled. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. Why are these noodles so resilient? This broth is even more exquisite than mutton soup. He took another bite of the ham sausage, its soft and savory texture a sublime union of starch and meat, an epitome of fine sausage in the Tang era. Next, he seized a vibrant red spicy strip. Crunch. Sweet, spicy, salty, and savory filled his mouth. Beads of sweat formed on Li Shimin's forehead as he continued to eat voraciously, utterly exhilarated. By the heavens, this flavor is simply divine. Though Empress Changsun maintained a graceful demeanor, she too consumed her food with remarkable speed. She had a particular fondness for the ham sausage. This meat is exquisitely tender, devoid of any fishy taste, and requires no bones to be spat out. Before long, Li Shimin's bowl was emptied. He lifted it to his lips, tilting his head back to drink the remnants of spiced broth, leaving nothing behind. Setting the bowl down, he even extended his tongue, somewhat regretfully licking the corners of his mouth, almost tempted to lick the bowl clean, but reason held him back. With a satisfied sigh, Li Shimin slumped in his chair, rubbing his stomach. You err, after tasting these noodles, that imperial cuisine truly seems like swine fodder. Suddenly, he straightened, a spark of inspiration igniting in his eyes. You err, how difficult is it to make such a dish? If we could produce it in large quantities as military rations, wouldn't every soldier in our Tang dynasty enjoy such delicacies? Their morale would undoubtedly soar. Li Yu shook his head. The process of making instant noodles is far too intricate. The Tang dynasty cannot manage it for now. However, Li Yu's tone shifted. Though we cannot create instant noodles, we can revolutionize our cooking methods. He requested paper and pen from an inner servant and sketched out a round-bottomed iron pot. This is called a wok. Stir-fry? Indeed, with high heat and oil. Rapid stir-frying locks in the flavors of the food. With just a bit of meat, an entire pot of dishes can emanate a tantalizing aroma, Li Yu explained. But this pot is particular. It must be made of wrought iron, thinly forged for quick heating. Li Shimin scrutinized the drawing, envisioning the scene of an iron workshop. Thin yet resilient wrought iron, he pondered, tracing his finger over the design. If we can forge such a pot, it would elevate our capabilities in armor production to a new level. He handed the drawing to his trusted eunuch. Deliver this to the Xiaofu Supervisory Office. Command the finest blacksmiths to fire up the furnace overnight. According to this design, produce not just 2, but 10 pots for me. Inform them that this is a vital military instrument, to be delivered by dawn. Li Yu chuckled. Such was Li Shimin, elevating even a pot to the status of a national treasure. Second uncle, having the pot is not enough. Tomorrow, I shall personally take to the kitchen and prepare a truly celestial feast for you, ensuring you savor every bite. Really? Li Shimin and Empress Changsun's eyes sparkled simultaneously, radiating the light of gourmands. Mark my words. Very well. I shall seek you out after tomorrow's morning court, Li Shimin exclaimed, laughter echoing as he felt an unprecedented exhilaration. Chapter 33. The crucial iron cauldron in the southeast corner of the imperial city, within the Ministry of Imperial Granaries, flames soared into the heavens, casting a dark red hue across the sky. Everyone, rally your spirits. Should anyone falter, I shall cast them into the furnace, commanded Zhang Yajiu, the deputy of the ministry and the foremost swordsmith of the Tang dynasty. At that moment, he stood bare-chested, his bronze skin glistening with sweat that flowed in rivulets along his muscular contours. In his hands, he wielded a pair of heavy iron tongs weighing 40 pounds, his face smeared with soot. Before the immense smelting furnace, he addressed the assembly of top artisans, all equally bare-skinned and drenched in perspiration. His Majesty has issued a decree. This is a national treasure of great significance. It pertains to the destiny of the Tang Empire. We must deliver before dawn. If we fail to meet the deadline, the reputation of our ministry will be irreparably tarnished. Zhang Yajiu cast a glance at the damp corner of the blueprint in his grasp, which illustrated a circular, deeply concave object flanked by 2 symmetrical handles. The design was simple yet profound. Master, a young craftsman wiped the sweat from his brow, puzzled. This looks like a shield, but why is it so thin? Moreover, if this curvature is meant to deflect blades, it seems ill-suited to absorb impact, resembling more of a bag. You know nothing. Zhang Yajiu smacked the apprentice on the forehead, his eyes wide with intensity. If His Majesty declares it a crucial artifact, then it is indeed so. This is the very design drawn by the newly appointed Prince of Yu. It cannot be an ordinary item. He pointed at the annotations on the blueprint. his gaze penetrating as if he could see through the fog of war. Observe the specifications. It must conduct heat rapidly, be thin yet resilient, and distribute flames evenly. What does this imply? It signifies that this object is intended to withstand fire assaults. Perhaps it serves as a divine shield mounted on chariots, designed to repel enemy incendiaries. This is to be equipped for the Xuanjiao army to charge into battle. In his mind's eye, he envisioned a fierce confrontation. The Tang soldiers wielding this round-bottomed divine shield, charging through flames while repelling enemy oil back upon them. For the Tang dynasty, for His Majesty, bring forth the celestial meteorite iron we intend to use for crafting the imperial sword. Incorporate it. What, master? That is what you have preserved for a decade to forge the legendary sword. Enough of your prattle. Good steel must be utilized for the blade. And even more so for this divine shield that protects our homeland. Ignite the furnace. 6 robust men simultaneously activated the enormous bellows, and the flames transformed from crimson to azure, the temperature soaring. Dozens of the Tang's finest artisans, skilled in the craft of forging weapons and armor, now directed all their artistry towards a single cauldron. Clang, clang, clang. The relentless rhythm of hammers resounded like war drums, echoing throughout the night. This curvature must be smooth, like the vault of the heavens. Even the slightest imperfection would cause boiling oil to splatter and injure. This thickness must be uniform, as delicate as a cicada's wing, yet as hard as rock. Even if it were but the thickness of a single sheet of paper, it must withstand relentless forging. Through the entire night, the flames blazed on, and the sound of hammers never ceased. As the first light of dawn graced the east, 10 blades shimmered with a cold, ethereal azure hue, their surfaces adorned with exquisite cloud patterns wrought by meticulous hammering. Indeed, a testament to the artistry of intense forging. The sound they produced was as crisp as the melodious notes of a dragon's song, heralding the birth of a divine shield. Zhang Yajiu caressed the smooth, mirror-like surface of the shield's base, his fingertips brushing against the metal's frigid resilience, his eyes brimming with a fervent obsession and pride. What a splendid shield. Should it rest upon my breast, it would surely withstand 1,000 arrows and defy the elements. Truly, the wisdom of His Majesty shines forth. And the talent of Prince Yu is unparalleled. In the Tai Chi Hall, the morning bell tolled, summoning the officials to court. The atmosphere of today's audience felt somewhat peculiar. Li Shimin, who typically relished engaging his ministers in spirited debates about the state and the world, now seemed restless, shifting uncomfortably upon the dragon throne as if a thorn pricked his seat. The lingering taste of instant noodles from the previous night clawed at his stomach, reminiscent of a beguiling sprite that had tormented him throughout the night. At long last, dawn arrived. Yet his mind remained ensnared by the vision of the grand feast depicted by Li Yu. Your Majesty, regarding the relief funds for the drought-stricken Hunan province, Fang Xianling began, holding his tablet aloft, his expression serious as he prepared to deliver an extensive discourse. Li Shimin, however, swiftly interrupted, his words tumbling forth with astonishing speed, tinged with a hint of impatience. Fang, I have full confidence in your capabilities. Approved. The Ministry of Revenue shall immediately allocate the silver. No further discussion required. Next. Fang Xianling stood dumbfounded, his mouth agape, unable to close it for a considerable time. Typically, such matters would prompt the emperor to meticulously extract details, often scrutinizing the allocation of every single coin. Why this sudden decisiveness today? As the Minister of Rites began to step forward, Your Majesty, concerning the ceremonial vessels for next month's sacrifice to heaven, everything remains as it is. The ancestral laws must not be altered. Do not change it. Next. Li Shimin waved his hand dismissively, as if swatting away flies. Wei Zheng furrowed his brow, his renowned, keen gaze scrutinizing Li Shimin. He sensed that the emperor's demeanor was off, restless, overly restless. As an emperor, how could one be so distracted? Your Majesty, Wei Zheng stepped forward, his voice resonant as a temple bell, evidently prepared to commence a fervent admonition. A ruler should be as steadfast as a mountain, even when faced with calamity. His countenance must remain unperturbed. Your Majesty, today's restlessness betrays a trivialization of state affairs. Li Shimin felt a shiver run down his spine. Here it comes. The torrent of Wei's admonishments. Under normal circumstances, he would humbly accept counsel, even feigning a demeanor of acquiescence, despite inwardly cursing. But today? No. He could not afford to delay. His hunger emanated from the very core of his being. Minister Wei, Li Shimin surged to his feet, exuding a righteous fervor. His gaze resolute as if prepared to storm a fortress. I know what you intend to articulate. However, I have pressing matters today, matters of utmost significance. I must inspect the newly forged military apparatus by the Xiaofu supervisor. This concerns the safety of the realm, for one cannot govern without nourishment, and my urgency is palpable. Delay could mean losing our advantage. Military apparatus? Wei Zheng hesitated. Since the matter had escalated to a national level, he could not impede it. After all, the emperor was indeed a proponent of martial affairs, and last night's activities at the Xiaofu supervisor were undeniably significant. Very well, Your Majesty should prioritize state matters. Wei Zheng conceded, retreating. Dismissed. Dismissed. Li Shimin felt as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Before the echoes of dismissal faded, he swept into the inner hall like a whirlwind, moving with such swiftness that even the attendants had yet to grasp their pens, leaving a group of ministers exchanging glances, still pondering what extraordinary weapon the emperor had devised to provoke such urgency. Chapter 34. The appearance of little Zizi meanwhile, in the side hall of the Li Zhongdian. Li Yu was troubled, staring at his suitcase. Starch, starch. He rummaged through the suitcase, ultimately resigned to the fact that he had indeed forgotten to purchase any starch. In this era, ready-made water starch was not available, and grinding mung bean or potato flour was far too time-consuming. Never mind, can a living person be suffocated by urine? Liu picked up several eggs, skillfully separating the egg whites. Without starch to retain moisture, he would use egg whites to seal in the oil, and through repeated beating, achieve a gelatinous texture in the meat. This is known as ancient technique. Having resolved the issue of tenderizing the meat, another challenge arose concerning ingredients. Old Wang. Liu called out towards the door. Wang De, sporting two enormous dark circles under his eyes, hurried in. Your Highness, the old servant is here. Will you go? Arrange for a few nimble eunuchs to head to the West Market. Liu recalled, to the shops of those foreign merchants, and seek a particular flower. A flower? Wang De was bewildered. Does your Highness desire flowers? Not for admiration. I want to eat. Liu gestured. It's called honey tsong. Or perhaps a peculiar flower from the western regions, round in shape, with either purple or white skin. When peeled layer by layer, it has a potent flavor. And cutting it will bring tears to one's eyes. It likely looks something like this. Liu sketched a rough drawing of an onion on paper. Wang De stared at the drawing for a long time before a look of realization dawned upon him. Oh, the old servant understands. This is hui tsong. It seems a few plants are grown in the corners of the imperial garden, said to be exotic flowers offered from the western regions. The flower blooms into a large white ball, but can the root be eaten? Indeed, it is quite edible. Liu's eye sparkled. Since it exists in the imperial garden, there is no need to go to the West Market. Let us just dig it up. Take as much as possible. Dig up from the imperial garden? Wang De shrank back. But your Highness, if the Emperor inquires, just say it was my instruction. Hurry. Yes, your Highness. Aside from onions, Liu recalled the essential peanuts for Kung Pao chicken. Peanuts had yet to arrive in the Tang dynasty and would not be introduced for several centuries. Without peanuts. Liu stroked his chin, his gaze falling upon a plate of dried fruits on the table. Walnuts, referred to as Chong Tao in the Tang dynasty. Perfect. Liu exclaimed, grabbing a handful of walnuts. Old Wang, have someone crack these open and extract the kernels. Once fried, they are even more fragrant than peanuts and beneficial for the brain. This will be Kung Pao chicken with walnuts, the supreme luxurious version. With everything prepared, Liu was in the kitchen handling the chicken. Suddenly, he sensed something soft moving by his leg. He paused, looking down. There stood a small, exquisitely carved figure clad in a pink dress, staring up at him with a pair of big, watery eyes, curiously observing him. It was Princess Li Mingda of the Tang dynasty, affectionately known as Little Zizi. At about 3 or 4 years old, she clutched a cloth tiger in her hand. A droplet of saliva glistening at the corner of her mouth, evidently enticed by the aroma of lard being rendered. As their gazes met, the atmosphere instantly transformed into one of innocence and charm. Whom do you seek, duck? Little Zizi tilted her head, her voice sweet and tender, carrying the unique softness of the Tang dialect. Liu's heart melted in that instant. As a history enthusiast, who could possibly resist the charms of the beloved little cub from the Tang dynasty? Even the hardest of hearts would soften at her presence. He crouched down, aligning his gaze with hers, and gently pinched her chubby little cheeks, marveling at their delightful texture. I am your pot, he jested in her playful tone. Pot. The little cub blinked in confusion, counting on her fingers. I have a big pot, Chung Qian, a green sparrow pot, and a 3-pot. But I've never seen you before. I am a pot that fell from the heavens, he whimsically proclaimed, determined to prepare delicious treats for her. Delicious? Upon hearing this word, her eyes instantly sparkled like 2 little lanterns. She sniffed and pointed at the meat on the cutting board. Is that meat? Not only meat, but also sweets, he replied, standing up to call out, Old Wang, where have you been? Come here quickly. Wang De, who had been directing a young eunuch to peel onions, while weeping, rushed in upon hearing the summons, hastily wiping his tears. Your Highness, what is it? Did you cut your hand? Go, open my suitcase. In the top compartment, there's a bag with a picture of a rabbit on it. Bring it here. Upon hearing the mention of the treasured box, Wang De's expression turned solemn. That box was a forbidden item. Only the Emperor and Empress were permitted to touch it. He alone, as the chief steward, had the authority to handle it with Li Yu's permission. In a short while, Wang De returned, cradling a bag of white rabbit milk candy, as if it were a sacred edict. Li Yu unwrapped one, the translucent rice paper shimmering in the sunlight. Open wide. The little cub obediently opened her mouth, resembling a hungry little bird. As the candy melted in her mouth, the rich milky aroma enveloped her senses. Its sweetness far surpassing the impure syrup or overly sweet honey of the Tang dynasty. It was the pinnacle of industrially refined sweetness. Her eyes widened in delight. Her cheeks puffed up, and she squinted happily, her little hands flailing in excitement. Sweet, sweet, so good, so very good. The candy vanished swiftly, and the little cub gazed longingly at the bag in Li Yu's hand, tugging at his clothing and shaking it. I want more. Her pitiful demeanor could soften even the hardest of hearts. Yet, Li Yu tucked the bag away, maintaining a stern expression, though a smile lingered at the corners of his mouth. No, you must be good. This candy is delicious, but if you eat too much, it will harm your little teeth. You can only have one a day. With a pout, the little cub looked ready to unleash a flood of tears. However, Li Yu quickly added, but if you call me something sweet and make me happy, perhaps tomorrow you can have an extra piece? Instantly, her tears receded, and she embraced Li Yu's leg, exuberantly exclaiming, Pot, good pot, the best pot in the world. Ah, what a good girl. Li Yu lifted the little cub and placed her on his shoulders. Let us go. The pot will take you to cook. You shall be my general and command me while I stir fry. Hooray, charge, charge. The little one treated Li Yu's head as if it were a horse's mane, her tiny hands clutching his ears as she squealed with delight. At that moment, at the entrance of the side hall, the elegantly adorned Empress Changsun stood quietly, observing this playful scene. Rather than intervening to put an end to this unruly behavior, a smile graced her lips, her gaze soft and gentle like a serene spring brook. Meanwhile, in the distance, the recently arrived Li Shimin halted in his tracks. He gazed at his audacious daughter, who dared to ride on the neck of a prince, and at his nephew, who laughed foolishly without a hint of pretentiousness. The tension that had gripped his face all morning finally melted away. This young lad certainly knew how to charm children. Li Shimin let out a hum, though his tone was laced with a tinge of envious acidity. Even the little one had never ridden upon my neck. Chapter 35. Once again reducing Wang de Terre's uncle. Aunt, you've arrived just in time, Li Yu exclaimed, bearing the weight of the little one. Not bothering with formalities, as per their agreed-upon terms, he pointed toward the stove. Have the pots arrived? Yes. Several craftsmen, their faces flushed, entered carrying 2 grand cooking vessels. Li Yu gently set the little one down and entrusted her to Empress Changsun. Aunt, please keep an eye on this little rascal. The smoke is quite thick at the moment. We wouldn't want her to get burned. He approached the 2 pots and struck one with his hand. The sound resonated, clear and melodious. Is this truly a pot forged from 100 refinements? It is 1,000 times superior to the cast iron pot I purchased from that online store. Old Wang, clear the area. All non-essential personnel out. He commanded the royal chefs to stay back, leaving only 2 to assist him, wishing to keep his unique culinary techniques from prying eyes. In truth, he simply preferred not to be observed. Soon, the kitchen was left with just Li Yu, Wang De, and 2 apprehensive royal chefs. Li Shimin and Empress Changsun settled at a nearby table, where tea had already been prepared. Let us begin, Li Yu declared, his expression sharpening, his aura commanding. The first step, seasoning the pot. A new pot must be heated over a high flame to ensure it is thoroughly tempered. Once completed, Li Yu embarked upon his culinary journey. A generous scoop of pig fat was added to the pot, and as the temperature rose, wisps of blue smoke began to rise. With a sizzle, Li Yu introduced the marinated chicken cubes, previously coated with egg white, into the hot oil. The chicken quickly spread apart, turning pale in the bubbling oil. With a deft flick of his iron spatula, the chicken pieces scattered like snowflakes. Is this the slippery oil technique? Such extravagance. The royal chefs watched, hearts racing. In the Tang dynasty, oil was precious. Utilizing it in such a manner was utterly wasteful. Drain it. Li Yu skillfully lifted the chicken from the oil. His movements fluid and graceful. Now came the piece de resistance, Kung Pao chicken with walnuts. With the base oil heated, Li Yu seized a handful of vibrant red dried chilies and a pinch of Sichuan peppercorns. The moment the chilies hit the oil, an unprecedented wave of fiercely aggressive spiciness erupted, mingling with the numbing fragrance of the peppercorns, exploding within the confined space. Cough, cough, cough. From their distant vantage point, Li Shimin and Empress Changsun were caught off guard, choking on the acrid smoke that filled the air, tears streaming down their faces. What is this? So pungent? Li Shimin inquired, waving his sleeve, yet oddly, amidst the irritation, an enticing aroma lingered, awakening his palate. Fear not. This is the essence of flavor. Li Yu poured the diced chicken into the pan. Following that, he added slices of scallion, ginger, and garlic. The meticulously prepared sweet and sour sauce, which in this era could only be concocted using vinegar and syrup, along with the crispy, fried walnut halves. Each ingredient introduced with precision. With a swift motion, Li Yu grasped the handle of the pan, giving it a vigorous shake. Boom. The contact of the oil with the flames unleashed a crimson fire dragon that soared upwards, reaching nearly 3 feet high. The sheer visual spectacle was nothing short of miraculous to the Tang dynasty inhabitants who were still accustomed to simmering meat in clay pots. It was akin to sorcery. The water's boiling, Wang De exclaimed, nearly spilling the basin he held in fright. Silence. Fan the flames. Li Yu laughed maniacally amidst the blaze. His spatula dancing in the air, the chicken leaping in the flames, enveloped evenly in the sauce, emanating a tantalizing mahogany sheen. Li Shimin was utterly entranced. His eyes, accustomed to the sights of warfare, were now completely captivated by the culinary fervor before him. This was not mere cooking. It was the taming of a fire dragon. Out of the pan, with one final shake, the flames subsided. A plate of vibrant, glistening Kung Pao chicken, exuding the aromatic essence of sweet and spicy lychee, was carefully placed on the table. Following closely was the second dish, mapo tofu. Although lacking doubanjiang, Li Yu ingeniously substituted it with minced hot pot base, adding a touch of fermented black beans. The red oil bubbled as the delicate tofu danced within, thickening the sauce. He sprinkled it with ground Sichuan pepper and a handful of green garlic sprouts. The dish was a symphony of flavors, spicy, crispy, tender, and fresh. The harmonious blend of red, white, and green painted a picturesque tableau. The final dish, stir-fried onions with meat, appeared deceptively simple yet required meticulous attention to timing. A few prized onions from the imperial garden were sliced with care. As they met the hot oil, the unique pungency of the onions was instantly released, swiftly transforming into a rich sweetness under high heat. The sliced meat was introduced, and the wok was tossed vigorously. Li Yu's hands moved with unparalleled speed, ensuring the onions remained crisp and sweet before they softened. A mere pinch of salt and a dash of soy sauce, known at the time as clear sauce, was all that was needed for seasoning, bringing forth the ingredient's intrinsic flavors. 3 dishes, 2 meat and 1 vegetarian, all completed. As the dishes were presented on the table, their enchanting aromas filled the air, captivating the senses. Yet, Li Yu did not immediately sit down to feast. Instead, he took the largest celadon bowl and, under the astonished gazes of all present, including Li Shimin, began to generously serve himself with a spoon. Splash! A generous scoop of Kung Pao chicken, brimming with meat and walnut halves, was ladled out without hesitation. Splash. A hefty spoonful of mapo tofu, the red oil enveloping the tofu, was equally enticing. Splash. A mound of meat slices from the stir-fried onions was piled high. The bowl overflowed with a vibrant array of colors, glistening with oil. Li Yu then extended the bowl to Wang De, who stood by, salivating yet hesitant to step forward. He casually added 2 freshly steamed white buns into Wang De's hands. Old Wang, here you go. After these past few days of running about with me, facing time travel and hunger, you deserve the first bite. Wang De was taken aback, hastily retreating and waving his hands, his face paling as he suddenly knelt down, his head knocking against the ground with a resounding thud. This is absolutely unacceptable. Your Highness, you are of noble birth, and with the Emperor and Empress still present. I am but a servant, a mere slave. How could I dare let you take this? Enough with the nonsense, Li Yu asserted, forcefully pressing the bowl into Wang De's hands, his tone commanding yet imbued with warmth. In my presence, there are no distinctions between master and servant. If one works, one deserves to eat. Consume it. Wang De cradled the steaming bowl, helplessly glancing at Li Shimin, his eyes filled with trepidation. Observing this scene, Li Shimin's gaze shifted slightly. Were it anyone else, such actions might be perceived as bribery or a transgression, an attempt to curry favor within the palace. Yet, in Li Yu's case, he sensed a child of compassion and loyalty. Take it, Li Shimin spoke softly, his tone laced with gentleness and approval. It is a gift from Prince Yu. So you shall accept it. You have indeed endured much these past few days. Henceforth, apart from the commands of the Emperor and Empress, you shall also heed the words of Prince Yu. Wang De trembled all over, tears welling in his eyes as he stammered. Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you, Empress. Thank you, Your Highness. Li Yu, observing Wang De's heartfelt emotion, suddenly turned to Li Shimin with earnestness. Second uncle, there is something I must express. Previously, I regarded old Wang merely as a eunuch serving me, but upon returning to the modern era, I have come to understand him better. Li Yu's voice rose slightly, filled with genuine respect. In the modern world, despite facing unfathomable wonders that terrified him, he never faltered in his duties, especially during the grain purchasing venture. Pausing to recollect, a glimmer of emotion flickered in his eyes when he was at that seed shop, hearing that the potatoes could yield 4 to 5,000 jin per mu. You should have seen him, second uncle. In that bustling market, before so many strangers, he knelt down. He clutched my legs, weeping uncontrollably, imploring me to buy. He vowed that even if it meant selling himself or sacrificing his life, he would ensure the grain seeds returned to the Tang. Li Yu inhaled deeply, looking earnestly at Li Shimin. I have never known hunger, and thus cannot fathom its bitterness. Yet, old Wang's kneeling enlightened me to the plight of countless citizens of the Tang who are struggling on the brink of starvation. Second uncle, this old Wang is not merely your head of personal guards. He embodies the spirit of a true Tang citizen who cares deeply for the people. His words resonated powerfully. With a resounding clap, Li Shimin struck the table, his gaze piercing as he regarded the kneeling Wang De, slowly nodding with admiration. Excellent. A true son of the Tang. Wang De, I have not misjudged you. Your kneeling embodies the fortitude of the Tang. To Wang De, this affirmation carried far more weight than any material reward. Trembling, he held the bowl tightly, kneeling fervently before Li Shimin and Li Yu, his forehead striking the ground with a forceful thud, the sound echoing with determination. Blood seeping from his skin. Your Majesty, the tears streamed down Wang De's face, mingling with his runny nose, rendering him a picture of utter disarray. Yet, his sincerity was profoundly moving. I am but a flawed man, devoid of children or family in this lifetime. Yet today, Your Highness has recognized my contributions, and Your Majesty has praised me as a loyal subject of the Tang dynasty. My heart, oh my heart. Wang De pointed to his chest, weeping like a child yet smiling radiantly, a manifestation of his soul's redemption. My life has been worth it, truly worth it. Even if I were to die now, I would depart with a smile. I am willing to sacrifice my very being for Your Majesty, for Your Highness, and for the Tang dynasty. A scholar dies for a true friend. In that moment, Wang De's loyalty to Li Yu crystallized, reaching its zenith. He was not merely a vassal of imperial power, but also the most steadfast and devoted ally of Li Yu in this era. Chapter 36, The Eternal Emperor? Clearly, a bandit. With Wang De's loyalty secured, the feast commenced. The little girl, little Zizi, could hardly contain her excitement, perched upon a specially crafted high chair, her tiny feet swinging, clutching a spoon, saliva pooling. Hot. I want to eat meat. Li Yu chuckled as he served her a piece of non-spicy chicken, carefully selected. Blowing on it gently, be cautious, it's hot. Li Shimin, however, was less courteous. He had already set his sights on the dazzling plate of fiery mapo tofu. With deft precision, his chopsticks snatched a quivering piece of tofu. Upon tasting, he exclaimed, hot, 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 hot. The heat made Li Shimin gasp. Yet he was reluctant to spit it out. Instantly, the numbing and spicy flavors exploded in his mouth. Boom. Li Shimin's eyes widened in astonishment. The sensation was overwhelmingly invigorating. Compared to the mildness of Tang cuisine, this bold and spicy flavor was a visceral assault on his palate. What an exquisite mapo tofu. Despite sweating profusely, he relished the experience. The numbing sensation made his tongue dance, igniting a warmth throughout his body. How delightful. This was the fare deserving of a man. He then grabbed a bite of stir-fried onions with meat. Crunch. The onions were crisp and tender, imbued with a natural sweetness, while the meat was succulent and juicy. Is this the miraculous flour from the western regions? Li Shimin marveled. How was I unaware of such deliciousness before? Those imperial chefs treated this delectable dish as mere decoration. Although Empress Changsun could not tolerate excessive spice, She praised the Kung Pao chicken with walnuts. The contrast between the walnut's crispiness and the chicken's tenderness was simply exquisite. Where? This dish is perfectly balanced in sweetness and acidity, most agreeable to my palate. For individuals, 3 plates of food. It was hardly sufficient. Li Shimin, as the emperor, devoured his meal with astonishing speed, as if a tempest had swept through. Although little Zizi had a small mouth, her appetite was formidable, consuming bite after bite. Midway through the feast, Li Shimin suddenly halted, his gaze sweeping across the dishes. Only the remnants of the stir-fried onions with meat remained, while the Kung Pao chicken and mapo tofu were nearly depleted. Stop! Li Shimin bellowed suddenly. Li Yu, poised to grab the last large piece of meat, was startled. His chopsticks suspended in midair. Second uncle, what's wrong? Is it poison? Li Shimin's expression turned grave, imbued with a sense of righteous authority. Wang De, in a corner. While crying and eating, Wang De, moved to tears, hurriedly wiped his face and approached. Your Majesty? Bring the largest food box. Li Shimin pointed at the 3 dishes on the table. Pack all of these. What? Li Yu was taken aback. Uncle, we haven't finished eating yet. I'm only half full. Enough with the eating. All you do is eat. Li Shimin exclaimed, a look of profound sorrow on his face. Look at you. You must be stuffed. Cheng Qian, Qin Ke, Ku Er, and Chang Lu have yet to taste anything. Li Shimin sighed, adopting a paternal demeanor. As a father, how can I indulge myself here while my children have yet to sample the feast? How can I be at peace? How can I bear it? Take all of this. Let them have a taste. Li Yu watched as Li Shimin donned an expression of selfless paternal love, his lips twitching uncontrollably. This is utterly shameless. Uncle, that is what's left over. And so what? Leftovers are still divine cuisine from the celestial realm. It is also a token of affection from your elder brother. Li Shimin retorted with conviction. Wang De swiftly fetched the food box. Li Shimin personally directed. This chicken, pour it in, and be careful not to spill. The tofu. Don't waste the soup, pour it in as well. Finally, his gaze fell upon 2 iron pots. The bottom of the pot, having recently steamed rice, had formed a layer of golden, crispy crust. This, Li Shimin's eyes sparkled, scoop that out. Wang De took the spatula, carefully lifting the crust and placing it atop the food box. Li Shimin surveyed the brimming food box with satisfaction. Then, he noticed the half bowl of white rice still held by Li Yu. You err, Li Shimin said earnestly. The toil of farmers is great. We must not waste food. He extended his hand and seized the bowl from Li Yu. Take this half bowl too, for Ji knew. He is small and eats little. Li Yu's hand remained frozen in a bowl-holding position, suspended in midair. Is this the legendary emperor? Is this the heavenly Khan? This is clearly a bandit raiding a village. Not even leftover rice is spared. Enough, let us depart. Li Shimin carried the heavy food box, while the Empress Changsun cradled the small, licking child in her arms. The family of 3 walked out contentedly. Upon reaching the door, Li Shimin turned back, addressing the bewildered Li Yu. You have worked hard today. Rest early. Tomorrow, I shall have the imperial kitchen send 2 plump lambs for you. You can toil a bit more and prepare more celestial dishes. Remember to add plenty of that chili. With that, the family departed, leaving behind a trail of laughter and joy. Father, I want to eat that red tofu. All right, all for you. Just leave a bite for your elder brother. In the side hall, the morning breeze stirred a few fallen leaves. Li Yu stood in the disheveled kitchen, gazing at the empty plates and the iron pot that was cleaner than his own face. His stomach let out a timely growl. Grr. Not full. Truly not full. He turned to glance at Wang De in the corner. Though Wang De's mouth was still smeared with food, he felt a pang of guilt upon seeing the prince's desolate silhouette. Your Highness, that old Wang. Li Yu's voice echoed softly. Go and boil some water. From the depths of the secret compartment of a suitcase, Li Yu produced the last 2 packets of braised beef noodles. This was the final stock. Once cooked, we shall each have a packet, he declared. Gritting his teeth, he added, throw in 2 sausages. No, make it 4. Let us indulge ourselves. Not even if Li Er comes knocking will we share. Agreed? Wang De, elated, hurried off to stoke the fire. Before long, the enticing aroma of instant noodles wafted through the side hall of the Lizing Hall. Meanwhile, in the Ganlu Hall, a subtle battle for supremacy was unfolding over who could claim an extra piece of crispy rice from the food box brought back by Li Shimin. Chapter 37. Caught in the act inside Ganlu Hall, Li Shimin sat regally on the dragon throne. Before him a large Zeaton-wood table not adorned with memorials or imperial seals, but rather an open red lacquered food box exuding faint wisps of steam. Beneath the table sat the most esteemed scions of the Tang dynasty. Crown Prince Li Chengqian, clad in a bright yellow robe, sat upright. Though a keen observer might notice the stiffness in his right leg, a subtle reminder of his concealed affliction. He wore the standard princely smile. Yet his eyes betrayed a shadow of gloom and vigilance. Wei Wang Li Tai, round in stature, squeezed into his chair, closest to Li Shimin, wearing a confident and ingratiating smile, while twirling an elegant folding fan, a hallmark of cultured gentlemen. Princess Li Lizzie, dignified and graceful, embodied her title as the brightest jewel of the Tang dynasty. Lastly, 7-year-old Jin Wang Li Ji, the chick, was sprawled across the table, his eyes fixated on the food box, a droplet of saliva lingering at the corner of his mouth. Let us all taste, Li Shimin said benevolently, a hint of pride in his voice, gesturing to the meager remnants within the food box. This is what your father thoughtfully brought back for you. The group leaned forward to inspect, a plate of red oil accompanied by a few fragments of tofu, a dish with half a bowl of meat slices and several translucent vegetables, and a few irregularly shaped, golden brown crunchy rice pieces. Li Chengqian's brow furrowed slightly. What was the meaning of this? Was his father mocking him by offering leftovers? A subtle reprimand? A suggestion to remember the hardships of the past? Without hesitation, Li Tai's eyes darted, and he seized a piece of crispy rice, shoving it into his mouth. The crunch echoed. After a couple of chews, his eyes widened in surprise. Delicious. Father, this crispy rice is fragrant and crispy, with a hint of meat flavor. It is even better than the delicacies from the imperial kitchen. Li Tai praised exuberantly. Showering compliments. Father thinks of his sons, not even keeping such a treat for himself. I am truly touched. Li Chengxian inwardly cursed the flatterer, but was not to be outdone. He picked up a piece of tofu soaked in red oil and took a bite. The cool, spicy flavor boldly stimulated his taste buds. He coughed slightly, caught off guard, but soon succumbed to the unique savory delight. It was spicy yet not overwhelming. With a tender texture, indeed, a culinary marvel. Li Lizzie and Li Ji also shared the remaining stir-fried meat with onions. Father, this vegetable is surprisingly sweet, Li Lizzie exclaimed. And this meat, even cold, lacks any fishy or tough texture. How is this possible? The few plates of leftovers were rapidly devoured under the dexterous chopsticks of the princes and princesses. Li Tai had thoroughly wiped the plate with a steamed bun before consuming it. Once finished, the guests still felt unsatisfied. The Empress, Li Lizzie, set down her chopsticks and dabbed her mouth with a handkerchief, her intelligent eyes filled with curiosity. This dish was novel and bold in flavor, far exceeding the culinary skills of the imperial kitchen. The chefs there would not dare to incorporate such a plethora of spices for fear of offending the nobility. Only someone audacious or unafraid of the emperor could create such a dish. Li Tai quickly seized the moment to speak, subtly observing the emperor's expression. Emperor Li Shimin nodded in satisfaction, gazing at his clever second son with affection. Indeed, Qin Ke is astute, and Lizzie is meticulous. He surveyed the assembly and revealed the name. This dish was crafted by none other than your brother, the Prince of Yu. The Prince of Yu? The children exchanged glances. Recalling the recently bestowed title to the rumored royal uncle, Wei Huai Wang, Li Xuanba, son of Li Yu. Li Chengxian spoke up, a hint of sourness in his tone. Recently, rumors had circulated in the palace that the emperor had acknowledged a nephew and was lavishing him with attention, even granting him the title of prince and spending all his time together, neglecting morning court sessions. Indeed, Emperor Li Shimin confirmed, by lineage, he is your cousin. However, he has been raised abroad, acquiring extraordinary skills. This dish is merely a trivial creation of his. A warning bell rang in Li Chengxian's mind. A favored cousin who could cook and was so esteemed by the emperor posed no direct threat to his position as crown prince, yet the shared affection made him uneasy. As the crown prince, he felt compelled to exhibit the demeanor expected of a future ruler and assert his sovereignty. Li Chengxian rose, straightening his attire, and bowed respectfully to Emperor Li Shimin, speaking earnestly. Father, if he is a royal brother, then he is family. As the crown prince, it is my duty to lead my younger siblings in paying our respects, to express the bonds of kinship, and to make our brother feel the warmth of home. His words were impeccably timed, affirming his status as crown prince while demonstrating kindness and subtly undermining Li Tai. The smile on Li Tai's round face faltered, and he tightened his grip on his folding fan. Emperor Li Shimin observed his two sons, his thoughts as clear as day, in a good mood. He chose not to dwell on their underlying tensions. Chengxian speaks wisely. He nodded. It is indeed time to meet him. However, his expression turned serious. Remember this. Although Li Yu has lived among the common folk for many years, he carries the blood of the Li family and possesses remarkable talents. When you meet him, you must extend both brotherly and respectful greetings as a mentor. Do not let his recent arrival lead to any disrespect. Anyone who dares to show him disrespect shows disrespect to me. Such words were weighty. The notion of offering respect to a mentor elevated Li Yu's status above their own as princes. Li Chengxian and Li Tai felt a jolt of shock, quickly bowing their heads in agreement, their initial curiosity about the unacquainted Prince of Yu transforming into deep-seated apprehension. Enough. I shall summon him myself. Emperor Li Shimin rose, dismissing any attendants, and strolled towards the side hall with his hands clasped behind his back. The doors and windows were tightly shut, yet a more overpowering fragrance seeped through the cracks. Inside, Li Yu and Wang De crouched in the corner, each cradling a large bowl, their heads buried within, emitting slurping sounds. It was the last 2 packets of braised beef noodles. Li Yu was genuinely famished. Earlier, while he was preoccupied with preparing and sharing the feast with Wang De, he barely had a chance to eat before Li Shimin cleared the table. Slurping, Li Yu took a massive bite of noodles, the heat causing him to gasp, but the satisfaction of the carbohydrates made him unable to suppress a moan. Old Wang, hurry up, don't dawdle, he urged between mouthfuls. If you catch a whiff of this, we won't even have broth left to drink. Rest assured, your highness, I shall indulge at once. It's so hot. Wang De, disregarding all decorum, was sweating profusely as he ate. Just as the two were about to savor the last sip of broth, the door creaked open. Chapter 38. The second generation of the great Tang Li Shimin stood at the threshold, backlit, his nose twitching twice, his expression darkening. Aha, he exclaimed, pointing at Li Yu as if he had caught a rat pilfering rice from his pantry. I knew it. You little rascal are sneaking noodles. Just moments ago, you lamented about having nothing to eat. What is this? Startled, Li Yu instinctively guarded his meal. He tilted his head back and gulped down the remaining broth in one go. Cough, cough, cough. It was scalding, bringing tears to his eyes. Beside him, Wang De was even more audacious. Being a professional eunuch, his swallowing ability was well trained. He tilted his head back, swallowing the remaining half bowl of noodles, broth and all, then discreetly concealed the bowl behind him, feigning innocence while a piece of red chili skin lingered at the corner of his mouth. Burp. Wang De let out a resounding belch. Li Shimin, feigning anger, made his beard tremble. You too. There's none left. Li Yu turned the empty bowl upside down and shook it, a look of helplessness on his face. Uncle, you arrived too late. It's truly gone. This was the last stock. Li Shimin gazed at the two gleaming bowls. A mix of amusement and sadness washing over him. The esteemed prince and the chief eunuch, caught sneaking noodles in a corner by none other than their own emperor. Enough of the charade, Li Shimin said, pulling out a chair to sit down. I come with an important matter. Cheng Qian and the others are waiting for you at the Ganlu Palace. I wish for you to meet them. Li Yu wiped the broth from the corner of his mouth, his expression darkening. I want to go, he replied decisively. Why not? Li Shimin furrowed his brow. Uncle, do you truly not understand, or are you pretending not to? Li Yu's gaze sharpened as he looked at Li Shimin. What does it matter for me to go? Li Chengqian is the crown prince, and Li Tai is the prince of Wei. Those two are at each other's throats. If I show even a hint of camaraderie to either, it will be interpreted as choosing sides. I've just returned. I don't wish to be entangled in this mess. Unless, Li Yu paused, glancing at Wang De beside him. Wang De, ever astute, immediately set down his bowl and bowed. Your Majesty, Your Highness, this humble servant shall guard the door. I overindulged earlier. I shall work off the meal. With that, he deftly exited, ensuring the door was securely shut behind him and driving away all living beings within a 50-meter radius. Inside, only the uncle and nephew remained. Li Yu was no longer the carefree glutton he once was. He sat upright, embodying a scrutiny that spanned 14 centuries. Unless you provide me with a definitive answer, second uncle, to whom do you intend to bequeath the throne? Li Shimin fell silent, caught off guard by Li Yu's forthright and piercing inquiry. Of course, it should be Cheng Qian, Li Shimin replied in a low voice, acknowledging him as the legitimate eldest son, despite his physical ailment, for he possessed a kind and benevolent nature. But if it is Cheng Qian, Li Yu interjected, why then do you afford Li Tai such extraordinary privileges? Why allow him to establish a literary academy? Why exempt him from managing a fief? Why create the illusion that he, too, has a chance? His voice turned icy. Second uncle, you are committing a grave error. You are enticing Li Tai towards treachery while simultaneously driving Cheng Qian to madness. Li Yu paused, opting for a more tranquil tone reminiscent of familial concern rather than the heated disputes of recent days. During our last quarrel, I expressed all that needed to be said. You are aware of the course of history that follows. If you wish to avoid repeating past mistakes and witnessing their downfall, change is imperative. Li Shimin's complexion paled as he lowered his gaze to caress the teacup, a long sigh escaping him. You err, he murmured, his voice frail, imbued with profound fatigue. Indeed, after our last confrontation, I contemplated this. Am I not aware that this is a perilous tightrope? Yet, Qin Ke does indeed please me. His talent is remarkable, and I cannot bear to see him relegated to a distant fief, suffering in obscurity. This was the selfishness of a father, as well as the vulnerability of an emperor. Li Yu regarded the powerful yet fragile man before him and sighed inwardly. If you trust me in this matter, then leave it to me. He reached out, placing his hand upon Li Shimin's. We shall collaborate. I will assure Cheng Qian of his stable position, and I will extinguish Qin Ke's ambitions for the throne. Yet I shall provide him with a new path to channel his excess energy and talent. Li Shimin lifted his gaze, a glimmer of hope flickering in his eyes. Do you truly possess such assurance? You must have faith in me, Li Yu replied, locking eyes with Li Shimin. I act for the sake of this family. Taking a deep breath, Li Shimin clasped Li Yu's hand in return. Very well, I trust you. I shall grant you 3 months. Should circumstances improve, I will thereafter heed your counsel in guiding them. Li Shimin regained his imperial resolve. By the way, second uncle, Li Yu stood, I need to relocate. Residing in the side hall is no longer suitable. As a grown nephew, it is inconvenient to remain too close to aunt. He continued, moreover, I must reform these princes. Hence I require proximity to them. Let me consider, Li Shimin mused. The northeastern corner of Taiji Palace has an empty hall nearby. It is close to the East Palace and not far from the Wuda Hall. He decisively made arrangements. That is the former site of Hongyi Palace. Spacious enough for your endeavors. Wangda, arrange for people to tidy up. Move tonight, in the Ganlu Hall. Li Shimin's private chamber and the royal family's most intimate gathering place. The princes and princesses, who had originally assembled in the hall of establishing governance for confidentiality, were now gathered here under his direction. Empress Chang's son sat gracefully beside the main seat, her demeanor gentle as she adjusted the collar of the spirited little prince. Her health recovering remarkably under the nourishing effects of divine elixirs. Within the grand hall, the princes and princesses gathered together. The crown prince, Li Chengqian, occupied the foremost position on the left, his posture impeccably straight, bordering on rigidity, as his hands tightly gripped his knees. His gaze occasionally darted toward the entrance, a blend of anticipation and the reserved vigilance expected of an elder brother. On the right sat Prince Li Tai, plump yet lively, his small eyes darting about as he fanned himself, seemingly pondering how to best exhibit his talents before the esteemed Prince of Yu. In a corner, Prince Li Ku appeared dignified, his youthful visage marred by an incongruous gravity, perhaps even somberness, aware of his own precarious lineage from the previous dynasty. As such, he habitually shrouded himself in shadows. Princess Li Lizzie, however, presented a stark contrast, animatedly holding the hand of Princess Yuzhong, whispering curious conjectures about their royal brother's appearance. Meanwhile, the youngest, Prince Li Ji and the little Prince Li Mingda, could hardly contain themselves, frolicking around the table, their laughter ringing out like chimes. As the voice of Wang De resounded, the hall's doors swung open, silencing the earlier clamor. Li Yu, clad in a finely tailored purple princely robe, strode confidently into the room. Eschewing the traditional modesty of ancient courtiers, he exuded the self-assuredness of a modern individual, as though he were stepping into his own living room rather than a royal palace. This vibrant demeanor instantly captivated the assembled royals. Greetings, elder brother. The princes and princesses rose in unison to pay their respects, even Li Chengqian inclining slightly, granting due homage. No need for formalities. We are all family here. No need for such politeness, Li Yu replied grandly, dismissing the formalities with a wave. He did not sidle to the side, but rather summoned a chair, boldly seating himself at the center, facing the finest assembly of the Tang dynasty's elite offspring, as if he were the very host and leader of this youthful gathering. Observing this scene, Empress Changsun stifled a laugh, leaning toward Li Shimin and whispering, "Look at our son. He truly embodies the essence of a big brother. It has been ages since our palace has witnessed such liveliness." Li Shimin, smiling, stood with his hands clasped behind his back, choosing to quietly watch Li Yu's performance unfold. Once seated, Li Yu surveyed the room and clapped his hands. "Old Wang, bring forth the goods." Wang De hurriedly approached, bearing an enormous, lacquered red box, its lid closed, exuding an air of mystery. The size of the box was enough to leave the younger ones wide-eyed in astonishment. Chapter 39. Dividing the spoils. Li Yu, comfortably seated, addressed the standing princes and princesses. "As I am new here, I haven't brought much. Just a few tokens of our first meeting." He smiled warmly, his tone relaxed. "However, my eyesight isn't the best, and I might not recognize everyone. Therefore, let us play a game. One by one, introduce yourselves, your name, your rank, and your interests. If you do well, gifts will be given. If not, well, you shall receive an empty box." This novel approach left the princes momentarily taken aback, but soon their expressions brightened with intrigue. It was the first time someone had engaged them in such a manner, rather than testing their studies. I'll go first. The most impatient among them was Li Tai. He believed himself to be the most favored and felt compelled to seize every opportunity to shine. With a lofty self-regard, he pondered what gift could possibly challenge him. Stepping forward, fanning himself with confidence, he proclaimed in a booming voice, "I am Qin Ke, Li Tai, the fourth in line. My interests include reading, writing, and the pursuit of knowledge. In this world of wonders, there is nothing that I, Qin Ke, do not recognize." Li Yu nodded, a smile dancing on his lips. "Such bravado is commendable. Indeed, you are a cultured individual. Since you revel in the pursuit of knowledge, allow me to present you with a challenge." He reached into a brocade box, rummaged for a moment, and extracted a colorful cube, a three-dimensional puzzle known as a Rubik's Cube. He casually twisted it a few times before handing it to Li Tai. "Here, this is an advanced version of the Luban lock, called the Rubik's Cube. It is said you are well-versed in mathematics and the principles of the world. This contraption contains billions of variations. Should you manage to restore it within the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, I shall be in awe of you." Li Tai, dismissively accepting the cube, scoffed, "A mere trifle of clever tricks." He twisted it a couple of times, yet the once orderly colors devolved into chaos. His expression shifted as he turned it again, desperately attempting to restore order, only to find it growing increasingly disordered, the logic entirely unlike that of the Luban lock. How is this possible? Li Tai's eyes widened, beads of sweat forming on his brow. Unwilling to accept defeat, he plopped down on a nearby brocade stool, fixated on the cube, his fingers moving rapidly, entirely oblivious to the need for formalities or the presence of others. Li Yu smirked slightly, having successfully ensnared one. Next was Li Chengqian. He hesitated, glancing at Li Tai, who was engrossed in the puzzle, then at Emperor Li Shimin. Noticing his father nodding with approval, he took a deep breath, adjusted his robe, and stepped forward with somewhat stiff legs. "I am Chengqian, the eldest." His voice was low, tinged with an imperceptible sense of inferiority and the weight of being the eldest brother. "My interests include horseback riding, archery, managing state affairs, and alleviating my father's burdens." Such a quintessential response from a crown prince, flawless yet imbued with a poignant maturity that stirred empathy. Li Yu regarded him without mockery, his smile fading as he approached. "Eldest brother, you have worked hard." Just 5 simple words made Li Chengqian's heart quiver. "You have worked hard?" No one had ever uttered those words to him. All he ever heard were praises of his brilliance and admonitions to be diligent. Li Yu patted his shoulder, the pressure neither too light nor too heavy, conveying a support understood only between men. From the box, he produced a large bottle filled with a white liquid. "This is for you." Li Yu pressed the bottle into Li Chengqian's hands, not loudly proclaiming its medicinal purpose, but leaning closer to whisper in a tone meant solely for him. "Take a spoonful every day. Your leg pain is not your fault. You have grown too quickly for your bones to keep pace. With this, the pain will subside. Remember, as long as your mind remains sharp, you stand firmer than anyone else. Stand tall, do not falter. You are the eldest brother. You must provide shelter for your younger siblings." Li Chengqian trembled at his words. He looked up abruptly, meeting Li Yu's clear and encouraging gaze. For many years, apart from their mother, everyone had scrutinized his legs, some with pity, others with scorn, and many with schadenfreude. Yet this person alone reassured him. "It is nothing to fret over. You are still the eldest." A warm surge of emotion welled up within, dispelling the long-standing gloom. Li Chengqian tightly clutched the vial of medicine, his eyes slightly reddening. He took a deep breath, stepped back, and performed a solemn bow to Li Yu, softly uttering, "Thank you, elder brother." With Chengqian and Qin Ke settled, it was time to address the third brother. Li Yu turned his gaze towards the corner, where the silent and downcast youth, Prince Li Ku, stood. "Come forth. You handsome lad hiding in the shadows," Li Yu beckoned. Li Ku hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. "Greeting, I am Li Ku, the third in line. I enjoy horseback riding and hunting." His response was succinct, even somewhat dismissive, as he was acutely aware of his status as an outsider within this family. Li Yu regarded him in silence before turning to retrieve a globe, the size of a soccer ball, from a chest. "Wow!" exclaimed the surrounding princes and princesses in unison. The globe was magnificent, adorned with vibrant colors and peculiar patterns. Li Ku, lift your head, Liu urged. Li Ku raised his gaze, filled with wariness and insecurity. With a flick of his finger, the globe began to spin, presenting a kaleidoscope of colors before his eyes. Look, this is the Tang dynasty. Liu pointed to a small red region, no larger than a palm. And this is the world. He gestured towards the vast expanses of ocean and land beyond. I know you feel stifled in Chang'an, but the world is vast, so much so that Chang'an is but a grain of sand. He indicated the distant Americas and Australia. There lies glory. Take this to study. When you are ready, your second uncle will provide you with a ship and soldiers to conquer those nameless lands and reign as their king. Li Ku caressed the globe's smooth surface, gazing at the unfamiliar mountains and rivers. The clouds of doubt dissipated in his eyes, replaced by the flame of ambition. He cradled the globe as if it were a treasured possession and bowed deeply to Li Yu. As the atmosphere lightened, Li Yu approached Princess Li Lizzie of Chang'an, the first princess of the Tang dynasty. She blinked her large eyes in curiosity as she regarded him. Li Lizzie, is it? You are truly beautiful. Li Yu complimented with a smile. He produced an exquisite crystal music box. This is for you. With a gentle twist of the key, the enchanting melody of Castle in the Sky flowed forth, pure and celestial. Inside the crystal sphere, a delicate ballerina danced gracefully to the music. Wow, Li Lizzie gasped, covering her mouth, her eyes sparkling with delight. Such intricate craftsmanship and pure music felt like magic to a girl of the Tang dynasty. Thank you, Prince Yu. This is simply beautiful, she exclaimed, taking it with joy, her cheeks flushed with happiness, even unable to resist humming along with the tune. Next was Li Ji. Li Yu observed this future Emperor Gaozong of Tang, currently a snot-nosed child, drooling over the magic cube in Li Tai's hands, and glancing enviously at Li Lizzie's music box. Ji Nu, stop staring. That belongs to your brother and sister, Li Yu admonished. He then unveiled a massive bag, pouring its contents onto the table with a flourish, countless colorful plastic pieces of Lego. What is this? Li Ji inquired, picking up a piece with curiosity. This is called a building block. Li Yu was capable of constructing houses and bridges, manifesting everything one could desire. He picked up 2 blocks, clicking them together with a satisfying sound. How delightful it is to play with building blocks. In the future, I shall build the most magnificent palace for the Tang dynasty. And remember, do not always think of competing with your sister for food, or I shall spank you, he joked. Suppressing the urge to act on his impulse to do so, being mindful of his ancestral respect, he affectionately ruffled the boy's hair. Li Ji, clutching his Lego set, beamed with joy, his previous grievances forgotten as he plopped down on the ground, eagerly beginning to assemble his creation. The other princes, Li Jun and Li Shan, each received exquisite hardcover illustrated books, akin to the comic books of the era, a rare source of entertainment for children in the Tang dynasty. Then there was little CZ, who could hardly contain her excitement. Observing her siblings with their gifts, she stomped her feet in impatience and dashed into Li Yu's embrace, clinging to his leg while pouting, Brother, what about mine? Li Yu chuckled, lifting her into his arms and planting a kiss on her chubby cheek. How could I forget our little CZ? He produced a set of 24 watercolor pens and a beautifully crafted sketchbook. Look, these are watercolor pens in red, green, blue, and a total of 24 colors. He opened a red pen and illustrated a small flower in the sketchbook. Wow, how beautiful. CZ clapped her tiny hands, her eyes sparkling with delight. Here, take this and draw whatever your heart desires. Let us make the Tang dynasty splendid. With the colorful pens in her grip, she planted a kiss on his cheek, exclaiming, Brother is the best. Wooden horse. Inside the Ganlu Hall, laughter and cheer resonated, free from the constraints of imperial formality and power struggles. Li Chengqian held a medicine bottle, his gaze resolute. Li Tai squatted on the floor twisting a Rubik's cube, muttering to himself. Li Ke spun a globe, his eyes thoughtful. Li Ji was engrossed in his blocks, reveling in play, while little CZ leaned over the table, drawing, with Empress Changsun gently guiding her. Each person immersed in their own world, yet the atmosphere was unprecedentedly harmonious and warm. Li Yu stood in the center, embodying the essence of a true leader among children, his face adorned with a contented smile. This was what home felt like. At the entrance of the grand hall, Li Shimin stood with his hands behind his back, observing the harmonious scene before him, watching Li Yu, unperturbed and laughing amidst the children, and smiled with satisfaction. He turned to Wang De beside him and whispered, Wang De, do you see? Does this not resemble a family more closely than before? Wang De wiped the corner of his eye, Your Majesty. Prince Yu is indeed a man of great wisdom. He has truly opened his heart. Li Shimin nodded, taking a deep breath. Convey my imperial decree. This evening, the banquet at Prince Yu's residence shall welcome both the Empress and myself to partake in the meal. Chapter 40. The hot pot gathering at Qingguang Hall in the northeast corner of the Taiji Palace, the former site of Hongyi Palace, which had once been the residence of the late Emperor Li Yuan, lay empty and forlorn until this afternoon when it suddenly came alive with activity. Dozens of eunuchs and palace maids scurried in and out like ants, carrying boxes and draped silks. Be careful, don't drop that box. And that one. That is my clothing. Don't get it dirty. A commotion arose from beyond the wall, where Li Yu was orchestrating the move. The sounds drifted over the tall palace walls and seeped into the adjacent East Palace. Inside the grand hall of the East Palace, Crown Prince Li Chengqian knelt before his desk, a book in hand, yet his gaze continually wandered to the window. The lively spirit that once animated him slowly waned with the clattering sounds from the neighboring Qingguang Hall, a name recently bestowed by Li Yu and personally approved by Emperor Li Shimin. Qingguang Hall, Li Chengqian murmured to himself. absent-mindedly brushing the edges of the scroll with his fingers. What could be the Emperor's intent in placing the Prince of Yu so close? Was it to foster intimacy, or to keep a watchful eye? He recalled the earlier encounter at the Ganlu Hall, where his cousin had presented him with a vial of medicine, accompanied by the cryptic remark, "As long as your wits remain, you are still the elder brother." At that moment, the words had felt comforting, but now, shrouded in the deep shadows of the palace, Li Chengqian's paranoia resurfaced. A royal, long lost to the common folk, had suddenly re-emerged, residing beneath his very roof, wielding extraordinary powers. "Your Highness, what troubles you?" A gentle voice interrupted his thoughts. A handsome young eunuch approached, holding a cup of calming tea, his eyes filled with concern. This was Qingxin, Li Chengqian's most cherished confidant. Li Chengqian set down the scroll and rubbed his temples, feeling an unsettling anxiety. The Emperor South's decision to place the Prince of Yu next door weighed heavily on him. Qingxin moved to stand behind him, his slender fingers gently massaging Li Chengqian's temples as he spoke softly. "Your Highness, you worry too much. The Prince of Yu is a figure of celestial merit. His ambitions lie elsewhere. Moreover, by placing him next to the East Palace, His Majesty demonstrates his trust in you, indicating that he does not regard him as an outsider. If there were true cause for suspicion, he would have been sent far away." Li Chengqian closed his eyes, allowing the soothing touch to calm his restless spirit. "Perhaps you are right. Your Highness, tonight His Majesty is to take you to a banquet. It is said that the Prince of Yu has prepared delicacies from the celestial realm. You must be in good spirits," Qingxin said with a light laugh, leaning in to whisper near his ear. Li Chengqian grasped Qingxin's hand in return, a smile finally gracing his face. "You speak the truth. As the Crown Prince, I must embody the dignity befitting my station." As the hour of 7 p.m., approached, nightfall enveloped the Qingguang Hall. The long table originally intended for discussions had been replaced by a grand round table, in the center of which was a large, copper hot pot, heated by a roaring charcoal fire below. Wearing an apron he had crafted himself, Li Yu stirred the pot with a pair of long chopsticks. "Have you arrived?" he called out without turning as he heard movement at the door. "Find a place to sit. Slippers are at the entrance. The floor is cold without the heating. So gather on the couch." At the entrance, Li Chengqian led the way, followed closely by Li Tai, Li Ku, and Li Lizzie, with their wet nurse guiding Li Ji and the young child. Though they had already met during the day and exchanged gifts, the unfamiliarity of the evening setting prompted these distinguished heirs of the Tang dynasty to instinctively adopt a regal demeanor. "Greetings, Prince of Yu." Li Chengqian was the first to respond, placing his hands together in a respectful bow. "Greetings, Prince of Yu." Behind them, Li Tai, Li Ku, and Li Lizzie also bowed in unison. The scene resembled a group of diplomats, clad in formal attire, stepping into a bustling roadside eatery filled with the aroma of street food. Li Yu set down his chopsticks and gazed at his siblings, who were wrapped up as if in armor. With a resigned sigh, he remarked that they were family and should forego such formalities. It wasn't a court session. They could afford to relax a bit. At that moment, a small pink bundle suddenly broke free from its nurse's grasp, resembling a little cannonball powered by a tiny motor. Charging towards Li Yu, the little girl, oblivious to etiquette, only remembered that this big pot had treated her to the delightfully sweet Dubai too and had gifted her a drawing pen. With her short legs pattering, she dashed into Li Yu's embrace, clinging to his leg and calling out in a sweet, childish voice, "Big pot. 7 rice. I'm so hungry." Li Yu's heart melted at the sight. He scooped the little girl into his arms, exclaiming, "Oh my little ancestor, are you hungry? Let us go. Big pot will take you to eat something delicious." Turning towards the princes still lingering at the entrance, he waved and declared, "Did you see that? Learn from her. Come in. Anyone who bows again will have to watch us eat from the doorway tonight." This scene left Li Chengqian and Li Tai momentarily stunned. The beloved Princess Jinyang, usually instructed to move gracefully like a lotus, was now clinging to a man like a koala. Li Lizzie observed her younger sister's joyful demeanor with a flicker of envy in her eyes before breaking the silence with a light laugh. "Elder brother is right. We have indeed been too reserved. Little sister, please, don't hold back." She gracefully stepped inside, her posture still elegant but noticeably more relaxed. Li Tai, utterly captivated by the enticing aroma, paid no mind to the regal decorum. Fan in hand, he rushed in, exclaiming, "Elder brother, what is that delightful scent? It's so enticing." The group gathered around the round table. Li Yu pointed to the pot and introduced, "This is a yuan yang pot. The left side, vibrant red, is a spicy chili broth, perfect for those who relish bold flavors. The right side, a creamy mushroom bone broth, is exquisite and suitable for those who cannot tolerate spice." He specifically indicated the chili pot and glanced at Li Tai. "Qingke, seeing your robust physique, you must try this. It's the essence of masculine indulgence." Li Tai stared at the bubbling red oil, his throat tightening with both fear and anticipation. "Is that really spicy? All right, I shall give it a try." Next came the ingredients. Li Yu had gone to great lengths for this meal. "This is lamb roll," he said, pointing to a plate of thinly sliced lamb, expertly prepared by the chefs of the imperial kitchen. "I had them freeze it before slicing, just 3 seconds in the pot, and it's cooked. These are beef and fish balls," he continued, gesturing toward 2 plates of round delicacies. "I made these by hand. The beef balls are chewy, while the fish balls are crafted from yellow river carp, deboned, minced, and kneaded countless times until they become gelatinous, then mixed with minced ginger and shaped." "Xiaojiu, Li Ji. You can eat these worry-free, they have no bones." Li Ji, salivating at the description, perked up and nodded vigorously in agreement. Moreover, there is the fried tofu." Li Yu pointed at a plate of golden-hued bean curd, which had been sliced and deep-fried, absorbing all the savory broth, bursting with flavor upon the first bite. As for vegetables, although the Tang dynasty lacked potatoes and chilies, which Li Yu had yet to cultivate, it boasted a rich variety of local produce. There were sunflower greens, bok choy, as well as slices of lotus root, bamboo shoots, and mushrooms. Lastly, the soul of the dish lay in the dipping sauce. This was a sesame paste concoction. Li Yu gestured towards the small bowls before each person, containing pure sesame sauce he had brought from modern times. Enhanced with chive blossoms, which were available in the Tang dynasty, chopped scallions, minced garlic, and cilantro. The key ingredient was the crushed walnut pieces that Old Wang had added, enriching the aroma further. Li Yu demonstrated, adding a splash of soy sauce, a dash of vinegar, and for those who preferred spiciness, a spoonful of chili oil. Voila! The allure of hot pot lies in its ability to swiftly bridge the gap between individuals. When the first slice of lamb transformed its color in the bubbling oil and the first spoonful of hot broth was savored, all pretensions of nobility and pride dissipated in the steam. Li Tai was a true foodie, enticed by Li Yu's words. He eagerly plunged his chopsticks into the pot of red oil. Chapter 41. Conscription. A piece of marbled lamb was cooked to perfection, enveloped in the fragrant embrace of beef tallow, Sichuan peppercorns, and chilies, and dipped generously in the rich sesame sauce before being devoured. Li Tai's eyes widened, and his entire chubby face flushed crimson. Gasp! He opened his mouth, desperately inhaling, as if his tongue had been set ablaze. Spicy, so spicy. A fine sheen of sweat broke out on his forehead, and tears nearly spilled from his eyes. How is it? Want to spit it out? Li Yu mischievously offered him a cup of sour plum drink. No, absolutely not. Though Li Tai was panting from the heat, his hands remained in motion. The flavor was simply delectable. It was 100 times better than the bland steamed lamb. This fire seemed to have ignited his very soul. Exhilarating. He reached for his chopsticks once more, this time grabbing a larger portion of meat to toss into the spicy broth. Li Chengqian, on the other hand, exhibited a more genteel approach, primarily attacking the clear broth pot. He picked up a fishball and popped it into his mouth. Fresh. The sweetness of the fish melted upon his tongue, devoid of any fishy taste, with a delightful, bouncy texture. Brother, your culinary skills are indeed exceptional. Li Chengqian set down his chopsticks, dabbed his mouth, and glanced at the perspiring Li Tai, casually remarking, Qingke, while this spicy pot is delightful, one must also know their limits. Should you suffer from an upset stomach, it could hinder the important task of compiling the book, and father will surely hold you accountable. Li Tai, thoroughly enjoying his meal, paused momentarily at the remark, then swallowed the meat in his mouth, responding with a grin. Thank you for your concern, elder brother. Although the spiciness is overwhelming, once accustomed, it reveals endless layers of flavor. The tedium of compiling books calls for a bit of stimulation to invigorate the spirit. As for you, elder brother, while the clear broth is safe, it does tend to be rather bland. Their eyes met momentarily in the air before they nonchalantly diverted their gazes. Li Yu, meanwhile, was busy cooking meat while observing the scene. Secretly amused, these two brothers could never enjoy a meal in peace. Li Ku remained silent throughout, bowing his head as he consumed the meat that Li Yu had placed into his bowl, bite after bite, as if to swallow all his emotions along with the food. As for the other princes and princesses, they were completely oblivious to the playful banter exchanged between the two. Li Ji was struggling with a beef meatball that was far too slippery to grasp. Clumsy indeed. Li Yu effortlessly picked it up with his chopsticks and placed it into Li Ji's bowl, admonishing him gently, use a spoon, you silly boy. Li Ji chuckled, stuffing the meatball into his mouth, his cheeks puffing out like a hamster's. Little Zizi sat in Li Yu's lap, unable to reach the table, pointing eagerly at a plate of fried tofu. Big pot. I want that one. The yellow one. Li Yu picked up a piece, blew on it to cool it down, and fed it to her. Delicious. Little Zizi's eyes squinted in bliss. Just as the atmosphere reached a delightful crescendo, an announcement echoed from the entrance. His Majesty has arrived. Her Majesty has arrived. A startled hush fell over the room as they had yet to rise when Emperor Li Shimin, clad in his ordinary attire and holding the hand of Empress Changsun, strode in with purpose. Upon entering, he wrinkled his nose and exclaimed, well, I hurriedly dealt with the memorials, and you all have already begun dining? Feigning anger, he pointed at the steaming hot pot laid out before them. You didn't even wait for me? Is there no regard for your father? The princes, taken aback, instinctively set down their chopsticks to bow in apology. Forgive me, father. I, began Li Chengqian, but Li Shimin waved his hand dismissively. Enough. Everyone stay put. His demeanor was far from that of an emperor. He appeared more like a neighbor who feared missing out on a meal. I could smell it from the Ganlu hall. With all this red oil and sesame paste, you've made my mouth water. Li Shimin approached the table, surveying the chaotic spread with gleaming eyes. To everyone's astonishment, he took a seat on the edge of the couch and began to remove his boots. He then sat cross-legged between Li Yu and Li Tai, creating a snug spot. Come, let me have a taste. Is this still that instant noodle flavor? This action shattered the invisible barrier that separated the emperor from his sons. Father is taking off his shoes? Father is joining us. He asks sharing our table? Li Yu, unfazed, handed Li Shimin a pair of chopsticks. Uncle, have you washed your hands? This is a buffet. Hygiene is paramount. I have. I washed at the door. Li Shimin replied, taking the bowl and pointing to the sticky sauce in front of Li Yu. Is this what you call sesame sauce? Yes, the sesame sauce dish. It contains sesame paste, chive flowers, crushed walnuts, along with cilantro, minced scallions, and garlic, Li Yu explained, an essential for hot pot. Prepare one for me, just like yours, but with extra spice. Li Shimin promptly handed over the bowl. Li Yu skillfully concocted a bowl for him, adding a spoonful of red oil for good measure. Li Shimin picked up a slice of beef and dipped it in the pot, observing the marbled texture with a smirk directed at Li Yu. Ahem, uncle. This beef was well, it met an unfortunate end. Li Yu said earnestly. Indeed, old Wang mentioned it fell down a slope and was smashed to pieces. It was quite tragic. We can only eat it with tears in our eyes. Wang De stood silently nearby, bearing the brunt of the jest. Fell to its demise. Li Shimin, choosing not to expose the truth, rolled a piece of meat in the sesame sauce before sending it to his mouth. The rich aroma of sesame mingled with the fragrance of the meat, filling his mouth entirely. A satisfied sound escaped Li Shimin's lips, exclaiming how delightful and rich the flavor was, even surpassing what he had enjoyed in the morning. He glanced at Li Tai, whose lips were swollen from the spice, and teased, Qingke, what is it? Eating feels like going to war. If it's too much, don't force yourself. Go have some broth with your elder brother. Li Tai, feeling underestimated by his father, retorted with determination, Father, this is exhilarating. The spicier, the better. Empress Changsun took her seat beside Li Juan and the little one. The child, clutching a fishball, raised it in delight upon seeing her mother, exclaiming, Mother. 7. So good. With a gentle smile, Empress Changsun took a small bite. Her eyes brimming with tenderness. So delicious. Let's have our little one eat more. In that moment within the Qingguang Hall, there were no emperors, princes, or princesses. Only a family gathered around a steaming pot, sharing a meal and engaging in light-hearted conversation. Li Chengqian watched his father, who was playfully contesting with Li Yu for a piece of lamb, the mother who was laughing heartily, and his siblings with grease adorning their faces. Suddenly, the tension in his heart eased. Perhaps, at this table filled with warmth and life, there were no schemes or plots, only the comfort of family. With stomachs full, Li Tai reclined on the couch, caressing his round belly and letting out a satisfied burp. Li Ji and the little one were already nodding off. Taken away by their nurse, Li Shimin, holding a cup of hawthorn tea for digestion, looked contentedly at Li Yu, saying, Yuer, this hot pot is splendid. If the palace grows cold in the future, let us gather often. Gathering is fine, Li Yu replied, wiping his mouth and standing up. Surveying the rosy-faced princes in the room, a capitalist smile creeping onto his face. But there is no such thing as a free lunch, nor a free dinner. You all dined on my food tonight, a divine meal, infused with energy. Li Tai felt a sudden chill of foreboding. Elder brother, what are you planning? Li Yu gestured towards the dark night outside, and then pointed at a suitcase filled with seeds. Tomorrow morning, at the third watch, 7:45 a.m. Everyone must gather in the Forbidden Garden, including the Crown Prince, the Prince of Wei, and the Prince of Wu. What do you intend, brother Yu? Li Chengqian inquired. Li Yu grinned, revealing a set of white teeth, to plant auspicious seeds. Tomorrow, I want you to personally sow these hopes into the soil of the Tang dynasty. Li Tai let out a cry of despair. Brother, I still have books to compile. Compile books? Li Yu sneered. Whoever does not show up tomorrow can forget about entering my Qingguang Hall in the future, and you can forget about tasting my dishes. Even that Rubik's Cube will be reclaimed. Li Shimin, listening nearby, not only refrained from intervening, but also set down his cup and nodded solemnly. What my son, Prince Yu, says is correct. My sons cannot be ignorant of agriculture. Tomorrow, I shall personally supervise. Anyone who dares to slack off shall face my wrath. The princes collectively thought, this meal has come at a high price. Gazing upon Li Yu's vibrant visage and recalling the warmth of the recent meal, their hearts were no longer filled with resistance. Chapter 42 3 Little Lolas at the third watch of the morning, before the Lingyun Pavilion. A royal sanctuary usually graced by the songs of birds and the fragrance of flowers, tranquility was abruptly shattered. Li Yu, clad in modern work attire that resembled a fitted uniform, with tightly rolled sleeves and pant legs, stood upon the freshly tilled ridge, engaging in chest-expanding exercises. His feet adorned with sturdy layered cloth shoes and a gleaming shovel in hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Before him lay the land, meticulously leveled overnight by the imperial guards, the original exotic flora and ornate pavilions replaced by rich fields exuding the earthy scent of freshly turned soil. The air was imbued with the morning's coolness, mingled with the refreshing aroma of freshly cut grass. Everyone's here? Li Yu paused, turning to observe. In the distance, a sparse group approached. Leading the way was Crown Prince Li Chengqian, donned in a practical narrow-sleeved outfit, striving to maintain an air of dignity, though his disheveled hair and sleepy eyes betrayed him. Following closely was Prince Li Tai, breathless from exertion. The chubby lad, normally lost in dreams at this hour, now trudged to the fields, his face resembling that of someone on the verge of tears. Prince Li Ku, on the other hand, appeared quite spirited, dressed in robust attire and remarkably wielding a hoe with a semblance of expertise. Trailing behind were a retinue of cheerleaders and child laborers, including Princess Li Lizzie, Prince Li Ji, Prince Li Zhen, Prince Li Shan, and Princess Xiazizi of Jinyang. However, to Li Yu's surprise, the group included 3 unfamiliar little Lolas. One, approximately 10 years old, had gentle features and donned a pale green dress, exuding a quiet elegance. Another, of the same age, held a small booklet and pen, her demeanor serene. The youngest, around 6 or 7, was clad in a vibrant red riding outfit, her royal lineage evident in her noble countenance. Greetings, esteemed Wang brother. The young princes and princesses said in unison as they approached, bowing in reverence. Please, there's no need for such formality. Li Yu waved his hand, curiously pointing towards the 3 newcomers. Who might these ladies be? Responding to my elder brother, Li Lizzie, the eldest sister, smiled as she assumed the role of spokesperson. This is my younger sister Qinghe, and this is Lin Xuan, along with Qingyang. Our mother issued a decree last night, stating that since this is a gathering of auspicious nature organized by you, elder brother, she wished for them to experience the world and learn from you as well. She insisted we, the elder siblings, should not conceal anything from them. Upon hearing this, Li Yu quickly grasped the underlying wisdom of Empress Zhongshan. Among these princesses, Qingyang was of true birth, while Qinghe and Lin Xuan were of lesser status, yet in this pivotal moment of familial unity. Bringing them all together not only illustrated the bond between the legitimate and illegitimate, but also granted them an opportunity to partake in essential matters. Well then, whether it be one sheep or a flock, we shall proceed, Li Yu chuckled, gesturing towards the 20 acres of land before him. Welcome to the labor reform. Oh no. I mean, the labor practice base of the Tang dynasty. Princess Qingyang blinked her large eyes at Li Yu and inquired with a bright voice, Wang brother. I have heard tales of the many amusements and delicacies here. Is it truly so? Li Yu gazed at the little girl, offering a smile as he crouched down. There are delightful treats and fun, but those are reserved for those who work. Here, if you do not labor, you shall not eat. Qingyang paused for a moment, then nodded earnestly. Qingyang can work. Mother said to heed the elder brother's words. Excellent. Such ambition. Li Yu commended, giving a thumbs up. Meanwhile, in the nearby floral pavilion, the atmosphere was somewhat delicate. Empress Changsun sat at the head of the table, cradling a cup of warm tea with an expression of calm composure. Before her sat a group of elegantly dressed concubines, led by concubine Wei and concubine Yin. Each held a delicate fan, their faces adorned with polite smiles. Your Majesty, sighed concubine Yang, the mother of Li Ku, as she dabbed her lips with a handkerchief. The emperor has sent the princes to till the fields? How novel. But the muddy ground is filthy and foul. What if they fall ill? Indeed, concubine Wei chimed in, her tone laced with concern. It is not that I pity the children, but they are, after all, princes. Their noble bodies are at risk in such damp soil, teeming with insects. What if they were to suffer irreparable harm? Empress Changsun frowned slightly, aware that these concubines were expressing their worries for their sons, while also seeking to test her. Just as she prepared to explain that this was a practice of auspicious farming, a clear voice echoed from the corridor outside the floral hall. Esteemed ladies, your words are misguided. Everyone turned to see Li Yu, dressed in simple attire and holding a large water jug, standing at the entrance. Not far behind him, Li Shimin stood with his hands clasped behind his back, clearly having listened for a while. Li Yu did not directly counter their concerns, but entered with a smile, performing a respectful gesture as a younger relative. Esteemed ladies, as elders, it is natural for you to be concerned for your younger brothers, and your compassion is commendable. This tone eased the tension among the concubines, who had been prepared to challenge him. Shifting his focus, Li Yu gestured towards the fields outside. This endeavor is not merely about farming. It is also about nurturing health. Nurturing health? Concubine Yin was taken aback. Precisely, Li Yu began to elucidate. Esteemed ladies, consider that the princes spend their days in the palace either studying or sitting idly, lacking physical exertion. This is akin to birds confined in a cage. They may appear precious but possess fragile constitutions. The earth holds vitality. Humans emerge from the soil and must connect with it. Exposure to sunlight bolsters yang energy, and sweating expels toxins. This is far more beneficial than consuming ginseng or bird's nest. Li Yu looked earnestly at concubine Wei. If you harbor doubts, you may send a letter to Qingqing Mountain and consult the esteemed immortal Sun Simiao. Mentioning the revered figure rendered the concubines speechless. In the Tang dynasty, the words of Sun Simiao often held more weight than imperial edicts. Moreover, Li Yu added pointedly, this also pertains to filial piety. The emperor toils tirelessly for the people of the Tang, and the princes cultivate auspiciousness with their own hands, offering it to the emperor and the realm. What greater expression of filial devotion and honor could there be? When history records this, it will speak of the prince's labor in the fields, empathizing with the common folk, pure filial piety that resonates with heaven. Esteemed ladies, does this reputation not far surpass that of being coddled? His discourse, weaving through health, filial piety, and reputation, left the concubines at a loss for words. At that moment, Li Shimin entered, a satisfied smile gracing his face. He refrained from reprimanding the concubines and instead took a seat beside Empress Changsun. Gazing at the assembly of ladies with a tone that was gentle yet unequivocal, my children shall roll in the mud. Only then will they comprehend the hardships of the common folk and the arduous journey of sustenance. This is for their own good. Now worry not. I have instructed the Imperial Medical Bureau to remain close at hand. They shall not come to harm. If you have nothing pressing, you may visit the fields and observe whether your sons exhibit more vigor than usual. This pronouncement from Li Shimin not only provided a graceful exit for the concubines, but also affirmed Li Yu's actions. The ladies exchanged glances, and ultimately, they rose to pay their respects, saying, Your Majesty is wise. We shall go and take a look. Chapter 43. Labor together as the sun ascended the palace walls. The newly cultivated land in the imperial garden basked in warmth. The royal autumn planting had officially reached a fervent stage. Li Yu had not truly compelled them to complete the entire 20 acres. Rather, he designated a trial plot of approximately half an acre, insisting that they personally partake in the sowing of potatoes. The allocation of tasks had been meticulously organized by Li Yu, taking into account not only physical strength, but also each individual's health condition. At the forefront was Prince Li Ku, clad not in cumbersome robes, but in a snug black outfit with arrow sleeves, accentuating the youthful vigor of his physique. Clutching a spade, he was responsible for the initial task of digging holes. Heave, Li Ku commanded, his voice resonating from deep within, as his arms flexed with muscle, driving the spade forcefully into the earth. The sharp blade sliced through the soft soil, lifting a neat clod. His movements were efficient and swift, each scoop consistent in depth, while beads of sweat trickled down his resolute profile, vanishing into the ground. For Li Ku, who bore the lineage of the former dynasty and had always tread cautiously, This unadulterated exertion of strength was exhilarating. Here, he was free from the burden of others' judgments, liberated from the need to weigh every word. He simply exerted his force. And the earth responded in kind. Be mindful of the depth. Potatoes should be planted shallow. Liu called out from behind. Understood. Li Ku replied without looking back, his spade moving ever more swiftly, sending clods of earth flying. Trailing behind Li Ku was the crown prince, Li Chengqian. Liu had deliberately assigned him the task of placing the seeds, a job that required little physical effort, primarily to accommodate his leg ailment. Carrying a bamboo basket filled with cut potato seed pieces, he traversed the furrows with deliberate caution, each step slow and steady. His right leg, burdened by an old injury, was put to the test on the uneven, soft earth, causing a twinge of pain in his knee. Yet, he persisted, refusing to complain. Observing Li Ku's sweat-drenched back, a surge of determination welled within him. As the crown prince, I cannot falter. At each hole, he bent down carefully, placing a seed piece at the bottom with meticulous attention. Eyes up, he murmured to himself, ensuring each placement was centered and oriented correctly. His earnestness made it seem as though he was not merely placing potatoes, but laying the very foundation of the Tang dynasty. Liu approached at an indeterminate moment, holding a long wooden stick wrapped in soft cloth, with a crossbar nailed to its lower end. Take this, Liu offered, handing over the stick. Don't strain yourself. Use this as a cane for support while planting. And remember, don't bend over too much, it could hurt your spine. Just throw the seeds accurately. Li Chengqian paused for a moment, examining the specially designed cane, and then meeting Liu's eyes, which held no trace of mockery, but rather genuine concern. Thank you, elder brother, he said, accepting the stick and testing its support. Indeed, the pressure on his right leg was significantly alleviated. Grateful, he glanced at Liu, took a deep breath, and adjusted his posture. With a swift motion, he foresaw the distance, flicked his wrist, and the seed landed precisely at the bottom of the hole. The sprout eyes facing upwards as Liu had instructed. Well done. Your skills in throwing have not gone to waste. Liu praised, eliciting a smile from Li Chengqian. If Li Chengqian was battling illness, then Prince Li Tai was engaged in a struggle for survival. For a man burdened by excessive weight, who typically required a sedan chair for even a few steps, traversing the soft, muddy ground was a torment in itself. Heaving heavily, Li Tai shuffled his plump form like a penguin. His task was to cover the soil over the seeds that Li Ku had placed, using his feet to push the earth back and compact it. While this might seem a simple task, every step for Li Tai caused his center of gravity to sway violently. Why is this ground so soft? He grumbled, beads of sweat trickling down his rounded chin, soaking his expensive silk garments. He felt as though his lungs might burst, his legs weighed down as if filled with lead. Ouch! At last, while turning, he slipped, losing his balance. Plop! He landed squarely in the freshly filled hole, half of his body sinking in like a giant radish planted in the earth. Laughter erupted around him. Warm and good-natured, Li Tai's face flushed a deep shade of crimson, mortified with shame. He was the illustrious Prince of Wei, yet here he was, sprawled in the mud. Just as he was about to express his indignation and call for assistance, he felt a firm grip under his arms. Li Ku, usually reticent yet remarkably efficient in his tasks, set down his tools and approached. Having trained in martial arts for years, he moved with grace even in the muddy terrain. Without uttering a word, he grasped Li Tai's arms and bellowed, up. A surge of strength lifted Li Tai from the ground. Be careful, the ground is unstable. Tread firmly before moving, Li Ku advised, brushing the dirt off Li Tai's back with an uncommon smile. If you're truly tired, take a break. I can help you cover a few rows. Li Tai stood momentarily bewildered. Typically, he and Li Ku engaged in subtle rivalries for favor, each looking down upon the other, Li Tai despising Li Ku's lineage, while Li Ku disdained Li Tai's favoritism. Yet, in this muddy field, during his most humbled moment, it was this third brother who extended a hand. Thank you very much, third brother, Li Tai murmured, the heat of embarrassment fading slightly from his face. As he gazed upon Li Ku's face, which bore the marks of mud yet retained an air of valor, Li Tai felt a sudden surge of pride within him. No need. I can manage alone. Gritting his teeth, he steadied himself once more, resolute in his belief that this soil could not prove more challenging to handle than composing an essay or solving mathematical problems. He dismissed the notion of rest and continued to shovel the earth with his feet. Although his posture remained comical, resembling a peculiar dance, his relentless determination garnered admiration. Upon the ridge of the field, the four princesses formed the most resplendent scene within the confines of the royal garden. Princess Li Lizzie of Chonglu, Princess Qing He, Princess Lin Chuan, and Princess Cheng Yang. Their task was to water the plants, a responsibility that was not without its difficulties. Liu had not permitted them to carry heavy buckets. Instead, he had prepared several exquisite long-spouted copper kettles. Sisters, keep up. Li Lizzie, as the elder sister of this group of young maidens, led the way with a copper kettle in hand. Today, she donned a light blue narrow-sleeved RU skirt, cinched at the waist for practicality, yet her demeanor still radiated the grace of a Tang dynasty princess. Approaching each meticulously sealed pit, she gently tilted the kettle, allowing a fine stream of water to flow forth, deftly moistening the soil without disrupting its compact form. Dear sister, my kettle is empty, Princess Cheng Yang exclaimed. Her cheeks flushed. Hand it over to me, said Princess Qing He, whose gentle nature shone through. Though she was yet to be wed, as the future daughter-in-law of the Cheng family, she already exhibited an air of maturity. She took Cheng Yang's empty kettle and approached the large water vat at the edge of the field, ladling water with a gourd scoop before returning. Meanwhile, Princess Lin Chuan held a small notebook, watering the plants while recording her observations. At the fourth quarter of the Qin hour, watered once. Soil absorbs water well. Why are you keeping track of this, Lin Chuan? Li Yu inquired, curiosity piqued as he leaned closer. Replying to my royal brother, Lin Chuan said shyly, closing her notebook. I wish to document how this auspicious growth occurs. Perhaps, in the future, I could include it in a book. Excellent. What a splendid idea. Li Yu commended her. You shall author this volume titled A Record of Auspicious Cultivation, with your name, Princess Lin Chuan. Her eyes brightened, and she nodded vigorously in agreement. As for the younger ones, Li Ji, Li Zhen, and Li Shun, they truly embody the spirit of camaraderie and support. Li Yu provided each of them with a small basket filled with water pouches and clean towels. Big pot. Water. Little CZ exclaimed, scampering toward Li Yu with short strides, holding up a water pouch. Li Yu knelt down, took a sip, then planted a kiss on her chubby little face. So sweet. You are such a good girl. 3 pots. Drink water. Little CZ then dashed toward Li Ku. Having just finished digging a pit, Li Ku, panting from exhaustion, quickly set aside his shovel, wiped his hands on his clothes, and cautiously accepted the water pouch. Gazing at the innocent smile of little CZ, he felt his strength renewed. Li Ji trailed closely behind Li Tai, cheering him on. Fourth brother, keep it up. Fourth brother, keep it up. A phrase learned from Li Yu. Li Tai, already fatigued, rolled his eyes at the incessant chant. You little rascal. Don't just shout. Help me wipe my sweat. Of course. Li Ji stood on tiptoe, brandishing a towel as he playfully wiped Li Tai's face, nearly obstructing his nostrils. Pa, are you attempting to commit fratricide? Li Tai exclaimed in exasperation, prompting laughter from those around. Meanwhile, Princess Li Lizzie gracefully assumed the role of caregiver. With a handkerchief in hand, she approached Li Chengqian, delicately wiping the sweat from his brow. Brother, are you weary? Perhaps you ought to take a break? Her gaze, filled with concern, lingered on her elder sibling's damp back. Not weary at all, Li Chengqian replied, his smile radiant, a genuine expression unfettered by the burdens of princely expectations. Lizzie, do you think my sewing is accurate? If I am unable to ascend to the throne, I could always seek a position in the Ministry of Revenue. Serving as an agricultural advisor could be quite commendable. Pa. Brother, what nonsense are you speaking? Li Lizzie playfully chided, feigning irritation as she gently swatted his arm. Your seedlings are the most precise. You are the finest prince in the realm. As for the 2 little ones, Li Ji and Xiao Zizi, they had completely unleashed their playful spirits following their initial supply run. They dashed along the furrows, as if on a treasure hunt. Li Ji was preparing to pilfer some potato chunks from Li Shimin to plant in his shoes, eliciting hearty laughter from the onlookers. Not far away, Xiao Zizi indeed discovered a treasure in the soil. A big pot. A big pot. Look, she exclaimed, brandishing a hefty, wriggling earthworm, unbothered by the dirt. As she scampered towards Li Yu, a long worm, a fleshy one from the ground. Li Yu was busy guiding Li Shimin and Empress Changsun in cutting the seed potatoes. Li Shimin insisted on doing it himself, claiming it added a sense of participation, and each slice was made with utmost seriousness. Witnessing this scene, Li Yu burst into laughter, lifting the muddy Xiao Zizi into his arms. Well done. Zizi is remarkable. This is a soil dragon, a treasure from the earth. With it, crops thrive. It signifies fertile land. He was unconcerned with the dirt, affectionately touching Xiao Zizi's muddy cheek, transforming her into a little calico cat. Go, show your father. This is an auspicious beast. Li Shimin set down his knife, captivated by the sight of his daughter, her face smeared with mud, yet beaming like a sunflower. Usually, the palace maids dressed her like a porcelain doll, forbidding any contact, yet now, despite her soiled appearance, she exuded vibrancy and charm. Well, my Zizi is also a skilled farmer. Li Shimin, disregarding the dirt on his robes, scooped up his daughter and planted a kiss on her muddy face, causing her to giggle uncontrollably. He turned to survey the fields, observing the mutual support between Chengqian and Qingke, the diligent efforts of Kuer, and the bustling activity of his daughters. In that moment, amidst the fields of the imperial garden, there were no emperors, no princes, no noble lords, only parents, sons, daughters, brothers, and sisters. The mingling of sweat and the scent of earth provided a comfort surpassing any palace incense. The icy barrier of power that had long existed between royal kin began to dissolve quietly, with each shovel and seed exchanged. Li Shimin gazed at the scene, momentarily entranced, prompting him to reflect on whether he had indeed overlooked much in the past. He provided the children with the finest education and the highest status. Yet he neglected to teach them how to be brothers and how to be a family. Li Yu, however, accomplished this simply through shared labor. As noon approached, the fields were tilled. Standing on the ridge, Li Yu gazed at the land imbued with hope and proclaimed loudly, everyone has worked hard to celebrate our successful inaugural royal labor, and to let you know what treasures we have sown. With a mischievous grin, he pointed towards the side hall. This noon, feel free to have some snacks to tide you over, and at the hour of the pig, we shall not go to the imperial kitchen. Instead, we will prepare a grand feast ourselves. Prepare a feast ourselves? The crowd gasped in astonishment. Chapter 45. The meal at the hour of the pig. In the storeroom of the Qingguang Hall's side hall, a piercing scream shattered the tranquility. No, Your Highness, those are precious treasures. They are our lifeblood. How can we eat them? Wang De clung desperately to the box containing the remaining potatoes and sweet potatoes, collapsing to the ground, weeping profusely, as if Li Yu were unearthing his ancestral grave. One potato is several pounds of grain, and one sweet potato is a whole batch of seedlings. We cannot eat them now. Li Yu, holding a kitchen knife, looked helplessly at the loyal yet stubborn old eunuch. Old Wang, let go. These samples were specifically brought to be consumed. This is called trial marketing. Do you understand? Marketing? What is marketing? Wang De asked, bewildered, with tears streaming down his face. Li Yu patiently explained, consider this. The emperor and the princes only know that these crops yield abundantly and are life-saving food. But they do not know how delicious they are. If they taste terrible, like pig feed, coarse and hard to swallow, will they promote them earnestly? Will the common people be willing to plant them? Only when they have tasted the sweetness and realize that these crops are not only life-sustaining, but also delectable delicacies fit for the gods, will they promote and protect them with fervor. Only then will the emperor truly cherish them. This is the principle of not being able to catch a wolf without letting go of the child. Do you understand? Wang De was taken aback. He blinked through his tear-filled eyes, contemplating this logic. It seemed somewhat reasonable. If these crops were truly delicious, the emperor would undoubtedly pay them more heed. Really? Wang De asked through his sobs. Will tasting them lead to faster promotion? Absolutely. Li Yu affirmed with conviction, I guarantee it. Once they take a bite, the status of these treasures will be secured. Ultimately, with tears in his eyes, Wang De opened the box, retrieving a potato while shedding tears as if each one was a piece of his flesh, muttering, may the treasures be forgiven. At 3/4 past the hour of the pig, the small kitchen of the Qingguang Hall was filled with the most esteemed individuals of the Tang dynasty. Li Yu called everyone inside. You reap what you sow. Once the planting is done, we must learn how to eat. Today, we shall take matters into our own hands and feast abundantly. Li Yu donned an apron, taking center stage, albeit in a rather unique fashion, with a small child perched on his neck. The child held a large green onion as a conductor's baton, waving it like a grand general. Big pot. Charge. Stir fry. All right. We heed the general's command. Li Yu teased, eliciting joyful laughter from the child. Everyone follow orders. Prepare the ingredients. Li Chengxian stood before the chopping board, wielding a kitchen knife. Although he was initially somewhat clumsy, his meticulous nature compelled him to slice the potatoes with deliberation, each strip uniform in thickness, reminiscent of a scholar meticulously reviewing official documents in pursuit of perfection. Big brother, your knife skills are commendable. With such focus, you could become a chef if you ever find yourself unemployed, Li Yu teased while chopping meat. Li Chengxian smiled faintly, his gaze unwavering, beads of perspiration forming on his forehead. You jest, brother. Yet, watching these potatoes transform under my blade brings a sense of tranquility, almost akin to zen. I need not ponder the troubles of the court, but rather how to execute this cut flawlessly. It is quite a delightful feeling. Li Yu, at a loss for words, gently patted Li Chengxian's shoulder in consolation. Meanwhile, Li Tai had developed a keen interest in the large iron wok. He found it imposing and befitting of his stature. Brother Yu, allow me to give this frying pan a try. I saw the fire you created yesterday. It was magnificent. Li Tai rolled up his sleeves, grasping the spatula with eager anticipation. All right, Qingke, you shall handle the spicy sour shredded potatoes. Pour in the oil. As Li Tai ladled in a spoonful of lard, the oil heated rapidly, sending up wisps of smoke. Add the meat slices. Sizzle. The meat hit the wok, unleashing a surge of smoke and a thunderous sound as flames leapt up nearly half a meter high. Ah! Li Tai leaped back in fright, nearly dropping the spatula. His round face paling as he exclaimed, what a commotion! Is it exploding? Guard! Guard! Fear not. That is merely the sound of water vaporizing. Stir fry. Quickly. Or it will burn. Li Yu shouted from the side. Gritting his teeth, Li Tai focused on the flames, mustering the courage to dive in, eyes shut, stirring haphazardly. The clattering of the spatula echoed as the meat changed color, and a rich aroma of savory meat mingled with a hint of char wafted into the air. His fear transformed into exhilaration. Delicious. Truly delightful. Haha, I can cook. I am the god of food. Li Tai exclaimed, his face flushed with excitement, as if he had just won a great battle. Li Ku, meanwhile, crouched beneath the stove, tasked with chopping wood and tending the fire. With each swing of his axe, he struck with precision, the firewood splitting readily. He adeptly controlled the flames, seamlessly transitioning between high and low heat, demonstrating an innate mastery over fire befitting a commander. Third brother, the fire is too fierce. Tone it down a bit. Li Yu called out. Understood. Li Ku skillfully withdrew a piece of firewood, instantly stabilizing the flames. Though covered in soot, he wore a radiant smile and even wiped the sweat from his brow, further smudging his face. Li Lizzie sat with the three princesses of Chengyang, Qinghe, and Lin Chuan, chatting as they husked corn, golden kernels piled high before them. Sister, this is quite sweet, Qingyang remarked, having snuck a raw kernel, her eyes sparkling with delight. Little glutton, brother Yu says it tastes even sweeter when cooked, Li Lizzie chuckled, playfully tapping her nose. But we must save the corn silk. The emperor says boiling it in water can reduce swelling. Emperor Li Shimin strolled through the kitchen, occasionally offering guidance. Chengqian, slice those finer. Don't make them into strips. Qingke, stir vigorously. Don't burn my auspicious ingredients. Finally, unable to contain himself any longer, he rolled up his sleeves. Step aside. Allow me to demonstrate my skills. He pushed past Li Ku, squatting before the stove where he was roasting sweet potatoes. In my days within the military, I was quite the adept at grilling. When it comes to roasting sweet potatoes, allow me to take charge. The timing is paramount. They must be crisp on the outside and tender within. The family huddled together in the smoky kitchen, devoid of hierarchy, united solely by the warmth of the flames and the shared effort for a single meal. As the clock struck the hour of the rooster, in the grand hall of Qingguang, a massive round table was laden with dishes crafted by everyone's own hands. In addition to the auspicious dishes, Li Yu had instructed the imperial chefs to prepare 2 platters each of the previously savored mapo tofu and kung pao chicken with walnuts, resulting in a table brimming with culinary delights. Let the feast begin. With Li Shimin's proclamation, everyone eagerly reached for their chopsticks. Chapter 46. The true power of the 3 grains. With Li Shimin's first movement of his chopsticks, a gastronomic delight commenced. Empress Changsun, with grace, was the first to select a golden, glistening morsel coated with a layer of crystalline syrup, honey-roasted sweet potato balls. These delectable spheres were made from steamed and mashed sweet potatoes, shaped into balls, deep-fried to a golden crisp, and then enveloped in Li Yu's specially prepared syrup. With a crisp snap, her teeth gently broke through the crunchy shell, and the syrup burst forth, releasing the steaming, tender sweet potato filling. The natural sweetness of the sweet potato combined with the caramelized aroma of the syrup erupted in her mouth, delivering an unadulterated sweetness that evoked immense joy. Empress Changsun's eyes sparkled as she covered her mouth with a handkerchief, exclaiming, "How could something be so soft and fragrant? This sweetness is not cloying like candy. It feels as if the warmth of autumn's sun has been encapsulated within." Little Zizi perched on Li Yu's specially crafted high chair, clutching a freshly made, pan-fried corn cake. The corn cakes shimmered with a golden hue, each kernel resembling yellow gemstones embedded in a golden platter, crisped by the frying oil, and sprinkled with a dash of brown sugar, no white sugar. Crunchy and sweet. As little Zizi took a bite, the delightful sound echoed, and her tiny feet danced excitedly in the air. This is even better than candy. Li Ji, a true carnivore, had a clear target. Beef stewed with potatoes. The beef, sourced from a specially designated fallen cow as instructed by Li Yu, was simmered in an iron pot until tender and flavorful. The potatoes absorbed the rich meat juices, becoming soft and creamy, melting effortlessly on the tongue. "Brother, you must try this potato," Li Ji exclaimed, his mouth full. "It's even tastier than the meat. The potato has absorbed all the flavors. It's so tender and fluffy." Li Tai had little time for conversation. Before him lay a generous plate of sour and spicy shredded potatoes. While this dish is commonplace in modern times, it offered an unprecedented texture in the Tang dynasty. The potatoes were cut into fine shreds, soaked in water, and quickly stir-fried with dried chili and Sichuan pepper in hot oil, retaining their ultimate crispness. Li Tai eagerly picked up a hefty portion, stuffing it into his mouth. Slurp. Sour. Spicy. Crunchy. The tang of vinegar instantly stimulated his salivary glands. The heat of the chili ignited his appetite, and the crisp texture of the potato shreds produced a delightful crunch between his teeth. "Refreshing," Li Tai exclaimed, reveling in the exquisite sour and spicy flavor. These unassuming potatoes, when shredded, become such a delightful accompaniment to the meal. "Bring me another bowl of sweet potato and corn porridge." The sweet potato and corn porridge, simmered to a golden, thick consistency, featured tender chunks of sweet potato and fragrant cornmeal. A sip of it warmed both the stomach and the heart, perfectly alleviating the spiciness of the sour and spicy shredded potatoes. Li Shimin observed as his family remained engrossed in their meal, unable to resist the temptation himself. He picked up a piece of beef and paired it with a spoonful of porridge, the solid sense of satisfaction prompting a long sigh of contentment. "Marvelous," exclaimed Li Shimin, setting down his chopsticks and gazing at Li Yu with a sense of nostalgia. These dishes, seemingly unremarkable at first glance, possess such diverse culinary potential. They can be sweet or savory, a side or a main. This auspicious dish truly deserves its name. Watching as everyone devoured their meal with cheerful faces, he pondered his next educational step. Once everyone had nearly finished and began to sip tea to aid digestion, Li Shimin suddenly furrowed his brow. He pointed to the half-eaten plate of sour and spicy shredded potatoes and the bowl of rich, saucy beef stew, turning to Li Yu with a hint of scrutiny and concern. "While these dishes are undeniably delicious, I find myself perplexed. Pray speak." "Although these dishes are delightful, they are also quite costly," Li Shimin stated bluntly. "The sour and spicy shredded potatoes require a significant amount of oil for stir-frying, along with vinegar, Sichuan pepper, and chili. The beef stew demands ample meat, and the honey-glazed sweet potato balls consume even more oil and sugar." Standing by the window, he gazed into the pitch-black night, his tone somber. "You are aware that the common folk of our great Tang dynasty seldom enjoy a meal of meat throughout the year, and oil is a precious commodity. If this auspicious dish must be prepared in such a manner, I fear that while they may grow the ingredients, they cannot afford to consume them." As these words left his lips, the joyful atmosphere in the hall abruptly shifted to one of solemnity. Li Chengqian, Li Tai, and Li Ku paused in their actions, contemplating the gravity of the issue presented by Li Yu. It was a pragmatic concern. The promotion of new grains could not rely solely on royal methods. Li Yu had anticipated this. He refrained from arguing, instead rising to approach a small hearth in the corner. There lay 3 items in their most primal state, devoid of any seasonings or culinary techniques: a charred potato with skin, a slightly scorched ear of corn, and a sweet potato oozing with syrupy goodness. Using a pair of tongs, Li Yu placed these 3 items onto a plate and presented them to Li Shimin. "Uncle, the answer to your question lies here." He picked up the roasted potato, gently blowing off the ash before breaking it apart. A fragrant aroma of pure starch, imbued with the essence of earth, wafted forth, revealing the white, soft flesh within. "Try this." Nothing added, not even salt. Li Shimin hesitated briefly before accepting it, taking a bite. Dry, yet fragrant. Surprisingly palatable. Though it may lack flavor, it is quite filling. He then reached for the sweet potato that Li Yu offered. As he peeled back the skin, golden-hued flesh emerged, his fingers coated in sticky syrup. With one bite, the natural sweetness flooded his mouth. "Sweet. This sweetness," Li Shimin exclaimed in delight. "It is even purer than that of the honey-glazed version." Finally, he turned his attention to the corn. Li Shimin took a bite of the roasted corn, its charred fragrance wafting through the air, becoming increasingly delectable with each chew. Li Yu gazed at Li Shimin, his voice resonating. "Second uncle, this embodies the true divine power of auspiciousness. That lavish feast earlier was to demonstrate its exquisite taste, enticing the nobility to promote it. While this platter of roasted fare represents its promise to the common folk, no oil, no meat, not even a pot is required. Just a heap of fire. Toss it in, and it's ready to eat. Furthermore, it provides sustenance, vigor, and even a hint of sweetness. For the common people, deliciousness is a luxury, but survival is paramount. Yet, these three elements offer them the foundation for life, along with a morsel of sweetness that doesn't require expenditure. Li Yu pointed at the roasted sweet potato. For a starving child in times of disaster, this humble sweet potato is more fragrant than any delicacy. Li Shimin, moved by his words, clutched half of the roasted sweet potato tightly, as if grasping the lifeblood of the Tang dynasty. He turned, his gaze sweeping over his three sons, Chengqian, Qingke, and Ku'er. The three immediately stood up, hands at their sides, solemnly attentive. Chapter 47. Inquiry into governance. You have all tilled the land today and partaken in this auspiciousness. I wish to inquire how we might promote this bounty across the realm. This is not merely agricultural policy, it is a matter of state. Speak freely. This was an unexpected inquiry into governance, a silent contest of wits. Crown Prince Li Chengqian was the first to step forward. After a moment of contemplation, he spoke with a measured tone, embodying the steadiness characteristic of a future monarch. Your Majesty, I believe this auspiciousness is indeed commendable, yet the populace is often uninformed and resistant to change. A sudden promotion may incite doubt. We must prioritize stability. I suggest we first trial it in the imperial farms for a year. Once a bountiful harvest demonstrates its remarkable yield, the Ministry of Revenue can issue directives for local governments to allocate public lands for trial cultivation. Additionally, Your Majesty could decree that all who plant this auspicious crop be exempt from taxes for a year, thus incentivizing them. Though this approach may be slow, it is prudent and will not provoke civil unrest, allowing the people to witness its benefits firsthand. This exemplified a typical Confucian approach to benevolent governance, steady and methodical. Devoid of fault. Li Shimin nodded slightly, neither affirming nor denying. The conservative approach is acceptable. Li Tai, unable to contain himself, fanned himself with a folding fan and stepped forward, his chubby face alight with shrewdness and calculation. Father, elder brother's method is far too slow. The Tang dynasty is in dire need of grain. Time is of the essence. I propose a strategy that could spread this crop throughout Guangzhou within a year. Oh, pray, enlighten us. Li Shimin expressed his interest. Merchants, Li Tai declared, I believe we can sell the seeds of this auspiciousness at a premium to major trading houses while promising to purchase their harvests. Merchants, driven by profit, will undoubtedly strive to promote it among tenants. Simultaneously, I could compile a recipe for auspiciousness, sharing today's delightful dishes, allowing the taverns and eateries of Chang'an to use it as a marketing gimmick. If the wealthy take a liking to it, prices will soar, and the common folk will eagerly rush to cultivate it. This is what I call leveraging strength against strength. Li Yu, listening from the side, raised an eyebrow. This little chubby fellow showed signs of market economics, albeit with a somewhat mercenary attitude, yet his efficiency was undeniably impressive. Li Shimin chuckled. Clever ideas abound. But what if merchants hoard and monopolize, harming the farmers? Li Tai paused, scratching his head, and remarked, it appears we require the oversight of the authorities. Finally, it was Li Ke's turn. In his eyes, reminiscent of Emperor Li Shimin, sparkled a certain brilliance. He clasped his hands and spoke with a resonant and forceful voice. Father, I believe that auspicious omens should first be introduced into the military camp. The army is the nation's sharpest weapon. I am willing to lead a regiment to the northern frontier to cultivate these potatoes and corn. By training our soldiers while simultaneously farming, when autumn arrives, our military provisions will be self-sufficient, thus alleviating the burdens of transportation for the court and ensuring that our soldiers are well-fed and vigorous. If these crops are indeed as resilient to cold and drought as my brother Yu claims, they could blossom across the southern and northern deserts. At that time, wherever our Tang cavalry goes, our granaries shall follow. The Turks will falter even before they strike. This auspicious omen is a divine instrument for the destruction of the Turks. Excellent, Li Shimin exclaimed, slapping his thigh, his eyes alight with admiration. Li Ke's words struck a chord with him. As a military emperor, he valued martial prowess above all. Cultivating land to sustain troops, and waging war to sustain war. Your words resonate deeply with me. Witnessing their father's praise of the third son, Li Chengqian and Li Tai both exhibited discomfort. Suddenly, Li Yu began to applaud. Clap, clap, clap. The sound echoed resoundingly in the quiet hall. Marvelous, truly marvelous. Li Yu rose and stepped between the three brothers, his face adorned with genuine admiration. He felt compelled to balance the scales before Li Shimin's favoritism grew more pronounced. My second uncle, having three brothers is indeed a blessing for the Tang, Li Yu declared, raising his thumb in approval, entering the role of a master diplomat. Eldest brother Chengqian is steady and benevolent. This is the foundation of governance. Promoting auspicious omens indeed requires such subtle and patient nurturing, which is the cornerstone of civil administration. Fourth brother Qingke possesses a lively mind and understands the utilization of commercial leverage. This is the art of enriching the nation. Without merchants to facilitate circulation, even the finest auspicious omen cannot reach Chang'an. Third brother Ku, with his far-sighted vision, recognizes the strategic value of these omens. This is the path to strengthening our military. Li Yu gazed at Li Shimin, his voice rising with fervor. These three elements are indispensable. If we could combine their strategies, with the eldest overseeing civil affairs to ensure the people's benefit, the fourth driving commerce to invigorate circulation, and the third safeguarding the borders while cultivating the land to strengthen our forces, then this auspicious omen would not merely be a potato, but rather the wings for the ascendance of the Tang. My second uncle, with these 3 prodigious sons assisting you. What is there to fear for the prosperity of the Tang? What nation would dare to defy us? This eloquent discourse was impeccably crafted, praising each individual while intertwining their strengths into a cohesive force, delighting Li Shimin immensely. Ha! Wonderful. They are all my Li family's prodigies. Li Shimin's countenance radiated joy, his laughter causing the rafters to tremble. You 3 brothers each possess unique talents. As long as you unite in purpose, what challenges remain in this world? I am truly delighted today. Li Chengqian, Li Tai, and Li Ku exchanged glances, and in that moment, the animosity that had once brewed between them, even to the extent of wishing the other to vanish, dissipated significantly amidst the warm atmosphere of the auspicious banquet and Li Yu's incisive analysis. In its place emerged a sense of relief, being recognized by their father and understood by their elder brother. In the midst of joyous laughter and familial warmth, a sudden burst of a long-forgotten Azure system panel appeared before Li Yu's eyes. System notification. Host has completed the Royal Family Reunion Banquet event. Current scene trust level assessment in progress. As lines of data cascaded before him, Li Yu's heartbeat quickened slightly. Li Chengqian, Crown Prince Trust Level 65. Note. You have provided him with dignity and hope for health. Li Tai, King of Wei Trust Level 58. Note. The overwhelming culinary delights and intellect have compelled his admiration. Li Ku, King of Wu Trust Level 62. Note. The world map has ignited his ambitions. Li Lizzie, Princess Chong Lu Trust Level 68. Note. Aesthetic resonance and the romance of the music box. Li Ji, King of Jean Trust Level 55. Note. Lego blocks and delectable meatballs. Li Mingda, Princess Jinyang Trust Level 85. Note. You are her beloved candy big brother. New additions. Princess Qingyang, Princess Linchuan, Princess Qinghe. Average Trust Level 52. Note. An unprecedented familial warmth. Congratulations, host. All core royal members have surpassed a trust level of 50. Achievement unlocked. Navigator of the Heavenly Family. Rewards granted. Lifespan extended. 120 days. Current remaining lifespan significantly increased. Pathological correction. Cancer pain reduced by 50 after stacking. The pain is merely a remnant of 10, hardly affecting daily life. Physical function. Physical fitness restored to a level of 80, no longer easily winded. Material limitation. Each traveler may carry a 24-inch suitcase of goods. Personnel limitation. The limit for round-trip travelers increased to 7. Note. Traveling with any individual whose trust level is below 50 will incur an additional 72 hours of cooldown time. In that instant, Li Yu felt an unusual lightness in his body, and his breathing steadied with newfound strength. Taking a deep breath, he clenched his fist, his knuckles firm. This long-lost sense of control brought an involuntary smile to his lips. Well, what is the matter? Li Shimin keenly sensed the shift in Li Yu's aura and inquired with concern. Chapter 48. The Old Man Nothing, Second Uncle. Li Yu relaxed his brow, revealing a brilliant smile that dazzled as he continued. Seeing our family so harmonious fills me with joy, invigorating my spirit. Good. Feeling invigorated is excellent. Li Shimin laughed heartily. Seizing the momentum, Li Yu stepped forward, surveying the gathering, and raised his voice slightly. Second Uncle, since everyone is feeling energized, and as we aspire to be the pillars of the Tang dynasty, we must not only rely on our intellect, but also possess robust physiques. As I mentioned earlier, the eldest requires rehabilitation for his mobility, and the fourth is in need of weight loss. Even you, Second Uncle, though soon to be emperor, have you not felt a touch of breathlessness when climbing stairs these past years? Li Shimin instinctively touched his slightly protruding belly, feeling a twinge of embarrassment as he cleared his throat. Ahem, national affairs are pressing, leading to neglect in equestrian skills. Therefore, Li Yu snapped his fingers. I propose the formal establishment of the Royal Tang Dynasty Sports Committee, beginning tomorrow, at the hour of Chun. All princes are to assemble at the entrance of the Qingguang Hall. We shall practice our exercises, engage in running, and partake in ball games. Who is in favor? Who is against? I am in favor. Li Ku was the first to leap forth, for such matters suited him perfectly. I shall join as well. Li Chengqian, motivated by the condition of his leg, exhibited unwavering determination in his eyes. Li Tai, with a pained expression, gazed at the half-eaten sweet potato in his hands. Yet under the stern gaze of Li Shimin, he could only feebly raise his hand. I shall join too. Excellent. It is settled then. Li Shimin declared with a resounding finality, brimming with confidence. I shall arrive after the morning court. I am eager to witness whether your celestial training can restore me to the age of 18. Laughter erupted once more within the hall. The little prince clapped his hands in delight, cheerfully chanting, 18. 18. However, just as the atmosphere reached its zenith, as if the future of the Tang dynasty was ablaze with sunshine and hope, the doors of the hall creaked open. The motion was slight, yet the person entering moved with urgency, almost ushering in a chill reminiscent of an autumn night. It was the deputy chief of the inner palace. Usually the most composed individual, yet now his face betrayed an unsettling disarray, beads of sweat forming on his brow, his complexion pale beneath the flickering candlelight. He hastily approached the center of the hall and, with a thud, knelt down, his voice low but trembling. Your Majesty, there has been an incident. The smile on Li Shimin's face did not immediately fade, yet his phoenix eyes narrowed, an invisible pressure emanating from him, causing the surrounding atmosphere to drop several degrees. He set down his teacup with a light touch, yet it emitted a distinct clink. Just one word, speak. It bore the weight of 1,000 burdens. The deputy chief did not dare to raise his gaze, fear lacing his voice. An urgent report from the Dun Palace. The retired emperor has just collapsed unexpectedly. The imperial physicians have already arrived, but the chief physician reports that the pulse is extremely ominous. What did you say? In an instant, Li Shimin sprang to his feet. In that fleeting moment, he was no longer the jovial father nor the strategist king. He was merely a son receiving grave news about his ailing father. His countenance drained of color, not from rage, but from a deep-seated anxiety and fear. It was the panic of a child wishing to care for a parent, only to find time slipping away. Prepare the horses. Li Shimin's tone was urgent as he strode towards the exit, shedding his somewhat cumbersome outer robe and tossing it to a nearby maid. Guanyin, you are frail. Do not catch a chill. Keep watch over the children. Chengqian, Qingke, Ku'er, and Yuer, come with me. Immediately. There were no superfluous words, no pointless reproaches. At this critical juncture, Li Shimin exhibited remarkable decisiveness. Yet Li Yu clearly observed that as he crossed the threshold, he stumbled slightly, almost tripping over the doorframe. Dun Palace. The night was deep, and the autumn wind howled. In stark contrast to the warmth of the Qingguang Hall, this place felt like an entirely different realm. Withered leaves clung to the eaves of the palace, and the red paint on the window frames was peeling. The air was thick with an overwhelming herbal scent. A decaying aroma characteristic of those who have long been bedridden, mingled with the melancholy essence of the elderly. The chamber was dimly lit, with several oil lamps casting tiny halos that illuminated the physicians and palace maids kneeling on the floor. Each of them held their breath, and the silence in the hall was terrifying, broken only by the occasional stifled sigh of the physician. Li Shimin strode into the hall. The gust of wind he created causing the curtains to flutter wildly. Unlike his usual composed demeanor, he rushed to the bedside with heavy, urgent steps. There lay the once mighty Emperor Li Yuan, who had swept across the world from Jinyang, now resembling a withered branch, curled beneath the embroidered quilt. His cheeks were sunken, cheekbones pronounced, and his complexion resembled that of aged window paper, his breathing so faint it was nearly imperceptible. Only the slight rise and fall of his chest attested to his existence. What is the condition of the Grand Emperor? Li Shimin grasped the arm of the chief physician who was about to administer an acupuncture needle. Startled, the physician knelt quickly upon recognizing the emperor. Unable to conceal the truth, he reported as calmly as he could, though beads of sweat betrayed his anxiety. Your Majesty, the Grand Emperor is suffering from emotional distress. Exacerbated by the heat of his temper, coupled with his advanced age, there are signs of organ failure. We have just administered the golden needle, barely sustaining his breath. He paused, lowering his head further, too afraid to meet the emperor's gaze. However, the Grand Emperor's condition resembles that of a candle burning low, hollow within. If this pent-up energy cannot be released, I fear he may not survive the coming year. In less than a year. Li Shimin's hand fell limply away as he gazed upon the frail elder, a profound sorrow engulfing him. Memories flooded back of his father lifting him above his head, of fighting side by side during the uprising in Jinyang, and of that fateful day at Xuanwu Gate, when his father's eyes had reflected a mixture of fear and estrangement. For years, he had endeavored to mend their father-son relationship, hoping to bring joy to his father and prove himself a worthy son and emperor. He had believed there was ample time, that as long as he provided materially, his father would eventually forgive him. Yet now, time was running out. Li Yu stood behind, observing the scene, his heart heavy with sorrow as well. Was it the revelry from their side that had stirred such turmoil? He pondered, furrowing his brow. The old man lay in silence, while laughter and joy echoed from the adjacent room, igniting feelings of neglect and despair that might have pushed him to the brink. Chapter 49. The reckless plan. Li Yu's brow furrowed deeply. This conjecture weighed heavy on his heart. If indeed the merriment next door had become the final straw for the old man, then this banquet intended for celebration had inadvertently turned into a harbinger of death. This realization unsettled him, as he felt an unfamiliar burden of responsibility. At this moment, Li Chengqian, Li Tai, and Li Ku were also kneeling at the bedside, softly weeping. Though their interactions with their grandfather had been few, the bond of blood still remained. Witnessing their once mighty father now so frail, they could not help but empathize with his plight. All of you, step back and allow me some quietude. Li Shimin waved his hand, his voice hoarse and weary, as if all vitality had been drained from him, aging him a decade in an instant. The imperial physicians, as if granted a reprieve, withdrew, leaving only a few family members in the chamber. Li Shimin sat by the bed, clasping the frail hand of Li Yuan, silent tears cascading down his cheeks. He wept quietly. After a considerable pause, Li Shimin seemed to recall something and abruptly turned his head. His gaze scanned the room, passing over his three kneeling sons, before locking onto Li Yu with the intensity of a searchlight. Yuer, Li Shimin beckoned, his voice somewhat rasping. Come here. Li Yu stepped forward. Li Shimin pulled him into a corner behind the screen, away from the three princes. In the dim light of the corner, illuminated only by a solitary lamp flickering against the wall, their shadows elongated and distorted. Li Shimin drew Li Yu closer, his hands, usually wielding a sword, now gripping Li Yu's shoulders. Yuer, I ask you, he began, you heard what the physician said. What is your perspective? Li Yu looked at Li Shimin, hesitating to respond as he organized his thoughts and assessed the risks. Second uncle, he sighed, lowering his voice to a calm tone. The physician speaks the truth. It may even be worse. Why? Li Shimin pressed. This ailment has not arisen overnight. It stems from the natural decline of bodily functions, which is merely one aspect. The second, and most fatal, is a malady of the heart. Li Yu pointed to his chest, harboring a pent-up frustration, a resentment towards both the palace and the solitude. Today's fainting spell was likely due to the overwhelming joy on our side contrasting with the desolation here, creating an unbearable psychological disparity that caused his blood to stagnate. I know everything, Li Shimin lamented. But what can I do? I have given him the finest of everything, yet he remains unhappy. He still resents me. I wish to be filial, yet at times he does not even allow me to enter. Yuer, do not analyze the illness for me. I merely wish to know what to do. Faced with Li Shimin's pressing inquiries, Li Yu fell silent for a moment. He cautiously proposed a conservative solution. Second uncle. If it is a matter of conservative treatment, I may be of some assistance. How? We could relocate our royal exercise group, Li Yu suggested, gesturing outside. From tomorrow I, along with Cheng Qian and Qin Ke, will come to the entrance of Dan Palace every morning to exercise, chant slogans, and bring Xiao Zi and Ji Nu to dance before him. I even had a sign made, called playing cards, to entertain the old master. By using familial affection and lively activities, we may alleviate his loneliness, perhaps improving his spirits and prolonging his days. Upon hearing this, the flicker of hope in Li Shimin's eyes extinguished in an instant. He shook his head, his voice hoarse. It is futile, utterly futile. This method may have been effective years ago, but now the physician has stated that he is hollow within. Mere flattery cannot save his life. He could depart at any moment. Li Shimin suddenly raised his head, his gaze sharp as a blade, piercing Li Yu's heart. Yuer, you come from the future. You possess miraculous medicines and extraordinary skills. Do not offer me these trivial remedies. I seek to save a life. I wish for him to endure. Is there no other way? This was a son's desperate plea. Li Yu gazed at Li Shimin, inhaling deeply. He understood the necessity of speaking the truth. Closing his eyes, he contemplated for several seconds. This decision was utterly insane, fraught with tremendous risk, and once uttered, there would be no turning back. When he reopened his eyes, Li Yu's expression had transformed, becoming solemn and resolute. Second uncle, Li Yu spoke in a hushed tone, each word seeming to emerge with great effort. There is indeed another method. However, Li Yu emphasized, this approach entails considerable risk for both you and the Tang royal family. It could even be deemed a gamble. Speak. Li Shimin commanded without hesitation. Li Yu nodded slightly and slowly articulated, the medical conditions here cannot save a life. To force an extension of life, we must seek another place. Return to the modern era. Take the old man to that world. What? Li Shimin's mind was engulfed in chaos. Although he had anticipated Li Yu would mention that world, hearing the notion of transporting the Emperor Emeritus there still left him in shock. Li Yu did not afford him time to recover from his astonishment. He spoke rapidly, like a machine gun. In that world, we can access the finest hospitals. Enter the ICU, utilize ventilators, and employ the most advanced medications and equipment. Only the technology there can forcibly pull the old man back from the brink of death. Moreover, Li Yu continued, merely treating the body is insufficient. We must also address the heart. In Chang'an, he is always the Emperor Emeritus, your shadow wherever he goes. Once there, no one will recognize him. He will merely be an ordinary old man. Allow him to experience a world devoid of emperors, to play mahjong, to engage in chess with common folk. A change of environment will sever the ties of sorrow here, enabling his heart to heal. Li Shimin was rendered speechless. Taking his father to the future? To a world without emperors? This was simply inconceivable. Yet Li Yu was not finished. Second uncle, since we are returning to the modern era, there is an even more pressing concern. Li Yu looked intently at Li Shimin and proposed an even more audacious plan. Since we are to treat, we cannot focus solely on the old man. What do you mean? Li Shimin was taken aback, struggling to grasp the concept. Li Yu counted on his fingers, his demeanor serious. Consider this. Father has hypertension. You have hereditary risks for hypertension. Cheng Qian requires examination and treatment for his leg ailment. Qin Ke is showing early signs of severe obesity complications. And although Ant's respiratory condition is stable, a comprehensive lung CT is necessary. Moreover, little Zizi has a weak constitution and needs to enhance his immunity. Li Yu even pointed to himself, stating, I too am a patient. Fixating on Li Shimin's eyes, he articulated a plan that could send tremors through the Tang court. Our entire Li family is riddled with ailments. Therefore, my suggestion is to form a group, to take the whole family back to the modern era, to embark on a comprehensive medical journey together. Li Shimin felt as though he might explode. Taking the entire family to the future? This was tantamount to uprooting the Tang royal family altogether. If something were to go awry, if one were unable to return, the Tang dynasty would truly face its demise. Chapter 50. The tour guide hearing Li Shimin's lips trembled as he inquired, Yuer, this is exceedingly perilous. How many individuals will accompany you? What is the means of travel? Is the destination safe? Li Yu calmly analyzed. Due to the constraints of the Celestial Realm's regulations, I am permitted to escort a maximum of 7 individuals, including myself. The places are indeed precious. I have already formulated the list. You, me, the old man, and my aunt. That accounts for 4. 3 slots remain. Designated for Chengqian's leg treatment, Qingqiu's weight loss, and Xiao Zizi's vaccination. That makes exactly 7. Upon hearing this enumeration, Li Shimin's heart raced. This meant taking away all that he held dear. He fell into a deep silence, embroiled in an internal struggle. He paced in a small corner, his steps heavy and slow, his brows knitted together in a furrow, and he unconsciously twirled the ring on his finger. This was a high-stakes gamble. The stakes involved the lives of his entire family, as well as the fate of the Tang dynasty. Yet, listening to the faint breaths of Li Yuan beyond the screen, recalling the recent recovery of Empress Changsun, remembering Qingqian's slightly limping gait, and pondering Qingqiu's labored breathing, his rationality as an emperor urged him to remain steadfast and not take reckless risks. However, his instincts as a son, husband, and father compelled him to acquiesce. After a prolonged moment, Li Shimin halted his pacing, lifted his head, and found his thoughts tumultuous and conflicted. Allow me a moment to ponder. Li Yu did not press him further, merely stating, Second uncle, take as long as you need to decide. But the old man's health is of utmost urgency. Outside the screen, Li Chengqian, Li Tai, and Li Ku remained kneeling. Although the specifics of the conversation behind the screen were inaudible, they could vaguely discern the fervent expressions on their father's and Prince Yu's faces. And they sensed the weighty atmosphere. Observing their father's resolute determination to take Prince Yu with him, the trio's thoughts became exceedingly intricate. Li Chengqian lowered his head, his fingers digging into the seams of the tiled floor, feeling a pang of bitterness akin to having consumed vinegar. In such a critical moment, their father did not consult the imperial physicians, did not inquire about him, the crown prince, nor about Qingke, the favored one, but instead sought out Prince Yu first. It appeared that in their father's heart, the significance of Prince Yu had surpassed that of all his biological sons, and he regarded him as the last beacon of hope. Stealing a glance at the shadow cast upon the screen, Li Chengqian gradually transformed his feelings of bitterness into acceptance and reverence. Very well, as long as it can save grandfather, I harbor no jealousy. If he can indeed accomplish what the physicians cannot, then he possesses divine capabilities, and I, as the crown prince, shall hold him in high esteem. Moreover, if I can cling to this powerful ally, might my own afflictions also find remedy? Li Tai, on the other hand, recoiled slightly. His small eyes filled with awe and calculation. Even the imperial physicians had deemed the situation hopeless. Could Prince Yu possibly have a solution? Their father's expression was unmistakably one of desperation. If he truly could bring about a recovery, then Prince Yu would undoubtedly be a miracle worker. I must conduct myself with utmost propriety moving forward, never to challenge such divine prowess. This powerful ally, I, Li Qingke, shall steadfastly rely upon. Not only shall I cling to him, but I shall also ensure my attachment is unbreakable. Li Ke clenched his fists, a glimmer of determination flashing in his eyes. Indeed, Prince Yu possesses an unfathomable depth. The trust bestowed upon him by our father surpasses that of any of us. This may, in fact, be a fortuitous circumstance, as he harbors no ill intentions towards his brothers. On the contrary, he consistently provides support, and by aligning myself with Prince Yu, I might truly realize my aspirations. Though each of the three harbored distinct thoughts, they collectively entertained a singular notion, the necessity of clinging tightly to Prince Yu's formidable influence, never to loosen their grasp. As night fell, the Taiji Palace enveloped in solemnity, while the physicians at the Dan Palace busied themselves with the last flickers of life of the retired emperor. In stark contrast, the Ganlu Hall remained eerily quiet. This hall served as the epicenter of power in the Tang dynasty, the abode of Emperor Li Shimin and his consort. At this moment, all extraneous individuals had been dismissed. Li Shimin reclined upon the central soft couch, his brow furrowed and fingers drumming nervously against his knee. Producing a muted sound, Empress Changsun sat beside him, clad in a simple, unadorned dress. Although she had not applied any cosmetics and her complexion bore the pallor of recent illness, her regal bearing and fierce maternal instinct cast a heavy atmosphere upon the hall. Almost suffocating, Li Yu stood at the foot of the hall, appearing composed, yet internally he felt a twinge of anxiety. Fully aware that the forthcoming conversation would determine the fate of the Tang royal family, Wang De remained hunched in the shadows of the hall, ears perked attentively. Where? Empress Changsun began, her tone markedly more serious than usual, imbued with an air of scrutiny. Your uncle has conveyed your words to me. She leaned slightly forward, her gaze fixed intently on Li Yu's eyes. You wish to transport the entire family to that modern world, including the retired emperor and even Chengqian, Qingke, and Zizi. This endeavor is of monumental significance. A single misstep could lead the Li family to utter ruin. While I trust you, I bear the weight of responsibility for the lives of this entire family. Taking a deep breath, her tone intensified further. Now, within these walls, it is only our family present. I require the details, the most authentic details. Explain to me meticulously, what will our family eat? What will we wear? Where will we reside? Where will we sleep? Should illness arise, how will the physicians of that world treat us? If we are discovered, what will transpire? Li Shimin also raised his head, his gaze piercing. Indeed, you must relay every minutiae. I wish to understand the nature of our future. Li Yu nodded, gathering his thoughts, and began the most pivotal briefing of his life. Uncle, aunt, I shall address each element of our journey, from sustenance to shelter. Li Yu gestured, outlining his plan. First, regarding transportation and accommodation, our party consists of 7 individuals, a considerable number. I assure you, upon our arrival, we shall not linger. I will immediately procure an SUV, a spacious vehicle capable of accommodating all 7 of us. Its tinted windows will conceal our presence from the outside. Once we enter the vehicle, we shall become a mobile fortress, rendering our identities a mystery to anyone outside. Then we shall not reside in my modest dwelling. Instead, I will utilize my identity to rent a detached villa in the suburbs. A villa? Li Shimin raised an eyebrow. Indeed, it is a spacious house with a garden. Entirely private, featuring 7 or 8 rooms, ample enough for each of us to have our own. Moreover, it is fully equipped with air conditioning, television, and large beds, everything one could desire. Living there would be akin to residing in this Ganlu palace. We could shut the doors and lead our lives without interference. Li Shimin nodded slightly. This arrangement indeed sounded prudent, addressing both the issue of overcrowding and ensuring our privacy. There is no need to worry about meals either. Li Yu chuckled. Over there, cooking does not require fire. We utilize natural gas and electricity. With the flick of a switch, the flame ignites. Furthermore, if we prefer not to cook, there exists a miraculous service known as takeout. Li Yu produced his phone from his pocket, though it had no signal. He gestured with just a few taps on this glowing little square, whatever one desires, be it Haidaleo hot pot, KFC fried chicken, or even the exquisite Huayang and Cantonese cuisine surpassing that of the imperial kitchen, will arrive at our doorstep within half an hour, delivered by riders clad in yellow or blue, mounted on swift steeds, electric bikes. Empress Changsun exclaimed in astonishment. So with just a click, food is delivered? This truly is a divine life. Over there. This is the ordinary existence of the common folk. Li Yu maintained his composure, exuding confidence. As for transportation, there is Didi, an on-demand carriage service. Albeit these carriages are crafted of metal and travel faster than the wind, complete with air conditioning. At this juncture, Li Yu glanced at Empress Changsun and, feeling somewhat shy, added, "Aunt, there is one more place I believe you will find delightful, the restroom." Empress Changsun flushed. "What are you talking about, child? This is a significant matter." Li Yu asserted. In the Tang dynasty, the public toilet, to be frank, was far from pleasant and required manual maintenance. But over there, we have flush toilets. They are porcelain chairs that are quite comfortable to sit on. After use, one merely presses a small button, and with a whoosh, the waste is whisked away without a trace, devoid of any odor. Moreover, my toilet seat is heated. In winter, it is pleasantly warm. Li Shimin was taken aback. Even defecation has become so refined? Finally, and most importantly, is the matter of healthcare. Chapter 51, The Decision. Li Yu's expression grew serious. The hospitals over there are towering white edifices. Within, there are various machines. One such device, known as a CT scanner, allows a person to lie down without the need for invasive surgery, enabling doctors to examine the heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys with clarity, identifying tumors and blockages effortlessly. There exists a contraption called a ventilator. If one is deprived of breath, it can forcibly deliver oxygen into the lungs, sustaining life. Additionally, there are monitors that display real-time heart rates and blood pressure. Should the heart rate falter, an alarm will sound, prompting doctors to rush in to save a life. When the elder passes, he will be cared for in such a place, where there are attendants available 24 hours a day, far surpassing the meticulousness of the Imperial Medical Office. Upon finishing, a profound silence enveloped the Grand Hall. Li Shimin and Empress Changsun were both processing this information. The descriptions were remarkably specific and vivid, far exceeding their imaginations, while simultaneously constructing a world that was comfortable, secure, and extraordinarily efficient. It was a realm of mortals that even emperors could not relish. The worry in Empress Changsun's eyes dissipated considerably, replaced by a sense of longing. "Erlang," she softly called. Li Shimin took a deep breath, gazing at Li Yu. I have one final question. Is there truly no emperor over there?" "None." Li Yu replied decisively. "There, everyone is equal. You need not kneel even before the highest official. Each person fulfills their role, bound by the law." Li Shimin nodded, his expression complex. "Then if I were to go, would there be no one to attend to me?" "Uncle," Li Yu chuckled, "I shall be there. Besides, we are going to heal, not to parade. Once you shed the dragon robe, you are merely an ordinary wealthy man. Would it not be delightful to experience a few days of a commoner's life, free from memorials, without the need to guard against ministers, and devoid of border worries?" Li Shimin paused for a moment, then burst into laughter. "Excellent. I too wish to savor the taste of being a wealthy man." "Very well. You may take your leave now." Li Shimin waved his hand. "Yes." Li Yu bowed and withdrew. As the palace doors closed, only Li Shimin, Empress Changsun, and the ever-cowering Wang De remained inside. The smile on Li Shimin's face instantly vanished, replaced by an air of utmost seriousness. He turned his gaze, sharp as lightning, towards Wang De. "Wang De, this servant is here." Wang De hurriedly scampered forward, kneeling before the emperor and empress. "You heard the words of the Prince of Yu just now?" Empress Changsun inquired. This servant heard them. "Then speak the truth to me." She leaned forward, fixing her gaze on Wang De's eyes, representing the final bastion of a mother and a wife. "Did you ever speak any falsehoods? Is the toilet, the air conditioning, and the food delivery truly as he described?" Wang De raised his head, his expression solemn, devoid of any flattery, only earnest truth. "Your Highness, Your Majesty. Every word spoken by the Prince of Yu is absolutely true. In fact, the prince was quite conservative. That food delivery, I witnessed it with my own eyes. That night, the prince merely tapped on that small square several times, and before long, several bags of delicious food were delivered. There was fried chicken called KFC, and hot pot from a place named Haidaleo, all piping hot. As for the toilet, Wang De's face flushed slightly, yet he gestured earnestly. This servant has used it. It is truly remarkable. That white porcelain seat is pristine, without a hint of odor. One press, and with a resounding splash, everything disappears. It is faster than magic. Moreover, the seat itself is genuinely warm. When I sat down, I had no desire to move. And the air conditioning. A hint of nostalgia crept onto Wang De's face. In that room, it truly feels like spring all year round. When I arrived, it was somewhat warm outside. But stepping inside was a refreshing coolness that made my bones feel at ease. Upon hearing Wang De's first-hand testimony, Empress Changsun finally felt completely at ease. She glanced at Li Shimin and nodded slightly. However, at that moment, Wang De suddenly prostrated himself, his tone wavering. "Yet, Your Majesty, Your Highness, this servant has a heartfelt sentiment that I am uncertain whether I should express." Li Shimin's gaze sharpened. "Speak. What I desire to hear are the truths concealed within your heart." Wang De took a deep breath and articulated the gravest concern he had unearthed in that world. Although that realm is splendid and comfortable, it harbors two critical vulnerabilities, which are also our greatest challenges upon arrival. "What are they?" Li Shimin pressed on. "First, it is identity," Wang De replied gravely. "Your Highness is correct. The celestial realm is replete with celestial eyes, those omnipresent watchers. As we traverse the streets, every action of ours is scrutinized. Without the small card known as an ID, we would be considered stateless, unable to venture anywhere, not even to find lodging. Thus, when I first arrived, I could only hide in your small chamber or accompany your movements. Wandering aimlessly would risk capture by those iron chariots flashing red and blue lights. Li Shimin nodded. I understand. One must bow one's head when under a roof. Secondly, Wang De continued, swallowing hard and lowering his voice further, it is money. Money? Li Shimin was taken aback. Do you mean that form of scanning? Precisely, Wang De affirmed. In that world, the populace seldom employs gold or silver. They utilize numbers stored within small squares. Your Highness, to procure seeds for His Majesty, sold the tricolor horse to obtain those funds. That realm, while abundant, demands payment for everything, water, food, and medical care costs exorbitantly. I have heard that an ICU can consume tens of thousands of coins in a single night. With our large family in tow, for sustenance and clothing, and to care for the Grand Emperor, though your Highness possesses some savings, I fear you may not withstand the burden. Indeed, life there can be quite frugal. These words pierced like two thorns into the hearts of Li Shimin and Empress Zhongshan. They had not anticipated that their jovial nephew, who so generously presented gifts before them, would need to liquidate treasures and endure such tremendous financial strain to support their family. My dear child truly suffers, Empress Zhongshan lamented, her beautiful eyes glistening with tears. Erlang, we cannot take advantage of his kindness. On this journey, let us bring forth those valuable calligraphies and jades from your private collection, whatever we can carry, even if we must part with them. We cannot allow Yuer to impoverish himself for our sake. Li Shimin nodded solemnly. Indeed, I am wealthy across the seas. Can I permit my nephew to bear the burden alone? Wang De, select the most precious items. Choose those that are compact and easy to carry. Pack them all into boxes. Then, Li Shimin rose, advancing to the window, gazing into the inky night sky, and made a final resolution. Given the strict regulations of that world, upon my arrival, I shall shed this dragon robe and become merely a patient seeking care, the second uncle of Yuer. All actions shall be directed by Yuer. For the sake of my father, for Chengqian, for this family, I shall bow my head once more. What harm can it do? Empress Zhongshan approached him from behind and gently draped a robe over his shoulders. Erlang, wherever you go, I shall accompany you. Chapter 52. The Imperial Sword at the Third Watch, in the Hall of Two Instruments. In the Grand Hall, 5 esteemed ministers of the Tang dynasty, Fang Xinling, Gao Shilian, Changsun Wuji, Cheng Yaojin, and Yu Qigong, stood with expressions of grave concern. The late-night summons hinted at significant matters at hand, and the rumors circulating in the palace over the past few days had instilled a sense of foreboding in their hearts. Zhijia, you are well informed. What calamity has befallen us? Yu Qigong prodded Cheng Yaojin beside him. Cheng Yaojin rolled his eyes, appearing bewildered. How would I know? I've been training troops in the barracks these past days. I haven't even seen the newly appointed Prince of Yu. Though I heard from those literati that he is a dandy, utterly captivating the emperor to the point of neglecting court affairs. Humph. Changsun Wuji interjected with a cold scoff, his brow furrowing deeper. I have not encountered this Prince of Yu either. Yet, upon his entrance to the palace, he was conferred the title of prince and granted residence in the Changtang Hall of the Taiji Palace, a privilege not even bestowed upon the crown prince. His origins are dubious. Gao Shilian stroked his beard, his expression grave. What you say is indeed correct. As the head of the Ministry of Personnel, I have scoured the records of the imperial clan court and found no trace of this Prince of Yu's lineage. How could His Majesty, so wise throughout his reign, be so easily deceived in these recent days? I have heard that the feasting in Changtang Hall has been incessant, and the emperor has even neglected state affairs for his sake. If he is indeed being misled by treacherous individuals, as loyal ministers, we must voice our concerns, even at the cost of our lives. Fang Xinling sighed deeply. Let us hope we are merely overthinking this matter. The 5 exchanged glances. In their minds, Li Yu was merely an upstart, a favored minister who had beguiled the monarch through some insidious means. They were unaware of auspicious omens, the delights of hot pot, or the secrets of time travel. Rooted in Confucian orthodoxy and the preservation of imperial authority, they instinctively harbored resentment and aversion towards Li Yu. At that moment, the emperor made his entrance. Li Shimin strode forth, having changed from his casual attire into formal court robes, his demeanor solemn and commanding. Your Majesty. The 5 ministers bowed in unison. Rise, Li Shimin commanded as he took his seat, his gaze sweeping across their faces. He understood that the forthcoming discourse required careful consideration. My loyal ministers, Li Shimin began directly. The former emperor is gravely ill, and the physicians are at a loss. My heart aches deeply. The ministers were taken aback, indeed. It was this matter. Your Majesty, please accept my condolences, Fang Xinling quickly offered. The former emperor is a man blessed by heaven. Li Shimin interrupted him. I have decided that, in order to pray for the former emperor's recovery and seek remedies, starting tomorrow, I shall suspend court for 3 days. What? The 5 ministers exclaimed in unison. Disregarding their astonishment, Li Shimin continued. I shall retreat with the empress, the crown prince, Prince Wei, and Prince Wu to the Chengtang Hall for 3 days of prayer and fasting. Upon hearing this, although the ministers did not react as fervently as if they were ordered out of the palace, they were still filled with confusion and concern. Your Majesty. Gao Shilian was the first to step forward. As an elder and the uncle of Empress Changsun, his words carried significant weight. While prayer is an expression of filial piety, and as loyal ministers, we should not obstruct it, I must ask, why include all the princes? And why suspend court for 3 days? With the autumn harvest approaching, the affairs of state are exceedingly complex. Indeed, Your Majesty, they echoed in unison. Fang Xinling spoke earnestly, expressing concern for the ailing Emperor Taishan. Your Majesty, fulfilling filial piety is indeed the duty of a son. However, the Qingguang Palace is the residence of the Prince of Yu. It is inappropriate for your majesty to retreat there with your entire family. Moreover, Changsun Wuji, as the brother-in-law of Li Shimin, is utterly unconcerned. He gazed intently at Li Shimin and said, Your Majesty, allow me to speak candidly. Was this notion of seeking blessings proposed by His Highness the Prince of Yu? Li Shimin paused momentarily before nodding. Indeed, Changsun Wuji's heart ignited with fury. Your Majesty, I must raise my voice, for I have never heard of such a figure within the royal family. This person's origins are shrouded in mystery, and his actions are clandestine. Since entering the palace, he has caused upheaval. Now he incites your Majesty to dissolve the court and seeks blessings for both your Majesty and the Crown Prince in that Qingguang Palace. This is a harbinger of national chaos. Your Majesty must not be deceived by such a scoundrel, lest it jeopardize the realm. If the Prince of Yu, under the guise of seeking blessings, engages in treachery, the fate of the Tang dynasty will be perilous. His words were grave, nearly accusing Li Shimin of being a fool and labeling him a tyrant. Even Cheng Yaojin and Wei Qigong furrowed their brows, although they had never encountered Li Yu. The remarks of these two literati led them to believe that the Prince of Yu was not a virtuous character. Your Majesty, I, old Cheng, find this matter precarious, Cheng Yaojin said in a deep voice. If that scoundrel dares to deceive your Majesty, I shall not hesitate to take his head and use it as a ball. Li Shimin regarded the 5 ministers who fervently advised him, feeling both touched and helpless. He was moved by their genuine concern for the Tang dynasty and their willingness to speak frankly, yet he was unable to reveal the truth. He could not disclose that he was on the cusp of traversing time. Thus, he had to wield the authority of an emperor to compel their compliance. Li Shimin rose, slowly descending the steps to stand before the 5 men, his gaze becoming profound and enigmatic. I recognize your loyalty. However, I must assure you that the Prince of Yu is neither a deceiver nor a villain. He is my own nephew, a fact I have verified. Li Shimin lowered his voice, adopting an undeniable tone. Moreover, he does not come empty-handed. He has brought me celestial secrets. Celestial secrets? The 5 were taken aback. Indeed, Li Shimin affirmed, pointing skyward. This quest for blessings serves both to seek divine favor and to acquire extraordinary treasures that will double the strength of the Tang and alleviate the hunger of the populace. This is a fleeting opportunity bestowed upon the Tang by the heavens. I cannot divulge too much, for these secrets must remain concealed. Li Shimin fixed his gaze on Changsun Wuji and Fang Xianling. Do you believe in me? As they met the emperor's steadfast and even fervent eyes. Despite their lingering doubts, the mutual understanding between ruler and subjects over the years made them realize that His Majesty had made up his mind. No force could sway him. Furthermore, as long as they remained within the palace, their safety was assured. I trust your Majesty, Changsun Wuji reluctantly uttered, though the shadow of doubt still lingered in his eyes. In that case, Li Shimin waved his hand decisively, issuing an edict. For the next 3 days, the affairs of state shall be jointly managed by Fang Xianling, Gao Shilian, and Changsun Wuji. Should there be any urgent matters, defer them for 3 days. Cheng Yaojin, Yu Qigong, gather the Imperial Guard and safeguard the Imperial City. No one shall tread even a single step inside. Those who defy this command shall face execution. I entrust the Tang dynasty to you. Having spoken, Li Shimin cast a profound glance at the 5 individuals before turning away, his sleeves sweeping behind him, leaving only a resolute silhouette. Outside the hall, the cold wind howled fiercely. The 5 ministers emerged from the Hall of 2 Instruments, each countenance darker than the nocturnal sky. This is utterly absurd. Gao Shilian fumed, stamping his feet in indignation, his beard quivering with agitation. Is His Majesty possessed? For the sake of a mere young lad. What celestial secrets and divine artifacts? It is clearly the fabrications of that sorcerous rogue. Changsun Wuji gritted his teeth, a flicker of murderous intent gleaming in his eyes. How could His Majesty, so wise throughout his reign, be so muddled over this matter? What shall we do now? Fang Xianling wore a troubled expression. His Majesty's decree is unassailable. We cannot obstruct it. Even if we cannot hinder it, we must attempt to. Changsun Wuji halted, glancing back at the brilliantly lit Hall of Sweet Dew, and spoke coldly. His Majesty is currently in high spirits. Our earnest persuasion is futile. We must wait. Let these 3 days pass. If His Majesty returns with some divine artifact, then all is well. If he returns empty-handed, or if there be any misfortune befalling the retired emperor, a glint of cold light flashed in Changsun Wuji's eyes. At that moment, we shall jointly petition for impeachment. We may even bring forth that most vociferous of advisors. The Prince of Yu must be expelled from the palace, or even eliminated. This is necessary to cleanse the court and restore the proper governance. Cheng Yaojin, listening nearby, instinctively shrank his neck. Goodness, Changsun is truly harboring murderous intentions. The Prince of Yu is bound to meet with disaster. Chapter 53. Li Shimin's PUA technique in the early morning at the Hall of Sweet Dew. The oppressive atmosphere of the past was replaced by a tranquil serenity. Li Shimin stood before an unfurled map of the Tang Empire, scrutinizing the vast expanse with a vermilion brush in hand. Li Yu lounged beside him on a soft couch, peeling an orange with an air of ease, as if the conversation to come was merely a casual affair. Yet, his occasional glances toward the doorway betrayed a sense of anticipation. He awaited the moment when fine steel would be forged into shape, announcing the arrival of Prince Wu. Li Ku. Wang De's voice, sharp and elongated, resonated as Li Ku strode into the hall. Today, Li Ku donned a deep purple royal robe, cinched with a jade belt, exuding a striking presence. However, the caution deeply ingrained in him remained unshakable. As a prince of a previous dynasty's bloodline, he was accustomed to moving through shadows, ever mindful of the need for self-reflection. Even amidst commendable actions, son, I pay my respects to father, and greet my brother, the Prince of Yu. Li Ku performed the customary salute, executing the motions flawlessly, without a hint of error. Sailing, come here. Li Shimin did not turn around, but merely beckoned with a hand, his voice lacking the usual authority, exuding an uncommon warmth. That of a father. Li Ku paused momentarily, then stepped forward, halting 3 paces behind Li Shimin, an appropriate distance for a subject. Come closer. Li Shimin turned to regard his cautious son, a flicker of tenderness in his gaze. Stand beside me. After a moment of hesitation, Li Ku took a step forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with Li Shimin for the first time, close enough to discern the traces marked by the vermilion brush on the map. Behold this realm. Li Shimin pointed at the map, his finger gliding over Guangzhong and Jiangnan, finally pausing at Chang'an. The vast empire appeared as solid as a fortress, yet beneath the surface, currents of unrest swirled. Aristocratic families were watching, the Turks were lurking, and the court was rife with hidden intentions. Li Ku held his breath, uncertain why his father chose to share these thoughts with him. I must embark on a distant journey. Li Shimin suddenly turned his head, his gaze piercing into Li Ku's eyes. Take your elder brother, along with Qin Ke and the queen. We are bound for a faraway place, in search of a remedy, and to secure a future for the Tang. Li Ku's head jerked up, disbelief etched across his face. All of them, the crown prince, the prince of Wei, the legitimate princess, and the queen, all core members, will leave? What will become of Chang'an? What of the Tang's very foundation? His voice trembled. If you and my elder brother depart, then what will happen to Chang'an? Indeed, what of Chang'an? Li Shimin countered, his hands pressing heavily on Li Ku's shoulders. In that moment, Li Ku felt the weight of 2 mountains bearing down upon him, yet it sent shivers through his entire being. Although Gao Ming was the crown prince, his frail constitution and increasingly morose demeanor rendered him incapable of shouldering this great responsibility. Qin Ke, though clever, was too restless and lacked the composure needed to manage those cunning old foxes. Li Shimin's voice resonated deeply, each word striking like a hammer upon Li Ku's very soul. Only you, Ku'er, you resemble me not just in appearance, but within your very essence lies the fortitude I once possessed. You wield the thunderous might and possess a compassionate heart. You understand the nuances of advance and retreat. You grasp the larger picture. Among all the princes, you alone are the one I trust the most, yet also the one I worry about the least. Tears of emotion welled in Li Ku's eyes. For 15 years, he had been attacked by the officials due to his lineage and ostracized by the aristocracy, believing himself to be merely a talented yet morally deficient backup in his father's eyes. Yet today, his father proclaimed him as the one most akin to himself. If there is no prince I trust in Chang'an, I cannot sleep at night. Li Shimin withdrew a dark iron fish talisman from his sleeve, inscribed with the characters for regent. He solemnly placed the talisman into Li Ku's palm, gripping his hand tightly, the cold metal pressing into their flesh. Hold this. From tomorrow onward, I shall publicly declare that I am in seclusion at the Qingguang Hall for 3 days. During this time, you are the regent of the Tang. I entrust you with the 16 guards, the safety of Chang'an, and my very life. This is not merely regency, it is me entrusting my back to you. Li Shimin's eyes brimmed with unreserved trust. Sailing, are you not my Qilin child? Can you protect this door for me and for our family? A wave of immense joy surged through Li Ku, igniting a fervor that made him tremble. The most trusted prince, the Qilin child. His father had entrusted his back to him. What a glorious honor. What profound trust. This was more fervent than the edict of the crown prince. All grievances and doubts vanished in that moment. For this trust, he would gladly shatter himself into pieces. Thud. Li Ku knelt heavily, cradling the fish talisman in his hands, his forehead bowing against the golden bricks, producing a muffled sound. Your son acknowledges the decree. Li Ku's voice trembled with emotion. Father, do not worry. As long as I draw breath, this Chang'an shall remain undisturbed. Whoever dares to stir chaos during your prayer, I shall make them aware that the blade of the Li family remains sharp. I will not tarnish the bloodline of the Li family. Excellent. My good son. Li Shimin bent down to assist him, firmly patting his sturdy shoulder. Go forth. Hold your head high. Let those ministers witness the indomitable spirit of my son. Li Ku wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, his gaze transforming into one of unwavering resolve and sharpness. He bowed deeply to Li Shimin and then to Li Yu, before striding away with purpose. His back no longer bore any hint of hesitation or gloom. As he watched Li Ku depart, the fervent expression on Li Shimin's face gradually softened into a smile of satisfaction. What do you think? He turned to Li Yu. Li Yu spat out an orange seed, his face filled with admiration. Second uncle, your mastery of persuasion is truly unparalleled. Brother Ku likely believes he is the savior of the Tang dynasty, ready to fight the world. Do you not fear he might really unleash havoc upon the aristocracy? He would not dare, Li Shimin scoffed, a glimmer of sharp insight in his eyes. The more he seeks to prove himself, the more he will protect the stability of the Tang. For these 3 days, the peace of Chang'an will undoubtedly improve. Li Shimin then huffed disdainfully. If he does not envision a grand future, how would he dare to offend those old foxes of the aristocracy? Wangda, at your service. Proclaim the edict. For 3 days, I shall pray for the former emperor, and Wang Liku shall govern in my stead. Summon concubine Wei into the palace to oversee the inner court affairs, and seal off the Qingguang Hall. Furthermore, Li Shimin paused, a hint of amusement flickering in his eyes. Go to the East Palace and Wei Wang's residence. Summon the Crown Prince and Wei Wang to the Dan Palace for an audience. Remind them that the former emperor will only meet with those of humble attire. They must shed their dragon robes and don the simplest of garments. I understand, Wangda replied, bowing as he retreated, silently lighting a candle for the 2 princes in his heart. Crash! A vase shattered on the ground, scattering fragments that grazed the face of a kneeling young eunuch, who dared not make a sound. Li Chengxian sat in his wheelchair, his chest heaving violently, his once handsome face now contorted in anguish. Governing in place of the third prince? Li Chengxian gripped the pruning shears tightly, his knuckles turning white from the strain. I am the crown prince. I am the heir of the Tang dynasty. During father's prayer, it is I who should govern. Why grant that position to a remnant of the previous dynasty? Why? Just 15 minutes prior, a young eunuch sent by Wang De had delivered that thunderous decree. Li Chengxian's mind was now a chaotic whirlwind. His leg ailment had long been the greatest thorn in his heart, making him sensitive, suspicious, and irritable. Today, this thorn had been ruthlessly extracted by Li Shimin, leaving a trail of blood and flesh. Your Highness, please temper your rage, a trusted eunuch trembled. Perhaps it is only due to your leg's inconvenience that His Majesty is being considerate. Considerate my foot, Li Chengxian roared, driving the shears forcefully into the Zetonwood table before him, embedding them deep. Being considerate of me will only allow the third to claim that position. This is a test. This is a precursor to my deposition. Father is signaling to the entire court that I, the crown prince, am to be discarded. I am deemed unworthy. The Tang is about to undergo a transformation. As Li Chengxian spiraled into a delusional frenzy, a sharp voice from the eunuch outside pierced through his tumultuous thoughts. The emperor has issued an edict summoning His Royal Highness, the crown prince, to the Great Palace to meet with the Grand Emperor. Li Chengxian abruptly lifted his head, a glimmer of hope flashing in his eyes. To meet with grandfather? Could it be that father intends to clarify matters before him? However, the eunuch's next proclamation plunged him into the depths of despair. His Majesty decrees. The Grand Emperor longs for familial connection and does not wish to see the grandeur of the imperial family. Therefore, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is to remove his dragon robe and jade belt, donning coarse hemp garments to fulfill the duty of filial piety. Li Chengxian felt the world around him dim, a buzzing echoing in his ears. Chapter 54. Let His Majesty address the Crown Prince. Coarse hemp garments? In the Tang dynasty, who wears such attire? Commoners. Criminals. What does this signify? This is an affront to strip me of my princely robes. This is to stand before the Grand Emperor, before my ancestors, and to have my dignity torn away. Ha ha. Suddenly, Li Chengxian erupted into laughter, a chilling and dry sound, tears streaming down his face in a frenzy. Ah, splendid. He gazed at his disabled leg, his eyes filled with the hollow silence of despair. So this is the plan laid for me. First, to elevate the third prince as regent, to create a spectacle, and then to lure me to the Great Palace, stripping me of my attire, reducing me to a commoner. Such a well-executed combination of tactics. Father, you are truly ruthless. Your Highness. The loyal Chengxian rushed forward in fear, clutching Li Chengxian's leg. Please, do not act this way. Perhaps it is not as you perceive. Perhaps it is truly for the sake of filial piety. Filial piety? Li Chengxian forcefully pushed Chengxian away, his gaze terrifyingly vacant. What kind of filial piety requires one to appear as a beggar before his grandfather? This is a deposition. This is humiliation. He is poised to personally slay his own son. With trembling hands, Li Chengxian slowly grasped the scissors from the table. In that moment, he even contemplated plunging them into his own neck, yet he lacked the courage. Changing clothes, Li Chengxian closed his eyes, two streams of tears cascading down his cheeks. His voice gravelly. Bring me the most tattered hemp garments. I shall go. I must see if Li Shimin truly possesses a heart of stone. Intent on forcing the death of his legitimate heir before the Grand Emperor, in stark contrast to the chaos within the Eastern Palace. The atmosphere at the Wei Wangfu was eerily charged with excitement. Li Tai's massive form moved agilely within the study, clutching the recently transcribed edict. The glimmer of shrewdness sparkled in his small eyes. You all may leave. Li Tai dismissed those around him, retaining only his trusted advisors. Gentlemen, what is your interpretation? Li Tai gestured towards the edict. The third prince is to be regent, yet father summons me to don coarse garments for the Great Palace. What profound meaning lies within this? The advisor pondered for a moment, stroking his beard. Your Highness, this is an auspicious sign. Oh, speak quickly. Li Tai rubbed his hands in anticipation. Your Highness, consider this. It is widely known that the crown prince suffers from a leg ailment and has lost the emperor's favor. Now, His Majesty seeks blessings, yet appoints the Prince of Wu as regent. It appears to be an act of elevation, but in reality, it places the Prince of Wu on a precarious precipice. The Prince of Wu, with his dubious lineage, once appointed as regent, will inevitably face resistance from the noble families and incite public ire. This is the emperor utilizing the Prince of Wu as a whetstone to pave the way for you. Li Tai nodded vigorously in agreement. Quite reasonable. Quite reasonable. Then what of this journey in coarse garments? Ah, this is even more exquisite. With a resounding slap on the thigh, the advisor exclaimed, Emperor Wen of Han once donned simple cloth attire, a testament to his timeless virtue. The retired emperor, hailing from the Guangzhou region, cherishes old ties and detests extravagance. Your Majesty's command for you to wear humble garments before the retired emperor is a test of your character. It subtly suggests that only by embracing poverty can one firmly secure the throne. This is a nurturing of you as the heir apparent. An epiphany struck Li Tai, causing his plump body to tremble with excitement, his face radiating blissful realization. So that's how it is. The third brother serves as a shield, attracting fire. The eldest is a sacrificial piece, destined to be discarded, and I, Li Tai, am the true heir destined for the core examination. Wear humble attire? That is an honor. It embodies my father's highest expectations of my virtue. Quickly, fetch me some clothes. Li Tai bellowed, only to wave his hand dismissively no. What is brought must not appear insincere. He strode heavily into the inner chamber, rummaging through to find a coarse linen garment worn by servants. Displeased by its lack of tattered appearance, he seized a pair of scissors and, with a swift snip, cut a large hole in the sleeve. And patches. Yes, it needs patches. Like a clumsy tailor, Li Tai awkwardly cut a piece from another ragged cloth and haphazardly stitched it onto the linen shirt. The uneven stitches were grotesque. Yet to Li Tai's eyes, it was his ceremonial robe leading to the throne. Standing before a bronze mirror, he gazed at the reflection of a plump figure resembling a refugee, satisfied as he patted his belly, donning a smile that conveyed mastery over his fate. Oh, elder brother. Are you still weeping over appearances? Unbeknownst to you, this realm is already within my grasp. Ha! In the Dan Palace, a scar upon the city of Chang'an. The atmosphere was dark and damp, permeated by the potent scent of traditional Chinese medicine mixed with a vague aura of decay. Li Shimin had changed into a simple round-collared robe, seated by the bedside, tending to the frail elder with water. Li Yuan lay upon the bed, his consciousness slightly hazy. His murky eyes half open, mumbling, I crave meat. Empress Changsun cradled the young prince, Li Mingda, on a nearby stool. The young prince appeared feverish, his cheeks flushed. Nestled against his mother's bosom, drowsy with heavy breaths. Prince Yu, Li Yu, leaned against a pillar, idly toying with a powerful flashlight brought from 2025. His gaze playfully fixed on the doorway. With a creak, the heavy palace door swung open. Two figures emerged, one before the other. On the left was Crown Prince Li Changqian, seated in a wheelchair, clad in grayish-white coarse linen, with several deliberately cut holes adorning his attire, his hair disheveled, and his face ashen. He exuded an aura of bitterness, as if he were already deceased, awaiting offerings. On the right stood Prince Wei, Li Tai, dressed in casual attire. The newly sewn patches on his sleeves and knees serving as the utmost mockery of pretense. Yet, his face glowed with vitality, his small eyes darting about. A smile struggling to contain itself at the corners of his mouth, resembling a beggar who had just pilfered a chicken. Your son pays his respects to the retired emperor, to the father, to the mother, and greets Prince Yu. Their voices overlapped, one filled with sorrow, the other brimming with joy. Li Shimin's expression darkened instantaneously, akin to a charred pot bottom. He took a deep breath, suppressing the urge to expel these two embarrassing figures, and spoke coldly. Everyone has arrived. Please take a seat. This command ignited a fire within Li Changqian. He lifted his head, his bloodshot eyes locking onto Li Shimin, his voice hoarse and anguished. Father, I shall not sit. My legs are crippled. What difference is there between sitting and kneeling? Since you have dressed me this way, it is likely you do not wish for me to tarnish the chair of the Great Palace, correct? Li Shimin furrowed his brow. Gao Ming. What nonsense are you spouting? Nonsense. I speak no falsehood. Li Changqian erupted, striking his legs vehemently, his voice a desperate roar. The third brother is regent. Regenting. That is the privilege of the heir apparent. You have granted it to him. And what of me? Deceived and brought here, dressed like a beggar. What is this about? Are you planning to conduct an act of deposition before the emperor? Very well. Depose me. My legs are already useless. And this role of crown prince is a disgrace. But before the decree of deposition is issued, I beseech your majesty to acknowledge me as the crown prince. I am the legitimate son of the Tang dynasty, recognized by the ancestral temple as the heir apparent. This is my final shred of dignity. This barrage of words startled Li Tai, who stood beside him, but he quickly regained his composure. Eldest brother has lost his senses. He has self-destructed. An opportunity has arisen. Li Tai dropped to his knees with a thud, the patches on his knees glaringly conspicuous. He puffed out his chest, exuding righteous indignation, though it appeared rather comical on his plump face. Eldest brother, how dare you defy our father? Father has dressed us in plain cloth to remind us of our hardships. Though this patchwork is unsightly, it is a manifestation of my filial piety. Your narrow-mindedness and wild speculation of the emperor's intentions are precisely why father has appointed our third brother as regent, to temper your disposition. Look at me, in this attire. I feel only honor. Silence. Li Changqian shouted, pointing at Li Tai in fury. You fat fool. What are you pretending for? You are but an actor. Dream on if you think you can step over my corpse to ascend. I am the virtuous king. Li Tai cast aside his pretense, raising his voice. You are merely envious. You are a deceiver. You are useless. Their quarrel escalated, voices echoing throughout the vast hall, a cacophony of sound and spittle flying. Suddenly, a child's cry pierced through the tumult, shattering the chaotic scene. The little one, nestled in Empress Changsuan's arms, was startled awake, her small face pale, eyes brimming with tears. Trembling in her mother's embrace, clutching the hem of the empress's garment. I am afraid of the brothers' quarrel. Wu, I am scared. This cry struck deep into the hearts of all present. The voices of Li Changqian and Li Tai came to an abrupt halt. Li Shimin sprang to his feet, fury blazing in his eyes, ready to erupt, when a brilliant white light suddenly illuminated the room. It was the powerful flashlight in Li Yu's hand. Activated to its strobe mode, a dazzling, blinding column of light erupted in the hall without warning, its intensity striking the ground between Li Changqian and Li Tai. The fierce reflection rendered their eyes instantly blind. Ah, my eyes! Li Tai screamed in despair, rolling backward. Li Changqian was also petrified, his body stiffened by the overwhelming radiance that emanated from the light. It was not of this earthly realm. The great hall fell into an eerie silence, punctuated only by the soft sobs of the little child. Li Yu extinguished his flashlight and strode to the center of the hall, casting a cold gaze upon the two princes who had, in an instant, been reduced to quaking quail. Have you finished your commotion? Chapter 55. Preparing to depart, Li Yu's voice resonated with strength. He approached Empress Changsun, retrieving a lollipop from his pocket, unwrapping it, and placing it into the little child's mouth. There, don't cry. Your brother will teach them a lesson. The child, savoring the sweetness, blinked her tear-filled eyes, her sobs gradually subsiding. Having soothed his younger sister, Li Yu turned, inhaling deeply as he surveyed the bewildered expressions on Li Chengqian and Li Tai, as well as the astonished looks of Li Yuan and Li Shimin. Marvelous, truly marvelous. Li Yu clapped his hands. One suffers from acute paranoia, convinced the entire world seeks to harm him. The other, afflicted with overinterpretation syndrome, mistaking a patch for a dragon robe. Cousin, your educational standards truly require enhancement. Simultaneously, Li Chengqian and Li Tai directed incredulous gazes at Li Yu, astounded by his audacious remarks. Li Yu sighed, crouching down to meet Li Chengqian's bloodshot eyes. Astounding. If your imaginative prowess were harnessed for novel writing, you would undoubtedly achieve greatness. He then turned to Li Tai, tugging at the unfortunate patch. And you, Qingke, is the thread on this patch still fresh? Do you believe third brother is merely a shield? Do you think you are the destined one? Wake up. The night has yet to fall. But what is the purpose then? Li Chengqian was momentarily stunned, tears still glistening on his cheeks, rendering him both ridiculous and pitiable. Li Tai, equally perplexed, queried, isn't it a test of virtue? Because the place we are heading to is beyond third brother's reach. Li Yu rose, his voice suddenly becoming stern and resonant. The destination we are bound for does not require the princely authority of the crown prince, nor the false pretense of a virtuous king. It only necessitates the identities of patients and their families. What? Li Yu spread his arms wide, revealing a smile of resignation and understanding, the kind that emanated confidence from 2025. Let me reintroduce myself. I am Li Yu, neither a descendant of the Prince of Yu nor the posthumous son of the Prince of Wei. He pointed at Li Shimin, then at Li Chengqian and Li Tai, and finally at himself. I am a direct descendant of your Li family, 1400 years hence. What? Li Tai's eyes bulged like copper bells, his mind short-circuited by the revelation of 14 centuries. Li Chengqian, too, forgot his tears, gazing blankly at Li Yu as though he were a madman. Even Li Yuan, who lay in bed, struggled to sit up, his cloudy old eyes wide with disbelief. Grandson? Indeed. At this moment, Li Yu no longer concealed his essence. A profound transformation enveloped him as he produced several items from his attire, revealing each in turn. Astounding. Did you think I was a divine physician? Incorrect. He held forth a box of amoxicillin. This is an antibiotic, a medication that will only emerge a millennium later. Your leg, in my era, will be treated, preparing you to frolic freely in the future. Li Chengqian's mouth hung open in a Na shape, large enough to accommodate a light bulb. Qingke, do you not have an affinity for auspicious signs? This potato, which hails from the Americas, could not even be transported to the Great Tang Dynasty. It yields thousands of pounds per acre. In my era, it was primarily used to feed pigs, or rather, to make fries. And as for His Majesty, Li Yu turned to Li Yuan. The lamb you desire is known there as hot pot. Over there, winter is filled with warmth, and summer is graced with air conditioning. Whatever you wish for is at your disposal. That is not a celestial realm, but a glimpse into the future. The future, Li Yuan murmured, a remarkable sparkle igniting in his murky eyes. Is the Great Tang still thriving? The Great Tang exists in history books and in the hearts of the people. It will endure forever, Li Yu cleverly replied. After elucidating all of this, Li Yu's demeanor suddenly shifted to one of utmost seriousness. All right, the time for enlightenment has concluded. Now, let us address the matter at hand. He produced a document titled Time and Space Travel Notification. Your uncle has consented. This journey to the future for your entire family is intended for healing and broadening your horizons. However, Li Yu's gaze swept across each individual present, his tone hardening. Akin to a commander poised to lead his troops, the rules of that world are entirely distinct from those here. There is no emperor there. Taking a life demands retribution, and expect fines for spitting in public. To ensure your safe return, and to prevent you from being mistaken for the mentally ill, we must establish some regulations. He extended one finger. First, absolute command authority. Li Yu pointed to himself, his gaze fixed on Li Shimin. In that realm, I am no longer your nephew, but the captain. Regardless of whether you are the retired emperor, the reigning emperor, or the crown prince and the king of Wei, you must unconditionally obey my directives. When I say sit, you shall sit. When I say be silent, you shall be silent. Can this be accomplished? Li Chengqian and Li Tai were left speechless, incredulous that their father would heed his commands. They instinctively glanced at Li Shimin, expecting him to erupt in fury. However, their expectations were shattered by Li Shimin's response. This emperor of renown showed no signs of hesitation. He glanced at the little child in his arms, indulging in candy, and then at his ailing father. His resolve unwavering. I shall comply. Li Shimin turned, his gaze sharp as a blade as it swept over Li Chengqian and Li Tai, his voice ringing with authority. Did you not hear? Yuer knows that world best. He is doing this to save our lives. If anyone dares to flaunt their princely airs and disobey Yuer's commands, they need not worry about the authorities. I shall personally break their legs. Do you understand? Yes, we understand. Li Chengqian and Li Tai trembled in fear, nodding repeatedly. With their father's approval, they dared not rebel. Li Yu nodded in satisfaction, extending a second finger. Secondly, you must suppress your curiosity. In that world, you will witness iron boxes that run faster than horses, cars, iron cages that carry people, elevators. And you will see ladies dressed scantily. At this point, Li Yu cast a pointed glare at Li Tai. Especially you, little fat sparrow. That is their freedom of attire. Do not drool, and certainly do not point fingers. Otherwise, you will be apprehended for indecency, and I shall not be able to extricate you. Li Tai shrank back, muttering softly, I am well versed in the spring and autumn annals. Knowledge is of no avail. The laws of that place do not recognize the sacred texts. Thirdly, and most importantly, Li Yu approached Li Chengqian, crouching down to meet his tear-streaked gaze. Xiangming, once you are there, Do not regard yourself as a useless individual. Your legs can be healed, provided you are willing to endure the hardships of rehabilitation. However, do not consider yourself a prince. There? You are merely a young man in need of medical attention. Can you set aside your pride? Li Chengqian, gazing into Li Yu's sincere eyes, felt a warm surge within him. I can. He nodded earnestly, his voice choked with emotion. As long as my legs can be healed, I will do whatever it takes. Brother Yu Wang, I will heed your words. Excellent. Li Yu rose, placing the notification letter on the table. Since we have all agreed, let us proceed to sign. Li Shimin stepped forward first, unhesitatingly inscribing his name on the document. Empress Changsun, cradling the little prince, signed tenderly, while Li Yuan pressed his handprint with Li Yu's assistance. When it was Li Chengqian and Li Tai's turn, they exchanged glances, each perceiving the other's fear of the unknown, yet also a sense of exhilaration. Once the signatures were complete, Li Yu secured the agreement and glanced at his phone for the time. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced. Standing in the center of the grand hall, the shadowy palace looming behind him, and before him stood the most esteemed yet obedient members of the Tang dynasty. Take a deep breath and calm your minds. Have you all packed your belongings? Regardless of the gold, silver, or jewels you may possess, ensure they are well concealed. In that realm, while gold may hold value, it is considered contraband. Lastly, Li Yu said, a confident smile gracing his lips as he switched on the flashlight. The beam illuminating the central space of the hall. Are you ready? We are about to embark on our journey to a new world. The winds of Dawn Palace continued to blow, but this time, there was an air of the future mingling with it. Everyone held their breath, fixated on the direction of Li Yu's finger, awaiting the fabled celestial gate to open. Meanwhile, in Ganlu Hall, the oblivious Li Ke clutched the fish token tightly. His eyes reddened as he stared at the map, preparing to commence his regency as entrusted by the emperor. Father, rest assured, your son will not fail in his duty. Chapter 56. First impressions of Xi'an. At 10 in the morning in Weiyang district of Xi'an, the morning sunlight was a golden sword, piercing through the thin gauze curtain of Li Yu's rented room without restraint. True to his reputation as a conqueror, Li Shimin stumbled upon arrival, yet instinctively assumed a defensive posture. His right hand instinctively reached for his waist, only to find it empty. The sword he bore before the transition had long been confiscated by Li Yu. Calm down, uncle. We have arrived. Li Yu's languid voice floated in as he bent down to place the flashlight, which had proven invaluable, upon a white wooden cabinet. Breathless, Li Shimin took in his surroundings. The room was peculiar. The walls were an unnatural shade of white, devoid of any signs of paint or wallpaper seams. As if carved from a single piece of white jade. The ceiling was devoid of beams, smooth as a mirror, with a circular object emitting white light at its center, illuminating every corner of the room without the flicker of flames. Where's this? The retired emperor, Li Yuan, was reclining in a soft, gray object, utterly relaxed. Li Yuan reached out to grasp the armrest of the sofa. Its exterior was coarse like hemp, yet the interior was as soft as clouds. Could it be filled with the silks from the heavenly silkworms bestowed by the western regions? Erlang, this celestial abode boasts such opulent seating. At this moment, however, the true shock came from the balcony. Wei Wang Li Tai, seeking fresh air, stumbled towards the balcony. It was a grand floor-to-ceiling sliding door. Li Tai rushed to the railing and peered down. A chilling scream shattered the morning tranquility. Li Tai, like a bouncing ball of flesh, recoiled. His face ashen, collapsing onto the ground while incoherently pointing outside. It's a drop. A daily pitfall. We are in the sky. What nonsense. Li Shimin frowned, mustering the regal authority to stride over. He grasped the cold metal railing and leaned out to take a look. Just one glance sent shivers down his spine, his legs feeling as if weighed down by lead. Was this a precipice? Below him lay an abyss. The things moving on the ground appeared as tiny as ants and beetles. Was this a 100-foot cliff? Li Shimin clutched the railing tightly, his knuckles turning white. Where? Have you built our home atop a sheer cliff? If an earthquake were to strike, we would be utterly obliterated? Moreover, Li Shimin lifted his gaze to the horizon. Those towering columns piercing the clouds. Were they celestial towers? In the sunlight, the glass-clad buildings shimmered with a blue-white radiance, ascending into the heavens. Such heights and density left Li Shimin astounded. From such an elevation, one could oversee the entire city, if archers were positioned above. Could they not rain arrows down upon all of Chang'an? Yet these walls gleamed as smooth as crystal. How could they withstand a catapult's assault? No. Was it truly this high? Were they not afraid of lightning strikes? Second uncle, those are office buildings, places where laborers toil, Li Yu explained, handing him a bottle of mineral water. Fear not. These structures are robust, made of reinforced concrete. Lightning cannot harm them. Meanwhile, Empress Changsun, holding little Zizi, stood at the bathroom door, her face filled with dread, for the curious child had just pressed the toilet flush button. With a whoosh, the siphonic toilet emitted a sound. Water swirling away and disappearing, only to reappear from an unknown source, filling the basin anew. Empress Changsun instinctively shielded little Zizi behind her. That jade basin is drinking water, and it's swirling. Though Li Tai was portly, his intellect was sharp. He leaned closer, staring at the toilet for a long while, then suddenly enlightened. Mother, do not fear. This must be some form of hydraulic mechanism. I have read about the art of the thirsty crow in ancient texts. This jade basin utilizes the height difference of the water to create a vortex, yet this water is so clear. Could it be used for? Li Tai sniffed, detecting no foul odor, but rather a fragrant scent. Used for relieving oneself. Li Tai's worldview shattered. Such a pristine, lustrous object, more exquisite than his father's imperial tea bowl, was merely a chamber pot, and it consumed such copious amounts of clean water with each use. This was an egregious waste. His brother, the Prince of Yu, must be a spendthrift. After calming the group of startled, curious children, Li Yu gestured for everyone to sit down, then took out his phone. As the black glass screen illuminated, Li Chengqian recoiled slightly. Brother Yu, is this a sentient heart-protecting mirror? Li Yu disregarded him and skillfully opened an app to search for hospitals. Second uncle, look. Li Yu pointed at the phone screen, exclaiming that this esteemed physician and appointment platform resembled the detailed roster of the Tai Bureau from our Tang dynasty, but with greater specificity. It meticulously outlined each doctor's specialties, their successful treatments, and public evaluations, all clearly documented. Li Shimin leaned in closer, scrutinizing the densely packed text and images on the screen. Is it true that all healers are included in this network? Can the populace freely critique their medical skills? This is utterly unprecedented. If only we could assess officials in such a manner. Their target was the Xi'an Western International Medical Center, VIP department. Keywords for evaluation included top-notch equipment, excellent service, costly, and no queues. Li Yu promptly dialed the 400 VIP hotline, placing the phone on the table in speaker mode. Hello. This is the Western International Medical Center. How may I assist you? A gentle and clear female voice resonated from the other end. Li Shimin suddenly stood up, looking around in bewilderment. Who? Who is speaking? Is there someone in that iron box? Li Yuan, equally startled, clutched a cushion to his chest. What sorcery is this? Has someone ensnared souls within? Li Yu gestured for silence and addressed the phone. I would like to reserve 2 VIP suites. We have 6 patients, all with complex ailments. Money is no object. We require the finest specialists. Certainly, sir. May I inquire about the specific symptoms? One elderly gentleman with hypertension and signs of a cerebral infarction. A middle-aged man with manic episodes and hypertension, a man with osteomyelitis, an overweight individual with multiple metabolic syndromes, another suffering from asthma, and one with low immunity. The customer service representative on the line was visibly taken aback by this combination, but maintained her composure, showcasing her professionalism. Understood. I have arranged a green channel for you. May I have your name? Li. After hanging up, Li Shimin pointed at the phone, his fingers trembling. Where? What on earth is this? How can it convey human voices? And that lady seemed unfazed by the patient's conditions? What sort of establishment is this hospital? Uncle, this is a telephone, a device for transmitting sound over long distances. The person on the other end is customer service, dedicated to assisting individuals. As for the hospital, it is akin to a grander Tai Bureau, but 1,000 times more formidable. Once the hospital arrangements were secured, Li Yu opened the car-hailing app. With 7 of us, hailing a cab is too cumbersome. We must purchase a vehicle. After surveying the options, his gaze fixed upon the BYD Tang DMP 7-seater. It was not only due to its performance, but also for its name. He immediately dialed the nearest dealership. Hello, is this the BYD Dynasty dealership? I wish to acquire the latest model, the Tang LDMP 7-seater, fully equipped, in black. I need it immediately. Please don't mention any procedures. I am currently at the Lanchi Garden residential area. Just bring the vehicle over along with the contract and POS machine. I will not negotiate the price and will additionally offer you a bonus of 10,000 yuan for the delivery. Arrive within half an hour, and this money is yours. The salesperson on the other end was evidently taken aback by this extravagant request. Are you serious? I do have a vehicle in stock. It just arrived. I am not jesting. The timer has begun. After ending the call, Li Yu smiled at the astonished group. All set. Our chariot shall arrive shortly. Chapter 57. This Tang is not that Tang. Li Chengqian observed Li Yu's fluid maneuvers, contemplating. Is Prince Yu issuing commands to the iron box, with everyone dutifully complying? Could this iron box be a military token, or perhaps a device for controlling spirits? And what of the BYD, which sounds like a merchant from the western regions? It can deliver fine steeds in just half an hour? What a vast stable that must be. 20 minutes later, Li Yu descended with 6 individuals clad in ancient attire. At the entrance of the community, a gleaming black behemoth stood quietly. The latest BYD Tang LDM, with its streamlined body glistening in the sunlight like obsidian, boasted a formidable front face that exuded both majesty and aggression. Salesman Xiao Wang excitedly approached with a POS machine. Brother, the car has arrived. Top configuration. Just delivered last night. Without hesitation, Li Yu swiped his card, completed the transaction, and received the keys. As he pressed the unlock button, the mirrors unfolded with a chirp, and the continuous tail lights illuminated, resembling a mighty dragon awakening with crimson eyes. Wow. Little Sitsi pointed at the front of the car. It's lit up. The great beast has awakened. However, Li Shimin was oblivious to his daughter's exclamation. He stood transfixed, as if under a spell, staring at the emblem at the center of the front. In an era filled with foreign symbols, there, boldly engraved in the middle, was a robust and elegant Chinese character, Tang. The sunlight cascaded over this character, reflecting a dazzling brilliance. Li Shimin extended his hand, gently caressing the cold and firm emblem, akin to touching the imperial jade seal. He murmured, "This is my imperial title. Why? Why is it emblazoned on the forehead of this steel behemoth? It must be a divine beast forged by my descendants to commemorate the great Tang. This is not merely a vehicle. It embodies the soul of the Tang dynasty. It seems my Tang still commands great renown in later generations. Even steel must bow to the character Tang." Uncle, Li Yu approached, patting the engine hood. In this era, Tang represents strength, speed, and the confidence of Eastern civilization. This car is the pride of our nation, named Tang because it aspires to be the sovereign of the world, much like the Tang dynasty. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Li Shimin exclaimed thrice, smiting his thigh. My Tang has transformed into this steel giant, still galloping forth. I shall claim this vehicle. It was meant for our family all along. Li Yu opened the car door, and the aroma of genuine leather wafted in. Get in. Li Yuan swiftly occupied the front passenger seat. When Li Yu adjusted the electric seat and activated the massage function, the former emperor jumped in surprise. Ouch! There's a hand kneading my waist. Li Yuan turned back in alarm. Your Majesty, this is a mechanism designed to serve you, Li Yu clarified. Oh, a mechanism. Li Yuan cautiously shifted his body. How delightful. The pressure is far superior to that of Wang Deqiang, and this leather is incredibly soft. 100 times more comfortable than my imperial carriage. What kind of beast hide is this? Artificial leather. Oh no, it's the skin of a divine beast, Li Yu whimsically replied. Li Tai squeezed into the third row but paid no heed to the discomfort. He leaned forward, fixated on the large rotating screen in the center console. Is this a living map? Li Tai exclaimed. Brother Yuan, look. The road above is moving. This is 1,000 times more intricate than the Ministry of War's confidential maps. With this, wouldn't our military operations be akin to having a divine eye? Li Yu activated the vehicle. In pure electric mode, the car was as silent as a ghost. With a press of the accelerator, an overwhelming thrust pressed him firmly into his seat. Ah! Li Chengxian gasped, gripping the overhead handle tightly, his face drained of color. Slow down, Brother Yuan. This iron box is about to take flight. It's faster than a startled horse. Li Shimin, however, wore an expression of exhilaration, clutching the door handle tightly, watching the rapidly retreating scenery outside. Quick, so fast. This is swifter than the steed I rode in my youth. And it's so stable, as if walking on level ground. The vehicle glided onto the broad asphalt roads of Xi'an. Li Shimin pointed at the ground. You err, this surface is as dark as ink, smooth as a mirror. And not a single seam in sight. What stone is this paved with? How many laborers were required for such an endeavor? Qin Shi Huang's construction of the straight roads cost tens of thousands of lives. Building this kind of road must have claimed millions. Li Yu chuckled. Uncle, this is called asphalt, a residue from petroleum. There are specialized paving machines that can lay dozens of miles a day without any casualties. Everyone is eager to participate because they are paid. Paid. Li Shimin was astonished. Such a monumental project, and it wasn't forced labor? How could the national treasury sustain this? Because the treasury is affluent, replied Li Yu. The vehicle halted at a traffic light. Li Chengxian observed the countdown of the red light above him, then glanced at the orderly stream of cars, deep in thought. Brother Yuan, that glowing eye turns red. And all the iron beasts must stop. When it turns green, everyone dares to proceed. The authority of this divine eye is immense. Li Yu responded. That is called a traffic signal, not a deity. It is a rule. In this era, the greatest deity is the law. Whoever runs a red light incurs a fine. A fine. Li Tai interjected. No corporal punishment? Monetary penalties are more disheartening than corporal punishment. Little Zizi was hungry. Li Yu retrieved a pack of Oreos and a bottle of yogurt, purchased at the entrance of the community. Little Zizi took a bite of the black cookie. Wow. Sweet. So sweet. Sweeter than rock candy. Empress Changsun tasted the yogurt, and her eyes lit up. Is this curd? Yet it is even more delicate and tangy than the curd in the palace. Furthermore, this bottle is as light as a feather, transparent as ice, yet it has elasticity. What a treasure is this? This is plastic, Li Yu explained, a substance quite difficult to decompose. The vehicle entered the commercial district. It was summer, and the heat was stifling. On the streets, young women donned shorts and skirts, along with crop tops and tank tops, radiating youthful exuberance as they walked with their long, fair legs shimmering in the sunlight, dazzling the eyes of onlookers. Silence enveloped the vehicle. Empress Changsun immediately covered little Zizi's eyes, her face flushed with embarrassment, whispering, such indecency must not be seen. What is the world coming to? Have these women suffered such misfortune that they cannot afford proper attire? Li Tai gazed in disbelief, his eyes nearly popping out of their sockets, his mouth agape, drool trickling down to his chin, murmuring to himself against the car window, this is utterly disgraceful. Yet those legs are so fair. They are bolder than the courtesans. Whose daughters are these? Li Chengxian, his face flushed, lowered his head, unable to meet the gaze of others, yet could not resist stealing glances through his fingers, his heart racing. How outrageous. How preposterous. Li Shimin pointed angrily at a girl outside the window dressed in a back-revealing outfit, his hand trembling with indignation, under the vast heavens. How can she be so scantily clad? What kind of decorum is this? Do women of this era possess no sense of shame? Do their fathers and brothers not care? If this were in the Tang dynasty, I would surely punish them for their disrespect. I would have them all apprehended and given a sound thrashing. Li Yu, seated at the driver's seat, chuckled helplessly, having anticipated such a reaction. Uncle, temper your anger. This is what they call freedom of dress. In this age, women hold up half the sky. They earn their own money and spend it as they please. If they choose to bare their arms and legs, it is both refreshing and fashionable. He continued, pointing at the girls. And do you see any signs of timidity or seeking approval on their faces? Li Shimin was taken aback. He had to admit that although these women were scantily clad, their confidence and spirited demeanor, walking tall with heads held high, were qualities rarely seen among many women of the Tang dynasty. They exuded vitality, their eyes bright. Even daring to meet the gazes of passers-by, Li Shimin was speechless. Though lacking in modesty, they possessed a certain spirit reminiscent of the grandeur of the Tang. As they passed a Huawei authorized experience store, Li Yu parked the car. Let us go in and buy a treasure. Chapter 58. Diagnosis. Upon entering the store, the staff, mistaking this group of ancient garbed figures for a team of internet celebrities, greeted them with enthusiasm. Li Yu waved his hand grandly. Bring me 6 mate 80 RS Extraordinary Masters, in red, yes, the most expensive ones. When Li Shimin held the red ceramic phone, he marveled at its smoothness and considerable weight. Is this made of red jade? He gasped, astonished by its flawless surface and exquisite craftsmanship, akin to divine artistry. Back in the car, Liu began his tutorial. This device is called a phone. Though it cannot make calls without the internet, it can take photos and videos. Look, press this circle. He snapped a picture of Li Tai. Li Tai, gazing at the screen, was horrified to see his own face in such detail. Every pore visible. Even the remnants of vegetables stuck between his teeth. He screamed in terror, nearly tossing the phone away. My soul has been sucked in. Brother Yu Wang, you have doomed me. This iron box contains a soul-snatching trap. I am no longer whole. Li Chengxian turned pale, clutching his chest in fear. Terrified that his own soul might be drawn away. Ha! Liu could not contain his laughter, glancing at Li Shimin. Uncle, do you remember? When I first traveled here and took a photo of Ant, your reaction was identical to that of Qingke. You drew your sword to strike me, claiming I was an evil sorcerer out to steal the Empress's soul, and threatened to douse me with Black Dog's blood. Li Shimin's face reddened to the color of liver. Being publicly embarrassed in front of the children was quite a blow to